Drifting in unconsciousness, he heard someone calling his name and slowly opened his eyes. But what he saw was unbelievable. He'd been reborn, back in his teenage years. Before this, Song Yoon was humanity's greatest warrior, the wielder of an Astral General. For decades, he alone had carried the weight of all mankind, who were left cowering and struggling to survive within their citadels. But the inevitable happened. The scales of power tipped decisively in the enemy's favor. In the end, Song Yoon chose to take those vermin down with him in a final, mutual destruction. Back in the present, Song Yoon found himself in the uniform of the Mecha Arts Academy. It was only when he stepped outside that he realized he had returned 60 years to the past. This was Yuanding City, a central city on the southern continent's border of the Tiandu nation. At the Mecha Arts Academy's training grounds, two astral generals were locked in a fierce battle. As they clashed spectacularly, countless students packed the sides of the arena, cheering them on with wild enthusiasm. In a corner, a young man named Lu Yan watched the match, his face filled with awe and fascination. 18-year-old Lu Yan was a junior yellow-rank soulmaster from the Lu family village. As he watched the arena battle intently, he recognized one of them as an Uivian-type astral general. The one with the blue armor was a specialized model exclusive to the Mecha Arts Academy. This was the first time he had ever seen an astral general up close, and he couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. In the arena, the two mechs continued to trade blows furiously. The blue astral general brought its sword down in a decisive arc, forcing the red one to stumble back and parry. Seeing its opponent on the defensive, the blue mech grew cocky and began posturing for its next move. Those cheering for the blue mech instantly recognized the finishing move it was preparing. It leaped high into the air, twisting into a vortex, then unleashed its skill, the great whirling wind slash, barreling straight for the red armor. But noticing something was off, while everyone else was roaring for the blue mech, Lu Yan shouted out, claiming the red armor was deliberately baiting its opponent into that attack. He insisted that the blue mech was about to be defeated. Hearing this, the people around him scowled. One student shot back, telling him he was spouting absolute nonsense. Noticing that Lu Yan wasn't wearing their academy's uniform, they became suspicious, thinking he might be a spy sent from a rival school. Just as the argument was about to turn into a brawl, a thunderous crash erupted from the arena. A massive explosion had gone off. A piece of one of the armors broke off and was sent flying. Everyone had assumed the blue mech was going to win. But the scene before them was the complete opposite. The red armor stood imposing, its sword pinning the blue mech to the ground. The outcome of the match left the crowd utterly dumbfounded. To think the red mech would turn the tables at the very last second. The people who had been cursing Lu Yan just moments before now blamed him, saying the blue mech only lost because his rambling had distracted them from the match. When they turned to take their anger out on Lu Yan, he had somehow vanished. He had already slipped away from the arena and was making his way around to the back of the academy. He sighed as he walked, knowing that if he'd stuck around, he would have become the mob's punching bag. Unfortunately for Lu Yan, he ran left and right, taking every possible turn, only to get lost and repeatedly run into dead ends. He couldn't find the large red gate that the old man he'd asked for directions had mentioned. After walking a little further, he hit yet another dead end. He was speechless. What kind of lunatic designed such a damn labyrinth? His head was spinning, completely lost on what to do. Out of options, Lu Yan decided to just brute force it. He gave up on finding the path and chose to use his soul power to enhance his body and leap over the wall. A golden, metallic light flared around Lu Yan's body. He then shot dozens of meters into the air, clearing the wall and sticking a perfect landing. It was an impeccable jump, and Lu Yan couldn't help but feel pleased with himself. But as soon as he looked up, his eyes were met with the sight of several beautiful girls changing their clothes. He didn't know whether to count himself lucky or cursed for landing right in the middle of the female students' locker room. Staring at the eye-popping scene, Lu Yan froze solid for several seconds. Suddenly, one of the girls, 18-year-old He Yan, the president of Class 10 and a late-stage yellow-rank soulmaster, sensed a gaze and whipped her head around. When she turned around, revealing her assets, Lu Yan's face went beet red and blood burst from his nose. Realizing he was gawking at her, He Yan trembled with fury and shouted for her friends to help her get him. As he fled, Lu Yan desperately tried to explain that it was all an accident, but as fate would have it, to his absolute horror, he ran straight into another dead end. In no time, He Yan and her friends cornered him, armed with whatever they could grab. They weren't interested in talking, they just wanted to give him a beating. All that could be heard after that were Lu Yan's pained yelps and his pathetic pleas. "Stop! Please! Stop hitting me!" A short time later, on the top floor of the administration building, Lu Yan was hauled into the director's office by He Yan and her gang. His face was swollen and bruised, looking like he'd been attacked by a swarm of bees from the merciless beatdown. There, he explained who he was, a new student from Lu family village on the southern continent border, who had passed the special entrance exam and had come to the Mecha Arts Academy to register today. He also made sure to explain that he hadn't been peeping on purpose and that the whole thing was just a terrible misunderstanding. Sitting across from him was Xijing, the acting director of the Mecha Arts Academy, and next to her was Xiao Yue. Her secretary began reading from Lu Yan's file. Lu Yan, age 18, a junior yellow rank soul master. Aptitude assessment, external second class. Previously attended the Soul Master Preparatory School, scoring 92 in academics and 97 in martial arts. Admitted via the Mecha Arts Academy's special examination. His father is a retired soldier from the Tiandu Nation military, a peak yellow rank master, with the former rank of sergeant and 1/3 class merit citation. Hearing the secretary mention his external second class aptitude, Xijing noted that such potential made him a promising candidate. If nothing unexpected happens, he should be able to break through to the profound realm before he turns 20, she thought. She decided to place Lu Yan in class 10, then told her secretary, process his enrollment papers. Seeing the mischievous glint in Xijing's eyes, Lu Yan had a bad feeling, wondering what she was planning. Then, Xijing ordered, untie him, causing He Yan to practically leap out of her skin in protest. She absolutely did not agree with Xijing letting him off so easily. But given Lu Yan's explanation, as dissatisfied as she was, He Yan had no choice but to bite her tongue. He Yan desperately wanted to give Lu Yan another thrashing, but since she was in the director's office, all she could do was fume. She puffed up her cheeks, steam practically blowing out of her ears, looking surprisingly adorable in her rage. Xijing then assigned Lu Yan to He Yan's class. Not only that, she put He Yan in charge of him, telling her to give him a tour of the school before handing him off to instructor Ao. First, take him to the logistics office to get his uniform, she added. He Yan was so angry she was physically trembling, but she didn't dare utter a single word of protest and reluctantly agreed. With that settled, Xijing had Xiao Yue give Lu Yan's file to He Yan. Xiao Yue took the paper file and compressed its data onto a card. She then handed it to Lu Yan, instructing him, this card contains all of your personal information. Please, keep it safe. He Yan shot Lu Yan a glare that could kill, as if she wanted to dispose of him on the spot. Then, she spoke in an icy tone that made him turn to stone. Follow me, student Lu Yan. Without another word, He Yan excused herself and left the director's office. She stormed out, fists clenched, her feet stomping angrily on the floor. Seeing this, Lu Yan hurried to follow her. After the two had gone, Xijing and her secretary remained silent for a moment, just watching the door. Then, Xiao Yue suddenly remembered something. Director. The secretary began. According to a report from Assistant Instructor Cheng, we have a missing student. It's student number 16 from class 10, Song Yun. He's been absent for 3 days now, and we still haven't been able to contact him. Hearing her secretary say he was missing, Xijing found it quite curious. Xiao Yue then asked if she should request clearance to report a missing student to the Public Security Bureau, but Xijing cut her off. Xijing did have an impression of Song Yun, but it wasn't a good one. She remembered him as that piece of trash with the congenitally damaged soul meridians, the one the Tong family from Yong'an City used its connections to sneak into the Mecha Arts Academy. Xiao Yue continued her report. According to the last student who saw Song Yun, that student was in the dorms and was asked some weird questions by him. They also heard him say something about still having 3 days left, and then he just vanished. While focusing on her report, Xiao Yue choked on Xijing's cigarette smoke and turned to scold her. Seeing this, not only did Xijing not stop, she deliberately took another drag and brazenly blew it right in Xiao Yue's face, making her even more furious. She bristled like an angry cat. The two of them bickered for a while before they finally got back to the issue with Song Yun. According to Xijing, his family situation is a bit complicated, so she'll contact his relatives first. At that moment, He Yan was giving Lu Yan a tour of the academy's different areas. Over there is the Jiwu staff housing. Past the staff housing are the dorms. The building on the left is the alchemy lab, and the path on the right leads through the lecture hall. She then reminded him that tomorrow he had Astral Soul General Configuration and Introductory Coded Language Formation Arrays classes. Both classes would be held in the tiered lecture hall of that building. Trailing behind, Lu Yan wondered where the two of them were going. In response, He Yan told him she was taking him to the arena, as this afternoon's class was Practical Astral Soul General Combat. She also remembered to remind Lu Yan to change into his new uniform in a bit, because their class instructor hates it when students dress casually. Noticing that he was still standing there dumbfounded instead of following her, He Yan turned back irritably to hurry him along. The moment she turned around, she saw Lu Yan staring blankly at something, leaving a giant question mark hanging over her head. Lu Yan's eyes were wide and sparkling. Turns out, he was completely in awe of the statue in front of them. Seeing this, He Yan introduced it to him. This is the frame of a legendary hero from 400 years ago, named the Astral Soul General Xiezi. With a proud and beaming expression, He Yan began to tell Lu Yan about the grand history of Jiwu Academy. The first headmaster was the hero, chosen by the Astral Soul General Xiezi. He piloted Xiezi to conquer Nanzhou for the Tiandu nation and founded the Nanzhou Jiwu Academy 400 years ago. The headmaster's astral soul general then turned into a soul gem and was sealed within this statue to protect Jiwu Academy and to await the appearance of the next hero. After hearing He Yan's story, Lu Yan's eyes blazed with light. He felt something, a powerful force, surging within him. As if his heart had been struck by a guiding light, he solemnly swore to become a hero, just like the first headmaster. His expression was more determined than ever. He would make the 8 generals of Tiandu his goal, resolving to become the strongest astral soul general pilot. Suddenly, just as he finished speaking, the statue of Xiezi began to tremble, creating a slight tremor. The soul gem within it reacted violently, erupting in a dazzling flash of blue light. Witnessing this, He Yan had a sudden thought. Could that be a soul power resonance wave? Is this really the soul gem of the astral soul general Xiezi? She wondered. Since it was the first time he'd ever seen such a strange phenomenon, it took Lu Yan a moment to snap out of it. He asked He Yan in astonishment if something had just lit up. He pointed toward the Xiezi statue, still completely baffled about what was going on. Before He Yan could reply, Lu Yan rushed over to inspect it, but the earlier commotion was gone now, which only made him more curious. He Yan's mind was reeling in shock. Could the first headmaster's astral soul general really be resonating with this idiot, Lu Yan? She wondered. Is Lu Yan going to be Xiezi's next host? The moment the thought crossed her mind, He Yan immediately rejected the ridiculous idea. She was certain that what she had just seen was merely an illusion. How could the first headmaster's astral soul general possibly choose a fool like Lu Yan? Up ahead, Lu Yan was still engrossed in studying the statue. He licked his finger and poked the astral soul general to test it. At that exact moment, a furious He Yan charged forward and smacked Lu Yan. "Hey, behave yourself," she yelled, "and stop touching things." He Yan then dragged Lu Yan away like a puppy to go report to the instructor. Despite the massive lump on his head, Lu Yan couldn't shake the belief that the astral soul general had just reacted to him. From a floor above, Song Yun had witnessed everything that just happened. He was a bit surprised that people from the eastern continent, even after 16 years, still believed in the legend of immortals descending to the mortal realm. His preparations were now more or less complete. He was determined that this time, he wouldn't let them sacrifice themselves here for nothing. Down in the arena, the air was filled with thunderous cheers. On the field, 2 astral soul generals were locked in fierce combat. Sparks flew as their weapons clashed. In an instant, the blue mech completely overpowered the red one to claim victory. The audience below roared with excitement. After the match, Qing Yi, the assistant instructor for Class 10 and an early-stage Xuan rank soul master, asked Instructor Wu if the blue mech should get an extra point since its pilot fought quite well. Beside him, Wu Pei, Class 10's main instructor and a mid-stage Xuan rank soul master, was not the least bit impressed. With an indifferent expression, she commented that the blue mech's fighting style was utterly chaotic. Fighting like that on a real battlefield is just a death sentence. Hearing that, Qing Yi felt helpless and didn't dare to argue. At that moment, He Yan arrived with Lu Yan to report. Wu Pei seemed to have heard about him before, immediately recognizing him as the student who had passed the entrance exam. In response, Lu Yan stood up straight and, despite the instructor's pressure, spoke in a loud, clear voice. The sight left He Yan utterly speechless. Reporting instructor, my name is Lu Yan. I'm 18 years old, from the Lu family in Jingzhou, and I'm at the early Huang rank. I have previously. Before he could finish his introduction, Instructor Wu cut him off. She wasn't interested in hearing such nonsense, and then decided that the next match would be He Yan versus Lu Yan. The instructor's decision left Lu Yan dumbfounded, but before he could refuse, He Yan eagerly jumped in. She couldn't wait to give Lu Yan a good thrashing. Hearing this news, the male students were visibly excited, wanting He Yan to teach the newcomer a lesson. A few of them laughed mockingly as they warned Lu Yan to be careful with He Yan, because her skills were always top tier. As for this battle, Qing Yi couldn't help but feel worried. He spoke up, asking Lu Yan if he was used to piloting an astral soul general. Lu Yan replied that his current skill level was just so-so, from his time as a reserve soul master. He'd learned from his old man in the army, but the problem was, he'd never been assigned an astral soul general. Hearing this, Qing Yi handed him the soul talisman for a Yuanwei type. Here, he said, you can borrow this for today's class. That student is absent today. He then explained that Lu Yan just had to channel his soul power into the talisman to summon the astral soul general. Holding the talisman, Lu Yan was filled with excitement. So this is the Jiwu Academy's Yuanwei type astral soul general? His eyes sparkled in admiration. This design, these patterns. Lu Yan felt it was all extraordinary, even more high class than his old man's jade pendant. Seeing his over-the-top reaction, Qing Yi was even more speechless, completely baffled. Stepping onto the platform, He Yan took out her soul talisman and summoned her astral soul general. Across from her, Lu Yan decisively followed suit. Streams of glowing data flashed in midair, coalescing into a blue and a red set of astral armor. Inside her cockpit, He-Yan couldn't help but let out a wicked, cunning smile. She was confident she would beat Lu Yan without any mercy, so badly that he'd forget all about what he'd seen earlier. Not wanting to seem weak, Lu Yan even encouraged He-Yan to fight him with her full strength. From the stands, the audience cheered enthusiastically for He-Yan. They all wanted He-Yan to shatter Lu Yan's mech with a single sword strike. Not wanting to waste a single second before she could punch him, He-Yan made the first move, stomping hard and leaping high into the air. She shot straight towards Lu Yan. He was already on high alert, but when He-Yan saw him doing nothing but backpedaling and dodging, she pressed her attack relentlessly and at high speed. After they exchanged a few blows, Lu Yan started to retreat again. From behind, He-Yan taunted him, "You seemed so fired up to fight a minute ago." Ignoring He-Yan completely, he just kept dodging. Even Cheng Yi, who was watching the match, was disappointed with Luke Dian's cowardly fighting style of constantly running away. Suddenly, Oh Boy spoke up, telling him not to underestimate Luke Dian so quickly. His footwork seemed chaotic, but he successfully dodged every single one of He-Yan's attacks. Instructor Ao's words left Cheng Yi completely stunned. In the arena, He-Yan attacked with her dual swords, forcing Luke Dian to rely solely on his shield to defend. He was clearly starting to lose ground. Internally, Luke Dian was struggling to keep up. He had to admit, He-Yan's fighting strength was immense. The two-realm difference between Spirit Masters was proving to be a massive hurdle. In the stands, a few impatient spectators started shouting at Luke Dian. Looking at the situation in the arena and Luke Dian's tactics, it wasn't an exaggeration to say they could all see how this would end. One guy in the stands jeered loudly that Luke Dian was only at the early yellow realm, while He-Yan was at the late yellow realm. There was simply no way he could win. A two-realm gap meant the power and durability of their battle armors differed by at least 40%. He knew he couldn't face her head-on. He recognized that he couldn't hold out against He-Yan forever. Luke Dian chose to back away first, creating some distance. Guessing his intention, He-Yan, inside her blue mech, attacked from afar with her gun. As he blocked it with his shield, Luke Dian remarked, "Seems like you don't have very good control over your ranged attacks. From this far away, you're no threat at all. That barely even tickles." Enraged at being underestimated, He-Yan snapped. She growled, "If that didn't even tickle, then let's see you handle this." She unleashed her strongest technique. In the stands, the students gasped, unable to believe she was actually using that move. This time, Luke Dian was toast. Even Cheng Yi's eyes went wide as he watched, convinced that there was no way Luke Dian could block this. It seemed He-Yan was finally fighting for real. He-Yan leaped high, crossing her dual swords as her soul power surged to an unprecedented level. Once she was close enough, she swung them down, creating two intersecting arcs of light that slashed straight towards Luke Dian. The impact on Luke Dian's mech was so severe that he cried out in pain. The students watching couldn't help but wince in sympathy. To be put in his place by He-Yan right after arriving. Talk about bad luck. Only Instructor O remained emotionless, quietly murmuring her assessment. Luke Dian had won. Cheng Yi couldn't believe what he was hearing, and strained his eyes to get a better look. A nearby student couldn't help but question her. "Are you kidding, Instructor? Luke Dian's clearly been wrecked." Oh Boy simply replied, "Look closer." Although Luke Dian's red mech was severely damaged, its sword was aimed right at the weak point of the blue mech. According to the rules, Luke Dian had won. Seeing the blade aimed at her core, He-Yan's eyes flew open in disbelief, unable to accept the result. In contrast, despite his battered state, Luke Dian wore a victorious smirk. Inside her mech, He-Yan seemed dazed, stammering the outcome of the match over and over. The student spectators were equally dumbfounded. No one would have thought a newcomer, two whole realms weaker, could defeat the renowned and elite He-Yan. The usually stoic Instructor O actually let a faint smile show. She and Cheng Yi then went down and declared the match between He-Yan and Luke Dian not bad. So, she asked Luke Dian to explain his fighting style. As if he'd been waiting for the chance, Luke Dian enthusiastically began his explanation. He himself felt his victory was pretty fantastic. He-Yan's attacks were so aggressive, I basically didn't have a single opening to counterattack. Her precision, her mech's power, and her speed were all far superior. But as I watched her movements closely, I realized she rarely used her soul power for speed boosts. I figured either her soul power was lacking, or she had a habit of fighting more defensively. Hearing this, Instructor O's expression towards Luke Dian changed. She thought to herself, to be able to stay calm and analyze the situation while fighting a much stronger opponent. This kid is really something. Luke Dian wasn't done. He went on to explain that he created distance to confirm that He-Yan wasn't good at using her soul power. Then, he said, I realized she also has a pretty short fuse, so I intentionally provoked her and made her fall right into my trap. At this, He-Yan, flushed with shame and anger, tried to hold it in, but her body was trembling. She couldn't bear to hear another word. She turned to Luke Dian and yelled that he just got lucky. But Luke Dian wasn't even listening. He was suddenly freaking out about something else entirely. My mech got wrecked just now, he worried. I'm probably going to have to pay a ton for the damages. His comment made He Yan even more exasperated as she explained it to him. A spirit general is summoned by a spirit master. It doesn't get damaged in a way you have to pay for. Then He Yan remembered something. Wait, mech number 16. That belongs to Song Yun, right? Hearing that name, Cheng Yi's face darkened. In his opinion, Song Yun was nothing but the 3-minute useless young master who'd been skipping school for the last 3 days. Of everyone there, only Luke Dian didn't get the 3-minute nickname. He wondered aloud, does that mean what I think it means? The other students then explained that Song Yun's celestial soul was rumored to be permanently flawed. He could never level up, in other words. He was the biggest loser of them all. Overhearing the chatter, Instructor O raised her voice to dismiss the students. But just a second later, the sky over the Mech Martial Academy abruptly went dark. He Yan shivered involuntarily. It's only early evening, she thought. What's going on? Before anyone could process it, countless cracks ripped open across the sky, and from them, hordes of monstrous beasts started pouring through. A city-wide emergency alarm began to scream. The sound sent a chill down the spines of Oh Boy and Cheng Yi. The students looked up, their eyes finally focusing on the cracks in the sky. One after another, the monstrous beasts began to fall, right over their academy. Some students were so terrified they collapsed. Horrified by the sight, a panicked uproar spread everywhere. People screamed, "The beasts are here! Run!" The colossal touty beasts landed one after another, wreaking havoc wherever they touched down. Lightning crackled around them. Like starving tigers that had found prey, they began hunting the people on the ground, plunging the entire city into chaos. One of the Tao Te opened its massive mouth, condensing a powerful orb of light. Those caught in its sights were plunged into despair, knowing they were done for. And just as they feared, wherever the light beam swept, people were simply vaporized. Even massive buildings were no exception, obliterated without a trace. The beast's unstoppable beam of light shot straight towards the Mech Martial Academy. Left with no other choice and relying on her battle instincts, Uboy shouted Cheng Yi's name. He understood immediately, summoning his spirit general and using its shield to block the light beam, averting the crisis for the academy. The mere shockwave from the impact sent students flying, and it took a few moments for the attack to subside. But there was a problem. Blocking that single attack had caused 73% damage to Cheng Yi's mech, and his soul power had plummeted to just 22.6%. Hearing the status report, Cheng Yi's face grew anxious, sweat dripping down his temples. This was far worse than he had expected. Following the first wave, the remaining beasts descended. They were Tao Te, known as the most voracious species of all. Unfazed, Uboy began assessing the battlefield, trying to get a count of the enemies before them. Meanwhile, Cheng Yi yelled at the students to find cover immediately. This enemy isn't something you can handle. At the same time, Cheng Yi was using every available second to replenish his soul power and repair his damaged mech. Despite being told to evacuate, He Yan and Luke Dian both stepped forward, offering to help. Before they could even finish, Oh Boy shut them down. Follow your orders, she commanded, as she rushed towards Cheng Yi. Cheng Yi hadn't fully recovered when one of the beasts lunged for him, its jaws agape. In that critical moment, moving at the speed of light, Uboy instantly summoned her own mech and saved him. With a single, badass slash of her sword, Instructor O finished off the beast. Witnessing this epic scene in glorious, uncensored detail left both He Yan and Luke Dian completely speechless. Her personal mech was known as the White Guardian, but they never imagined it was this powerful. The beasts weren't stupid, though. They tried to ambush her from multiple directions, but with her incredible power, Oh Boy easily detected and countered each attack. However, something bothered her. For a split second, the beast's movements seemed to slow. Behind her, Cheng Yi suggested a retreat. More and more beasts were showing up, and he feared the two of them couldn't last much longer. Instructor Ao cut him off sharply. "Shut up!" Instructor O shouted. They had to hold back these monstrous beasts until reinforcements arrived. Before Ao Boy and Cheng Yi, hordes of beasts swarmed in, and the entire city was filled with smoke and ruins. Seeing this, a horrified Lu Yan asked He Yan what they should do now. With no other choice, He Yan decided to follow the instructor's wishes, urging Lu Yan to leave quickly, because with their level of strength, staying would only get in the other two's way. Although a bit reluctant, Lu Yan could only obey. The two of them quickly headed back inside the academy. On their way back, he noticed countless points of light in the sky. At the same time, Oh Boy received a signal from the command room. Xiao Yue reported that reinforcements were arriving, telling Uboy to form a squadron with Uboy as the commanding captain. The combat order was to defend the arena and not let any beasts escape. After hearing the command, Uboy became even more determined to fight and began to counterattack the beasts. A moment later, countless other spirit generals descended from above. They weren't instructors, but members of the student council who had come as reinforcements. They seemed exhausted, but Uboy pushed through and took command, ordering all mecha to form the 12 mecha formation to fight the beasts. All the spirit generals accepted the order and immediately formed the Tiger Wing formation. All the spirit generals coordinated smoothly, setting up a defensive line in front of the horde of beasts. The Tiger Wing formation. With this formation, while the main general is responsible for luring the enemy, the two wings provide cover and attack. It can take advantage of the terrain and is also suitable for long-term defensive combat. Two birds with one stone. Even Shi Jing had to praise Oh Boy, who was truly worthy of the name White Fox of the northern battlefield. Below the command platform, Xiao Yue was in charge of monitoring and reporting on the battle. The defensive line was established, and reinforcements had arrived. Waiting only for that, Xiao Yue asked Shi Jing for the next directive. Upon finishing her words, Shi Jing loudly called for all mecha of the Jiwu Academy to defend their positions to the death and trap all the beasts within the encirclement. They had to hold on until the wave of beasts ended. Receiving the order, Boy and the students became even more determined to defend. This battle didn't need to be won, they just had to hold their ground. One by one, the beasts charged forward, attacking the students and making them struggle to defend themselves. A weapon was snatched from a student's hand by a Tauti. The Tautis took advantage of their multiple arms to launch their attack. Claws crackling with lightning slashed down, directly sending one spirit general flying. Another explosion erupted in the middle of the academy, sending smoke, dust, and rubble into the air. A monstrous Tauti tore through the dust and smoke. Its body was several dozen meters tall. In front of it, He Yan and Lu Yan were desperately trying to run away. The appearance of the beast made things even more difficult for the two. Rocks and debris rained down behind them, threatening to crush them at any moment. If they kept running at this pace, the Tauti would catch them sooner or later. Left with no choice, He Yan said she would hold the beast back. She told Lu Yan to run towards underground entrance number 9, but disaster struck Lu Yan, who has a terrible sense of direction, had no idea where that was. He Yan stopped, summoned her mecha, and pointed the way for Lu Yan, telling him to run towards the statue of the spirit general, Zuo Si. The entrance was right behind the statue. In an instant, He Yan had summoned her spirit general to block the beast, buying time for Lu Yan to escape. As he ran, Lu Yan cursed under his breath, looking back to see He Yan being viciously attacked by the Tautie, which made him even more worried. Very quickly, He Yan was knocked down by the Tautie, but she still yelled for Lu Yan to run faster. As he was running, upon hearing He Yan's urging, he lowered his head, gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and ran forward with all his might. As he ran, he blamed and tormented himself. Why was he so useless? Why did he only ever know how to run away? Why could he only stand by and watch others sacrifice themselves for him? Lu Yan wished he had power, that he had a spirit general. As soon as he thought this, a bolt of lightning seemed to flash through his brain. He remembered the statue of Zuo Si. Maybe it could help him change the situation. He recalled how the statue's soul jade had reacted when he got near it. So, if he was the one chosen by that soul jade, he could obtain the power of the spirit general Zuo Si. The more he thought about it, the more it felt like some force was pushing him from behind, making him run faster and faster. He silently hoped that He Yan could hold on for just a little longer. After a moment, the statue of Zuo Qi was within Lu Yan's sight. As if seeing a glimmer of hope, he broke into a wide smile, flying towards the statue, shouting for the headmaster to lend him strength and for the spirit armor to accept him. But suddenly, Lu Yan stopped, staring ahead in astonishment because there was someone on top of the statue. He couldn't understand what the hell was happening. Moreover, this figure had just damaged the Zuo Si statue and taken something out of it. If he wasn't mistaken, it was the soul jade of the spirit general Zuo Qi. Song Yun stood on the statue, looking down at Lu Yan with a mischievous smile. Lu Yan was so shocked he was speechless, pointing directly at Song Yun on the Zuo Qi statue and demanding to know who he was. Without any hesitation, Song Yun stood under the night sky, his face illuminated by the soul jade, and coolly answered Lu Yan's question. I am Song Yun, and I have returned. The scene changes. The people Song Yun couldn't save in his past life appear in his memory, including instructors and students of the Jiwu Academy, as well as those who once looked down on him and the beloved elder who loved him. Those who cherished and protected him, the brothers in arms from the Xuanjia Guard, the important person who didn't hesitate to sacrifice their life to protect Yunxiang, and the one who had protected and advised him during a crisis. And the ones he could never forget were the unbeatable enemies and the Star-Lord system that was always with him. The people he met on the southern, western, and northern continents, and the inner demons that had plagued him for decades. Suddenly, Yunxiang's eyes flew open. He had just broken free from his own memories during cultivation, his whole body drenched in sweat. A bright light emanated from his body, illuminating everything around him. It was clearly visible even from the outside. Song Yun sat by the window as the morning light streamed into the room. He panted from exhaustion. He had finally broken through. The entire room was thick with his aura. Yunxiang was overjoyed that he had finally broken through. The sigils on his body were clearly visible on his face. Yunxiang felt the abundant power flowing through his body and was satisfied. From the initial stage of the Huang rank to its peak in just 3 days, breaking through 4 realms consecutively. Yunxiang sat on the bed, exhausted, reminiscing. For a body still flawed in its celestial soul, this was a bit of an exaggeration, but it meant he was out of time. When faced with tens of thousands of unbeatable enemies, I chose to self-destruct and take them all down with me. I never expected to return 16 years in the past. The memories flowed back to him, of himself 16 years ago. Because of his flawed celestial soul, he was the useless trash abandoned by his family. His father, to protect him, sent him to this Nanzhou Jiwu Academy. Yunxiang looked at himself in the mirror, and an image of his older self from his past life appeared. He said to himself, "Back then, I didn't understand his intentions at all." The older and more experienced Yunxiang felt ashamed remembering his past. Relying on his status as a little marquis, he lived a wild and unrestrained life. Then, the Jiwu Academy was attacked by monstrous beasts. The Song family was wiped out, and Tiandu fell. With the help of the Star-Lord system, I escaped death countless times. The Star-Lord system was created by some sage, and I happened to obtain it in my previous life. Not only does it have some incredible abilities, but it can also copy other people's spirit generals for me to use. I never thought it would be reborn with me. He called upon the Star-Lord system again to check his current situation. The system immediately checked and reported his current status. Looking at the system, Yunxiang fell into deep thought. Although I don't know why the system was reborn with me, it's true that all the spirit generals I collected before and everything else is gone. He clenched his fist, showing his determination. I have to start all over again. The first thing Song Yun did was check the calendar. The day he was reborn was the 9th of November. That means tonight, the Jiwu Academy will be attacked. In these 3 days, relying on the alchemy I learned in my past life on the southern continent, I've continuously broken through from the initial stage of the Huang rank to its peak. In my past life, I was nearly 50 years old before I got a rebirth pill to heal my celestial soul. Even though my sky soul was healed, it still left side effects on my body. Not only am I stuck at the saint stage with no way to break through, I can only use 20% of my combat power and have to rely on soul continuation pills to replenish my strength. Now, if I can just refine one regeneration pill, I can completely restore my sky soul with no more side effects. With that in mind, he headed to the southern continent apothecary in the eastern center of Yuanding City to purchase the medicinal herbs. Van Tuong approached the counter and greeted the shopkeeper. "I'm here to pick up the heavenly dragon root I ordered a few days ago." The shopkeeper quickly replied, "Please wait a moment, sir. Let me check for you. It's still in transit. It will arrive this afternoon. As soon as it's here, we'll notify you immediately." Song Yun looked at the shopkeeper, slightly disappointed and sullen. "I still have to wait?" He walked off alone, lost in his thoughts. 16 years ago, alchemy techniques were still very primitive. On the southern continent, a heavenly dragon root was truly priceless. Yet here, I can buy one so easily. As long as I can find the final ingredient for the regeneration pill, I can heal my sky soul. That way, even if I can't repair the star soul general used for the distant might technique, I can still hold back the vicious beasts, he mused. Even with the heavenly dragon root, I'll still have to wait for several hours. In that case, I'll head to the martial arts arena first and set up a few arrays to deal with the vicious beasts. Hopefully, I can minimize the casualties. At this moment, the academy, Jiwu, was very peaceful, as it hadn't been attacked by demonic beasts yet. A familiar voice echoed through the academy. "This is the last spot. Let's set it up here." It was Van Tuong's voice. He was arranging everything in preparation for tonight. "These few arrays I learned on the northern continent are probably 100 years ahead of this eastern continent. It's a pity my current cultivation level is too low. I can only set up arrays that reduce the speed and slow down the movements of the vicious beasts." As Van Tuong was setting up the array, he heard someone outside telling an old tale. According to the legends of the eastern continent, an immortal descended from the heavens and summoned a dharma form outside of the star soul general. Hearing this, he couldn't help but turn to listen in for a bit. The people listening to the story all cheered with excitement. "Hearing you say that, sister, I can feel a surge of energy rising within me." It turned out the storyteller was He Yan. She seemed very knowledgeable about the old legends and continued her story. The very first academy headmaster was the hero chosen by the Star Soul General, Xie Shi. He Yan was completely engrossed, passionately lost in the story she was telling everyone. The Star Soul General, Xi Si. Huh? She went on to tell many other things, while Van Tuong stood listening from the upper floor between the pillars, lamenting. "On this very day in my past life, I ran to you like a stray dog, begging for your power, but I received no response at all. This time, it's different." He called out to the system and told it to scan the statue before him. The system immediately reported, "Scanning the soul jade of the masterless Star Soul General. Target confirmed, Star Soul General Xie Shi." Do you wish to forcibly extract it? Immediately after, the statue, like a giant robot, was pulled outside, shocking everyone. Yan was thrilled to see the scene before her, because it was just like what she had heard in the stories. This is soul power resonance. Could it be the soul jade of Shesi? Lu Dian, still young and inexperienced, was alarmed by this sight for the first time and nervously asked, Yan, did something just light up? What is this situation? From his high vantage point, Van Tuong saw their surprise, but he paid it no mind. He spoke to the system. Star-Lord system, have you copied the Star Soul General's CA Shi? The system replied, a masterless soul jade cannot be copied. It can be brought into the system space after it finds a host, at which point copying can proceed, he said with a calm expression. If it's of no use right now, then to avoid causing chaos, we'll take it tonight, when the vicious beasts arrive. Just then, the system notified him of a new message. Van Tuong wondered with some surprise, the heavenly dragon root is here already? He then tried to get everything settled so he could go pick up his order. Things over here are more or less ready. I'll go back to the apothecary to get my items first. I need to quickly refine the regeneration pill to restore my sky soul. This time, I won't let everyone's sacrifice be in vain. Returning to the market to head to the apothecary, Van Tuong walked slowly through the crowded street. But on that path, he suddenly brushed past someone who, in just a fleeting glance, caught his attention. His gaze was filled with suspicion. This person was both strange and familiar, leaving Van Tuong utterly bewildered. He then secretly asked the system to scan the mysterious person's information. Seeing how highly suspicious the person before him was, Van Tuong had the Star-Lord system scan them for him. After the system completed its scan, Song Yun confirmed that his guess was correct. Soul power is condensed in the dantian within the chest. This is a cultivation method unique to the Northern Kingdom, and he had an even bolder deduction. The person before him was from the Dilun Kingdom. The Dailun Kingdom and its neighbor border the northern frontier of the Tiandu Kingdom. They are one of the 3 nations that inherited the orthodox culture of the Eastern continent. In the memories of his past life, about 3 years from now, the war-mongering Dailun Kingdom was the first to break the balance. They launched a full-scale war of invasion against the Tiandu Kingdom. The other nations were gradually drawn into the war. This eventually became the fuse that led to the destruction of the Eastern continent. Van Tuong couldn't help but wonder why someone from the Dilun Kingdom would appear here at this time, or if there was actually some secret behind it all that he didn't know. Van Tuong temporarily set the matter aside. He returned to the Southern Continent Grand Apothecary, the Yuan Ding City branch, to pick up the medicine he had ordered. From the main hall, Van Tuong was greeted warmly and was relentlessly pitched to. Right now, the golden light powder and the body-tempering elixir are on sale at a promotional price. We also just got a new shipment of star-gathering pills. These were personally refined by the second-rank alchemist from our Southern Continent headquarters. Faced with the constant sales pitches, he just gave a slight and then stated his purpose. I'm here to pick up the heavenly dragon root I ordered 3 days ago. My surname is Tong. Realizing she had been too pushy, the female employee guided him to the VIP area to wait. Van Tuong sat down on a chair, and another young woman approached to confirm. Mr. Tong, the heavenly dragon root you ordered from our shop 3 days ago has now arrived. The original price is 130,000 yuan. Because you chose expedited shipping, after deducting the 20% you paid as a deposit, you still need to pay. Suddenly, Van Tuong waved his hand to stop the girl. He then reached into his pouch, but instead of taking out money, he slowly began to speak. I don't have enough cash on me right now. As soon as she heard this, the girl, afraid she was dealing with a deadbeat customer, replied, I'm sorry, sir, but our shop has a rule against installment payments. If you cannot pay the full amount, you won't be able to take the item. After fumbling in his pouch for a moment, Song Yun took out a spatial storage card. Inside that card are countless medicinal pills. I want to sell these pills to you. The girl, without even looking, immediately replied again, I'm sorry, Mr. Tong, but we don't purchase medicinal pills here. But when she took a closer look, her jaw dropped. This is a soul continuation pill, a 3rd-grade pill. And could this be a rare 4th-grade soul condensing pill? This is a star-gathering pill, and its quality is even higher than the ones refined by the Grandmaster at our main store. What is this one? I don't even recognize any of these. This time, the girl was utterly flustered. Excuse me, sir. May I take these pills to ask for our head shopkeeper's opinion? Seeing that they would buy his pills one way or another, Van Tuong calmly replied, Go ahead and take them. I'll take the heavenly dragon root first. Do you have an alchemy room here? Let me borrow it for a bit. It was the first time she had heard a customer ask to borrow the alchemy room, so she answered hesitantly. We do have an alchemy room, but because the shop doesn't have a resident alchemist, the room hasn't been used in a very long time. He waved her concern away. I just need a quiet place that can block out soul power fluctuations. Hearing him say that, the girl led the way. Then please follow me. In a flash, she had led Song Yun to the alchemy room as he requested. He then went inside by himself. As soon as he entered, Song Yoon was quite surprised. An old-style alchemy furnace from 60 years ago. It looks so crappy. A pity this one is broken. I actually really wanted to try it out. Van Tuong sighed, feeling utterly deflated as he accepted this. He sat down on the floor. Luckily, back on the southern continent, I learned the void refining technique from the human spirit race. Combined with a refining array, I can make pills even without an alchemy furnace. After taking out his things, Van Tuong began to set up the array. The medicinal ingredients needed for the array were gathered by him one by one. He gently dropped the last ingredient into the four-directional refining array. All the ingredients had been placed into the array by Van Tuong. Everything was proceeding very smoothly. If anyone were to pass by the alchemy room, they would see a red light glowing from within. The young woman took the pills from Van Tuong and rushed to the manager's office. She explained to the head manager, that customer wanted to use these pills as collateral, so he gave them to me. There's one pill in here that I don't recognize. Please, take a look, sir. He picked up each vial and nodded. A third-grade essence-gathering pill, a soul continuation pill. This is a soul-condensing pill. And this last one is... He was so stunned by the last pill that he shouted, "This is a blood combustion pill." The head manager looked at the girl who brought the pills and asked her, "Are you certain this customer wants to sell these pills to our guild?" Seeing his urgency, she replied, "Yes, sir." That's what the customer said. He shot to his feet and asked, "Where is he now?" The young woman stammered, "In the alchemy room. He wanted to borrow it for a bit, so I took him there." Just then, she remembered that she'd forgotten to tell him, the pill furnace is broken, but he's so young, he probably doesn't know how to refine pills anyway, right? He probably just wanted a soundproof place to talk to someone. But in reality, she was completely wrong. Song Yoon's true age was likely even greater than the head manager's, so refining a pill without a furnace was incredibly easy for him. In just a moment, Van Tuong had finished refining a pill. He was drenched in sweat, but delighted to have finished refining a new pill. Immediately after, Song Yoon swallowed the pill he had just created in one gulp. Then, he absorbed that entire 6th-grade pill. His soul veins could finally be restored. The sigils on his body lit up once more, and Van Tuong's entire body seemed to be enveloped in a blue flame. At that moment, the head manager and the young woman arrived in front of the alchemy room he had entered. He pointed at the room and asked, "There's been no sound for a full 2 hours. Are you sure that customer has been in this alchemy room the whole time?" She replied sheepishly. "He seemed to have set up some kind of restrictive formation inside. The door can't be opened from the outside." Just as she finished speaking, a sound came from the room, and the door slowly began to open. Van Tuong stepped out from the doorway, having already seen them. He immediately broke into a smug grin, thinking to himself, he took the bait. The young woman who had served him in the VIP room stepped forward to introduce them. "Mr. Tong, are you finished? This is the head manager of our shop." "Manager, this is Mr. Tong." The man also bowed politely. "Mr. Tong, I am Hong Fuang." He looked Van Tuong up and down, silently sizing him up. Judging by the young man's clothes, he seemed to be from the Ko-Huyen Academy, and yet he could casually bring out so many precious pills. Could he be the young master of some great clan? Or perhaps he's backed by a master alchemist? Van Tuong returned the bow. "I wonder if Manager Hong is satisfied with the pills I have provided?" Hearing this, Hong Fuang replied, "Satisfied is an understatement." Hong Fuang held up the vial and said, "This old man ventures to guess that the red pill in this vial is the legendary 5th-grade blood combustion pill." Van Tuong was very pleased with this answer and replied, "As expected of the head manager overseeing an entire city. Elder Hong truly has a discerning eye." The man replied humbly, "You flatter me. You flatter me. Mr. Tong, do you really wish to sell this precious item to our shop?" Van Tuong pretended to scratch his head. "I have no choice. I've been in a bit of a tight spot lately." "Go on, Elder Hong, name your price." Hong Fuang launched into a long speech. This blood combustion pill can help a soul master below the earth stage directly ascend a minor realm. If used at the peak of one's realm, it can even help them break through the bottleneck to the next major realm. If you took this to auction, you could certainly get a better price. "Won't you reconsider, Mr. Tong?" He sighed. "I already told you, I'm in a tight spot. Cut the useless talk and just name your price." Seeing how firm he was, the man began to calculate the prices for all the pills he'd brought. He said gleefully, "However, this old man wishes to befriend you, Mr. Tong, so I will take the liberty of using my authority as head manager to make an executive decision. 444,000. We'll round it up to 500,000. I wonder if that is to your satisfaction?" Van Tuong laughed to himself. "This old fox. He sees how young I look and thinks he's getting a bargain. Next, he'll try to probe the origin of these pills." Imitating the haggling ladies at the market, Van Tuong played hard to get, rubbing his chin. 500,000, huh? Seeing his reluctance, Hong Fuang grew a little anxious and added, "Mr. Tong, to be honest with you, our shop could only sell these pills for 600,000 at most. Paying you 500,000 is the absolute limit of what this old man can authorize." How about this old man throws in some medicinal ingredients worth tens of thousands more for you, Mr. Tong? Seeing the fish had taken the bait, he took out his spatial card and said, Elder Hong, that's not what I meant. My house of Marquis An has never been one to take advantage of others. He then materialized 2 more 5th grade pills and said, I'll add 2 more blood combustion pills. Make it an even 1 million in total. Holding the 2 new vials from Van Tuong, Hong Fuang's mind reeled. He just casually took out 2 more 5th grade pills? Could this young man really have a 5th grade pill master behind him? Wait a minute. The House of Marquis An? Is that the Marquis An who is one of the 8 generals of Thien Do? This young man must be a young master from the Tong family of Nam Shao. It really is the blood combustion pill. And this quality, it's not just high grade. It's practically peak grade. He rejoiced inwardly. This bait should be more than enough to lure out the big fish behind you people. This head manager, Hong Fuang, is, with 90% certainty, a descendant of a branch family of the Hong Merchant Guild from my past life's memories. In my past life, the Hong Guild was one of the 3 great merchant guilds of the Eastern continent, controlling 70% of the market share for medicinal ingredients and refinement in the Tiando Kingdom. The intricate web of the Hong family's connections in both the political and business worlds has been built up over several generations. Not only are they unfathomably wealthy, but they also have a frightening network of connections and resources. In this life, to stop the coming beast tide, I not only have to rapidly increase my own combat power, but I also need to build my own power base. Money, connections, and resources, all 3 are indispensable. Hong Merchant Guild, a big fish like you. Just let me make good use of you. After thinking for a moment, Hong Fuang said, Young Master Tong, this isn't the proper place to talk. Why don't you come to my office for a while and sample some of the tea I've been saving? Van Tuong went along with it, replying, You're too kind, Elder Hong. With that, they all went to Hong Fuang's office. Once the transaction was complete, his system notified him, Your bank account has received 1 million yuan. Afterward, Song Yun asked Hong Fuang about the price of the Heavenly Dragon Spine. Hong Fuang immediately interjected, Young Master Tong, while the Heavenly Dragon Spine is rare, it's not considered a particularly valuable item. It's a paltry 30,000. This old man will make the decision to waive the fee for you. Van Tuong didn't refuse. He raised his teacup and replied, If that's the case, then I'll graciously accept. Taking a sip of the hot tea, Song Yun complimented its fine taste. Meanwhile, Hong Fuang called the young woman to his side and said, Go fetch the gold card marked with the number 3 from the 3rd drawer under my desk. Soon after, a glittering card was presented before him, leaving him very puzzled. Hong Fuang replied warmly, Young brother Tong, I imagine you already know that our Nam Shao Grand Apothecary is an enterprise under the banner of the Hong Merchant Guild. This card is a platinum-level membership card for the Hong Merchant Guild. With this card, you will receive the benefits and discounts of a platinum member at any shop under our guild's banner. It is a small token of this old man's sincerity, and I hope young brother Tong will accept it. And so, Van Tuong left the apothecary with the card. Before he left, they even waved goodbye to each other. Only when Van Tuong was far away did the young woman beside Hong Fuang dare to ask, Head manager, why were you so incredibly courteous to that young Master Tong? Did you figure out something about his background? He just smiled and replied, He mentioned the house of Marquis Kuyuan earlier, and his surname is Tong. The Marquis of Kuyuan is one of the 8 generals of Thien Do, and his surname is also Tong. If I'm not mistaken, I fear he is one of the young masters of the Tong family from Nam Shao, the 8 generals of Thien Do, Saint Stage powerhouses. That is the absolute pinnacle of our Thien Do Kingdom's combat power. But even a Saint Stage powerhouse, of which there are few enough to be counted on one hand, is not as valuable as the 5th grade pillmaster behind this young Master Tong. After hearing his analysis, the young woman asked again, Head manager, do you really think there could be a 5th grade pillmaster behind him? There are very few 5th grade pillmasters in the entire Eastern continent. However, people do occasionally find 5th grade pills in ruins and ancient tombs. What she said made sense, but Hong Fuang immediately countered, I just inspected those blood combustion pills. Their quality is peak grade, and they are brimming with soul power. They are, without a doubt, newly refined pills. Go inform the 4th miss. Tell her we have a lead on the 5th level alchemist she was looking for. After receiving her orders, she acknowledged them and left. Back to Van Tuong. As he was looking at the card Hong Fuang gave him, he accidentally bumped into a red-haired girl. In that instant, Van Tuong froze, standing stock still in the middle of the crowd. Memories of that girl from his past life flooded his mind, leaving him speechless. Van Tuong immediately turned, grabbed her hand tightly, and called out loudly, A tan! A tan, startled at being pulled back, turned to look at him, her eyes filled with the surprise of a stranger. Song Yun looked at her, a mix of emotions swirling inside him as he hesitantly called her name. Just then, the system also made an announcement. System has detected the host is in contact with a Spirit Soul General's keeper. Loading information. Load complete. Spirit Soul General Lubu commencing replication. Song Yoon remembered the girl named Atan, whom he knew as a female assassin from the mysterious Taiyuan organization, the one who possessed Lubu's spirit soul in his past life. We weren't supposed to meet for another 3 years. By then, she was already a quasi-saint level powerhouse. Relying on Lubu, she had unparalleled combat strength back then. Following Taiyuan's absurd beliefs, she forcefully intervened in the wars between nations, trying to prevent humanity from slaughtering itself. In my past life, I also met her on the battlefield. After several years of life and death situations together, we finally got together. The Van Tuong of that time, who had a large scar on his face, held a cigarette and asked Atan, "Is Tan your real name, or is it just your code name in Taiyuan?" She sat up, gently explaining, "The great prophet of Taiyuan divined that a storm was coming, so he named me Tan, predicting that I was destined to be the one to shelter from the wind and block the rain." Van Tuong turned to Atan and asked softly, "So it's your real name?" Atan brushed her red hair aside, her face blushing as she looked at him and nodded. Then, they shared a series of passionate kisses. The room was filled with only their silhouettes, an intimate space brimming with sweetness and happiness. Back in the present. As Song Yoon grabbed her hand, the system announced, "Spirit Soul General Lubu successfully copied." Van Tuong looked at the girl before him and thought to himself, "She looks so much more pure and innocent than the Atan I remember from 3 years in the future." But in the current Atan's memory, Van Tuong was just a stranger, someone she could eliminate the moment he got in her way. That's why Atan had already drawn a knife. She shook Van Tuong's hand off, her eyes wary as she asked, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" Without a moment's hesitation, she pointed the knife and lunged at him. Van Tuong reacted instinctively, quickly grabbing Atan's hand. He held her tightly and said, "Don't be so tense. I'm not a bad guy." Hearing him speak, she let out a small, surprised gasp. She asked in a low voice, "Who in the world are you? How do you know Taiyuan's assassination techniques?" At that moment, Van Tuong's sharp eyes spotted 3 men in black behind them. "So, you're being followed." Before he could finish his sentence, she landed a swift kick right in the family jewels. Atan's panic and desperation to escape were immense. The color drained from Song Yoon's face as he let out a piercing scream in the middle of the crowd. The 3 men in black also recognized that the person who had just kicked him was their target, and she was getting away. As the 3 were about to give chase, they ran past Van Tuong, who was trembling in pain. But to protect the girl who was so important to him, he grit his teeth through the pain and stuck his leg out, tripping one of the 3 men in black and sending him sprawling. His accomplices stopped to check on the situation. The one who fell was furious. He hadn't even wiped the blood from his nose before the blood rushed to his head. "You bastard, are you blind?" The leader of the group spoke up, stopping his subordinate. "Don't cause any more trouble." The subordinate was pissed, but he couldn't do anything to Van Tuong except glare at him resentfully. The 3 of them were about to leave when Van Tuong scrambled to his feet to stir up trouble and buy more time. "Hold on, you think you can just walk away after bumping into me?" The man who fell cursed back angrily. "Bump into you, my ass. It was clearly you." He pointed straight at his face and declared, "I get it now. You're with that red-haired thief." The leader once again stopped his subordinate from causing a scene. He moved closer to Song Yoon and said in a low voice, "Tiandu's Secret Investigation Division is on a mission. Kiddo, I suspect you're an accomplice. You're coming with us." Little did he know, he had just run into an old fox. Van Tuong had already figured it out. They were definitely not from the Secret Investigation Division. And so, his plan changed. From foe to friend. Isn't this perfect? With that, Song Yoon pulled a random piece of paper from his pocket and claimed it was the Yao Shahuang Erse. Hearing this, the men looked at each other, thinking, is that the identification code used between the different levels of Tiandu's Secret Investigation Division? The leader remained calm and replied, "Wanzuan Kuchen Hua, so you're one of us. My apologies." Seeing his opponent was still trying to play tough, Song Yoon decided to put more pressure on him. "I'm a covert operative from the South Continent's Secret Investigation Division, number 54188. And who might you be?" The leader, thinking he'd met the real deal, gave a hand signal to his accomplices. "This is trouble. You guys go on ahead. I'll handle him." He continued the act, while also trying to probe Song Yoon. "We're scouts directly under the Tiandu Secret Investigation Division headquarters. We just saw you make contact with our target. Care to explain?" But a man who had lived twice knew far more than others. "You mean the female assassin from Taiyuan just now? Our South Continent Secret Investigation Division has been tracking this target for a long time. If you guys hadn't shown up, I would have already caught her." This time, the man seemed to completely believe him, thinking to himself, he even knows she's an assassin from Taiyuan. It seems this kid really might be from the South Continent's Secret Investigation Division. The intel didn't mention she was also being tailed by them. To avoid any more trouble, I'll lure this kid into our encirclement and then take care of him. He calmly made his offer. "In that case, brother, why don't you join us? We can talk on the way." Song Yoon wanted to see what they were up to, so he nodded and said, "Let me just report to my superior." The man heard this and immediately panicked, stopping him. "Brother, you can't. We suspect there might be a mole from Taiyuan hidden within your South Continent division. That's why our operation wasn't announced to your side beforehand. Don't report it yet, or you'll ruin our plan to spring the trap." His words made Van Tuong realize something, so he asked, "You guys set up a trap?" The man quickly replied, "That's right. Our people have set up an encirclement outside the city. We're pretending to chase this female thief, but we're actually luring her into the trap. They've already gone far. We have to hurry." So that's how it is. As expected of the elites from headquarters, such a thorough plan. The man thought he had fooled Van Tuong, but he wasn't so easily tricked. Even as he followed, Van Tuong thought to himself, "What an idiot, trying to impersonate a secret investigation division agent in front of me. In my past life, I was the commander of the Xuan Ting Guard in Tiandu. I've lost count of how many times I've dealt with the secret investigation division." Van Tuong even checked the man's soul power. His soul power is condensed in his dantian. This guy is from the Dilun Nation, just like the man in black I saw near the Martial Academy. I can't believe so many spies from the Dilun Nation have already infiltrated this place at this time. Song Yoon suddenly remembered something. Wait a minute. In my past life, the South Continent Martial Academy was destroyed during a beast tide, and Soul Jade General Zuo Si also vanished without a trace. Could it be related to these Dilun Nation spies? Van Tuong was still thinking, trying to recall the events of his past life as he followed the leader of the men in black. But then, he suddenly saw a candy cart by the side of the road and thought to himself, "Strawberry Tunghulu? I remember Atan seemed to like these." And just like that, Song Yoon stopped at the candy stall and bought a whole bunch of different candies, making the shop owner extremely happy. After paying, he took a bite of one of the candies. "Let me try it first, see if it's sour." The leader of the men in black watched him, assessing the situation. Suddenly, he asked, "By the way, brother, I forgot to ask earlier." Though he was already half doubting, he still wanted to confirm Song Yoon's identity. "My name is Gu Ming. You can call me Old Gu. What should I call you, brother?" As if anticipating his intention, Song Yoon, standing behind him, replied with a smug smile, "My name is Cheng Yi. You can call me Little Cheng." The path they took was now far from the central city market, and over there, the person whose name had just been mentioned, Cheng Yi, was sneezing nonstop. Seeing this, Oh Boy, who was beside him, asked, "Are you all right, Instructor Cheng?" He quickly replied, "I'm fine." At that moment in the dense forest, where branches intertwined, a figure suddenly zipped across a tree branch. That person was A Tan. She had managed to escape into the forest, but despite her speed, two of Gu Ming's henchmen still blocked her path. A Tan had no choice but to land on a branch to make a stand and figure out her next move. But they didn't give her a single moment's rest, chasing her relentlessly. Because of this, A Tan had to start running again immediately. Finally, A Tan decided to stop running and landed squarely on the ground. The moment she touched down, she spotted a figure right in front of her. This opponent seemed to be a heavy hitter, judging by the grim expression on A Tan's face. From the dark hollows of the trees, an old man with silvery white hair emerged, yet his body was still incredibly strong. He was the captain of the three men in black from before. He let out a sneer and ordered the formation to activate. Following his command, a formation array appeared above her head, engulfing the entire area where she stood. All the subordinates under his command appeared one by one, sliding down from the tree branches to the ground to fight her. Besides fighting people, Atan also had to face two ridiculously huge robots. Right now, Atan's situation was not looking good. She was like the filling in a dumpling, completely surrounded by them on all sides. The old captain held Atan's file in his hand, muttering to himself, "Taiyuan's top assassin, known as the red-haired death god, real name unknown, an astral master half a step into the earth realm, and the wielder of the Lubu Astral General." A glimmer of excitement shone in the old man's eyes as he laughed loudly. "I never expected her to be such a beautiful little girl." His soldiers advanced step by step, but Atan still hadn't made a move. One of them gave a nasty grin. "Don't bother looking. This area is locked down by a spatial array. You can't escape. Why don't you just surrender obediently? This girl looks pretty good. How about we let the brothers have some fun first?" The one who had just spoken immediately got a blade to the face. His head was split in two, blood splattering everywhere. Atan, still fiercely defiant, asked all of them, "Was that fun?" The blood from the man splattered onto another, making them feel humiliated and instantly enraged. Another man stepped forward to command, seeking revenge for his comrade. "You filthy bitch, get her." Their captain just stood by and watched, not making any suspicious moves yet. At the same time, Gu Ming had led Van Tuong back to their ambush point. "The array has been activated. Looks like they've managed to stop that assassin." Van Tuong, holding a candied fruit skewer, thought to himself, "The spatial fluctuations are intense." While following Gu Ming, he had observed very carefully. This was a level 5 barrier-type spatial array. Just as Song Yun had predicted, It was indeed a level 5 spatial barrier. As soon as he arrived, Van Tuong was met with the sight of a whole mess of things, but what he cared about most were the two robots that hadn't moved yet, Gray, Ui, Vien models. They're city guard machines. It seems these people, after entering the country, managed to acquire astral abodes for their astral generals through some shortcuts within Tiandu. Gu Ming came to report his presence to his captain, but the old man just gave a cold grunt and remained silent. Atan was still single-handedly cutting down the black-robed men one by one. She didn't fear any of them who rushed at her. Amidst the relentless slaughter, a familiar figure made her look up. Van Tuong, with the candy skewer in hand, made a welcoming gesture and spoke. "We meet again." At this moment, he was still casually poking his cheek with the stick from his candied hawthorn. But instinct is a terrifying thing. Song Yoon's hand instinctively grabbed the shirt of a nearby black-robed man and pulled him over to block Atan's knife. He shouted angrily, "Why are you attacking me? That was dangerous." "I'm not with them." Atan was having a crisis of faith. Who on earth was this man? He clearly had the meager cultivation of a yellow rank, yet he was able to dodge her attack. The captain of the black-robed men saw one of his subordinates die because of Song Yoon and could only watch in stunned silence. He turned to Gu Ming and asked irritably, "Who is this person?" Gu Ming moved closer to the old man and explained the whole story. This kid claims to be an undercover agent from the South Continent's secret spy division. After listening, the old man instructed Gu Ming, "If he's just some small fry who wandered in, then it's his bad luck. Deal with the girl first. We can find a chance to get rid of that small fry later." Hearing this, Gu Ming nodded in agreement. Looking closely, Atan wasn't just surrounded by two giant robots, but a total of 4. The old captain was no longer standing by. He began to control the robots to attack her. Atan was busy fighting the black-robed subordinates, but still sensed the danger from behind. She was quick on her feet and managed to dodge a fatal blow from a robot. Realizing the situation was dire, Atan also began to summon her Astral General. Afterward, her power seemed to instantly surge. The energy radiating from her was immense. Immediately after, a beam of light appeared from the sky and shot down into the middle of the forest. Atan and her Astral General had successfully merged into one. The parts of Atan's Astral General were gradually assembled and armored. First was the robot's head, then its 2 arms slowly appeared, followed by its weapon, the halberd that Lubu often used. Atan's Lubu Astral General was complete. Just by looking at it, you could tell its power was no joke. Atan controlled Lubu to spin the halberd in the air, showing off its might. With a single strike of her halberd, Atan took down one of the 4 giant robots. From a distance, another robot of the same kind witnessed it all. It charged forward in a rage, wanting to kill Atan to avenge its comrade. But its fate was no different from its allies. At that moment, the system inside Lubu announced an enemy sneak attack from behind. Having detected the attack, Atan swiftly dodged. The 2 robots, their plan exposed, were shocked by Atan's incredible spin. Because of that surprise, they had no time to react or counterattack. The result of their shock was being sent flying far, far away. With 2 robots being knocked away at the same time, it was only natural that their landing created a massive tremor. The men in black, seeing that things were not going well, swarmed forward. Not only that, but they began to summon more and more Astral Generals. So, just as she finished dealing with the robots, a number double the previous amount appeared and surrounded her. Atan was struggling hard against the robots when she suddenly saw something on her display screen. It turned out to be an image of Song Yoon down below. Atan was curious and had to stop and watch for a moment. Down there, he didn't disappoint her. He asked them, "You guys are causing such a huge commotion on the outskirts of Yuanding City. Aren't you afraid of being discovered by the city patrol?" Gu Ming replied confidently, "We've already set up a level 5 spatial barrier array here. Even if the fighting shakes the heavens and splits the earth, no one outside will notice a thing." Song Yoon calmly replied, "That makes sense." That's very reassuring. He was completely unaware that Gu Ming had already drawn a knife. Taking the opportunity when Song Yoon let his guard down, he lunged forward with several slashes, but he wouldn't let his plan succeed. Song Yoon dodged every move Gu Ming threw at him. Song Yoon raised the hand holding the skewer from the candied strawberry he had just eaten, spun in a flash, and stabbed Gu Ming's vital point. In the end, the one who had to meet his maker was Gu Ming. Blood gushed from his mouth, spraying everywhere. Van Tuong sneered, "Now I can wipe all of you out right here without any worries." With that, Song Yoon pulled out the blood-soaked skewer. Gu Ming's captain, just now realizing Gu Ming had been killed, repeatedly shouted for his men. He ordered his black-robed subordinates to kill him. 3 or 4 men in black immediately obeyed and rushed forward. Song Yoon took out a storage card, pulled a sword from it, and then, all by himself, he wreaked havoc in every direction with his blade. All the black-robed men who rushed towards him met their end. Song Yoon's eyes scanned the situation, checking for any changes after he had killed so many of them. Song Yun sensed trouble and was about to run when the old captain roared again, "After him! Don't let that brat escape!" While fleeing, Song Yun called out to his system, "Can you hack this spatial array?" The system replied instantly, "Affirmative. Beginning infiltration. I will now analyze the formation and report back to you." Atan's situation was looking grim. Her spear seemed to be out of commission, and she was still surrounded by a swarm of soul generals from the Diluan kingdom. Atan was already exhausted. With so much blood on her face, it was hard to see her target clearly. The old captain, who was busy directing the attack on Song Yun, looked up at the noise coming from Lubu's direction. He ordered the man beside him, "It's time to capture Lubu. Activate the star-imprisoning soul-locking formation." At that moment, numerous formations appeared around Atan's Lubu soul general. From these formations, countless chains shot out and seized Lubu. The formations manifested on all sides, continuously unleashing more chains. Lubu's neck was also bound by chains, making it difficult for Atan to move, no matter how much she struggled inside. Both of her hands were chained as well, locking Lubu's spear in place and rendering it temporarily useless. In short, Atan and her soul general were completely immobilized. Atan roared in frustration, "What the hell is this thing? Damn it!" She struggled to break free, but it was useless. She strained, trying to snap the chains with sheer force, but couldn't. Inside Lubu's cockpit, Atan desperately tried to find a way out, but she was powerless against the old man's chains, and panic began to set in. The old captain laughed, amused by her struggle. "It's useless. This star-imprisoning soul-locking formation is a specialized array we recovered from ancient ruins, designed specifically to capture soul generals. Trying to break free with a soul release is impossible." He gloated, ordering his subordinate, "Prepare to begin the forced extraction of the Lubu soul general's soulstone data." 4 giant robots brought out what looked like a massive bullet and positioned it in front of Lubu. The bullet then blossomed open into 4 petals, revealing a cannon barrel in the center. This weapon didn't fire projectiles, but likely electromagnetic fields or sonic waves. The electromagnetic blast shot out, causing Atan to scream in agony inside Lubu. The robot, piloted by one of the men in black, cursed angrily, "You rotten bitch, you cost us so many of our brothers. Let's see you try and fight back now." Just then, a pillar of light shot down from the sky. It was some distance from the battle, sparking the robot's curiosity. From afar, it began to close in on them with silent speed. The stream of blue energy was like a knife, gliding effortlessly through all of the black-clad men's soul generals. The energy also casually sliced through all the chains binding Atan's Lubu. Not only that, but the bullet-shaped cannon that had been torturing Atan was also shattered by this blue energy. This left Atan utterly shocked, so surprised that she gasped aloud. Behind Atan now stood an identical Lubu soul general. The only difference was that its pilot was Song Yun. He couldn't help but feel a thrill fighting alongside her again, just like the old days. As much as he wanted to catch up, Song Yun was short on time, so he got straight to the point. "Should we speed this up a bit? I might only have 3 minutes. Atan was completely stunned to see another Lubu standing beside her, talking to her. Her jaw dropped as she screamed involuntarily, "How is this possible? Why is there another Lubu?" At that moment, Song Yun was piloting the Lubu soul general he had copied from her the day before. He charged forward, pointing his spear at her. This shocked Atan so much that her eyes widened, and she couldn't react in time. But Atan wasn't his real target. Song Yun was just trying to attack the soul general behind her. The tip of Song Yun's long spear struck the enemy soul general dead center, causing it to short-circuit instantly. Song Yun's spear not only short-circuited the enemy robot, but also directly killed the pilot inside in one swift motion. But Song Yun didn't stop there. He continued to apply pressure, twisting the spear to push it deeper into the pilot's chest. Then, he ruthlessly yanked the spear out without a hint of mercy. Blood dripped from the spear he withdrew, drop by drop. The man was dead as a doornail, but Song Yun still seemed unsatisfied. He exploded into a bloody mist. "Looks like I still need to be gentler." He tightened his grip on the spear before retracting it. Atan had been watching Song Yun's performance this whole time, and her patience had run out. "Who the hell are you, and what kind of soul general are you using? Why does it look exactly like my Lubu?" Song Yun raised a hand to calm her. "Relax. At the very least, I'm not your enemy. I'll explain everything in detail later." Song Yun scanned the area and said, "For now, let's team up and take care of this trash." Atan was a bit hesitant, but since what he said made sense, she temporarily accepted and held her questions. The two began to fight as a team. He took one, she took one. Although she had agreed to team up with Song Yun, Atan couldn't help but watch his fighting style as they battled. Every spear thrust Song Yun made was strangely precise. Even the way he wielded Lubu's spear was so masterful, it was as if this wasn't his first time piloting it. Every one of Song Yun's spear thrusts successfully claimed a life. As for Song Yun, he was thrilled to be piloting a soul general again after so long. This power, it feels just right. The two of them carved paths through different areas, mowing down every opponent that rushed toward them. Enemy generals were being killed one after another, making the battle much easier for the two of them. Just then, one of the enemies decided to charge in for a suicide attack on Lubu. He intended to split the giant Lubu in two with his small blade, but the result was no different from his comrades. He got skewered by Song Yun like a chicken kebab. The black-clad pilots were knocked out by the pair, one by one. The two sides were still fighting fiercely, with neither willing to surrender or give up. At that moment, Song Yun was still engaged with one of the sole generals from the black-clad group, but they used their numbers to their advantage, attempting a sneak attack while Song Yun was busy fighting someone else. Even in that situation, however, he was more than capable of handling two at once. For him, it was completely normal, almost effortless. Song Yun swung his spear in a wide circle, slicing both of them in half at the same time. Atan was also growing weary, panting heavily, but her eyes never left the Lubu controlled by Song Yun. Song Yun was completely unaware that he was still being watched by Atan, but thanks to that, he was subconsciously showing off his skills in a very natural way. After observing him, Atan began her analysis. That guy's cultivation is clearly only at the yellow rank, yet he can use the most basic thrust to accurately strike the enemy's core energy. He has precise control over his released soul power, a clear understanding of the enemy's soul general structure, and this whole series of fluid, decisive movements to eradicate them completely. It's really like watching a veteran with decades of combat experience, and in truth, it had taken Song Yun decades to gain that experience. It's just that the current herd didn't know that about him yet. After wiping out all the black-clad subordinates piloting soul generals, Song Yun addressed the last one remaining. Well, that just leaves you. With that, Song Yun turned his gaze to his opponent. This last one was none other than the one piloted by the old captain of the black-clad group. Inside his soul general, he was furious, veins bulging on his face. He couldn't believe his eyes. How is this possible? How can there be another Lubu? What kind of monster is this? My entire deployment, completely wiped out? Showing zero respect for his elder, Song Yun charged forward, shouting, "Hey, Baldy with the long hair, get over here and kneel!" The captain of the black-clad group seemed to have gone mad from his defeat. He screamed, "There can't be two, Lubus." With that, he suddenly accelerated, charging forward. "I'll run you through." Song Yun quickly drew his spear, his grip on the weapon incredibly steady. In the next instant, his spear sliced off both arms of the robot the old man was piloting. The limbs of his soul general were sent flying in all directions, each landing in a different corner. Inside the cockpit, the old man wasn't dead yet, and he screamed in fury. But now, he had to face two massive Lubus all by himself. Only then did he truly grasp the terrifying threat looming over him. From within Lubu's iron shell, Song Yun's voice rang out. "Impersonating members of the Mijia division to sneak into the Tiandu kingdom, and you even got your hands on the Royal Guard's soul generals? Spit it out. What are you scum from the Diluan kingdom really planning?" At that, even through her armor, the surprise in Atan's voice was audible. "What? Dilun? Are they people from the northern nation in disguise?" At this, Song Yun looked at her with a scornful gaze. "You don't seriously think these losers are from the secret spy division of Tiandu, do you?" But it seemed Atan really did think so, because when he hit the nail on the head, her face flushed bright red with embarrassment. Hearing his cover blown, the old captain's face darkened as he asked, "How did you see through it and walk away?" "It was nothing." Then the old man roared maniacally, "All of you, go to hell! Long live the general!" From behind, Atan quickly realized he was burning his soul power. He was going to self-destruct. Hearing this, Song Yun immediately said, "Trying to self-destruct on me? Not a chance." Atan, beside him, also realized what he was planning. Is it possible to use a resonant wave of similar soul power to suppress a self-destruction? Song Yun channeled all his soul power into his fist, ready to punch the old man in the face. Inside the Lubu soul general, he yelled, "Get out of my sight!" One punch from Song Yun seemed to knock the very soul out of the old man, making his aged soul power seem like nothing. Song Yun's punch was so strong that the man was sent flying out of sight. Only after a long moment did he reappear, falling from the sky, with blood spraying from his nose. According to Newton's third law, an object acted upon by a force will be met with an equal and opposite reaction, and the same applied to him. Because the punch was so powerful, the landing was just as hard. At that moment, Song Yun was still inside Lubu, but he decided to use soul release to finish the old man off. Finally, the man was beaten until he was sprawled out on the ground. He seemed to be completely unconscious, dead to the world. But Song Yun wasn't done with him yet. He moved closer and pried the old man's mouth open to examine it. He analyzed. Behind the second tooth on the left, there's a trace of potent poison used for suicide. If I'm not mistaken, you're actually a subordinate of Ye Wang. Despite being unconscious, hearing these words from Song Yun forced the old man to open his eyes and ask, "How? How do you know of General Ye Wang?" Atan was also shocked by the name Song Yun had just uttered. She exclaimed, "Could it be? the king of mercenaries, commander of the 330,000 remnants of Taihe, the sword saint of the Taihe people who possesses the Ganjiang Soul General, Ye Wang. The one who possesses the Ganjiang Soul General is the sword saint from the sunken island nation of Taihe. Based on what Song Yun knew from his past life, he had led the remnants of Taihe and joined the Chang Legion as a mercenary. In the years that followed, Ye Wang continuously wreaked havoc on the battlefield, invading the Tian nation. In his previous life, he had joined the Xuanjia Guards and fought him several times on the battlefield, but the Yunxiang of that life had flawed soul veins and was no match for Ye Wang. As the memory ended, he lowered his head, pressing his forehead and sighing. Now, thinking back on these things, the sword scar he left by his left eye began to ache. Hearing this, Atan immediately asked with confusion what Song Yun had just said. He just knelt silently on one knee, saying it was nothing. Then, Yunxiang stood up and pointed at the captain lying on the ground. "I'm leaving this one to you. Take him back to Taiyuan for interrogation." Her face instantly darkened, her eyebrows knitting together as she stared daggers at him. In a flash, Atan had drawn a dagger and thrust it straight towards Song Yun, demanding an answer. "Who in the world are you? Not only can you see through the Dilun Nation's plot, but you also know about Taiyuan. What are you scheming?" Yunxiang just smirked slightly, grabbing her wrist tightly. Taiyuan is a secret organization that promotes peace and prevents civil war among the human factions. Relax, I'm not an enemy to you or to Taiyuan. In a way, my goal and yours are the same. Song Yun's words left Atan stunned. To unite all the human forces and stand against the true enemy, he smiled gently. She still had her brows furrowed, but her expression was no longer grim. Instead, her cheeks were slightly flushed as she pouted at Yunxiang. He seized the opportunity and snatched the dagger from Atan's hand. A second later, the dagger was gone, replaced by a strawberry tanghulu skewer and a storage card. Song Yun smiled and offered the candy to her as she stared in astonishment, and at the same time, he introduced himself. Atan shyly raised her hand to take the skewer. Then, completely confused, she watched his figure as he silently turned his back to walk away. "I'm sorry, Atan. There are some things I'll tell you when the time is right." She blushed and held up the skewer, wondering how Song Yun knew she liked to eat this. Atan glanced at his retreating figure again and concluded, "What an enigmatic man." Over on the other side, Yunxiang silently sat down next to the pile of bodies and started rummaging through them for something. Only then did she notice the storage card in her hand, wondering what it was. Looking over, she saw him pull out several storage cards, examine them for a moment, and then complain in frustration. "Why are these guys so broke? There's nothing valuable in these storage cards." At that moment, Atan seemed to realize something and pointed angrily at Song Yun, shouting, "So that's what you were doing just now?" Then she suddenly blushed and touched her forehead. "And to think I was just starting to think well of him. I can't believe he only did all that to get a chance to loot the spoils of war." As if reading her mind, Yunxiang frowned slightly. "You're not thinking something rude about me, are you?" She was immediately flustered and guiltily turned her head away with a huff. "Money grubber." Hearing that, Song Yun slowly stood up and replied with a single word, "No." He shook his head slightly, tucking the storage cards he had found into his pocket. "You're still young. You probably don't understand how harsh this world is. Do you know what the two most important words are for making your way in this world?" For some reason, Yunxiang's retreating figure looked a little lonely and desolate. Atan's curiosity was immediately piqued, and she asked him what they were. He pulled his coat open slightly with a wicked grin and answered, "It's money." The answer, not surprisingly, caused countless question marks to appear in her head. Song Yun explained, "First, you need money to be a hero for justice without expecting a reward. Second, there's a saying, wealth, companions, method, and location. As long as you have money, there are 100 ways to quickly raise your cultivation level." She gasped, her eyes wide, wanting to say something but not knowing what. He, on the other hand, was looking extremely pleased with himself. On a small scale, it's the individual. On a large scale, it's the nation. With enough resources and benefits, you can create any problem. And you can also solve any problem. There are no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. As long as we can offer enough benefits, even if they were once our enemies, there are ways to make them work for us. After that, the atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Atan rubbed her chin and nodded. "What you're saying seems to make a lot of sense, even though I don't understand what you're talking about." Hearing that, Song Yun angrily scolded her for such a half-assed answer. Suddenly, a few strange streaks of purple lightning appeared in the distant sky. The sky abruptly darkened, and countless gales began to howl fiercely. He was instantly on high alert. Atan was also puzzled by the strange scene around them. Song Yun suddenly thought of something and his jaw dropped in shock. "A rift? How can that be? The beast tide is arriving earlier than in my past life's memory." Atan had also recognized the rift. Her eyes widened as she muttered 3 words, "Cheng Yuan Ding." Immediately after, Atan whipped around to look at the person tied to the base of the tree and yelled, "It really was you!" Surprised, he also turned his head and exclaimed, It was them? At the base of the ancient tree, the old captain, who had been bowing his head, suddenly took a few deep breaths and then laughed loudly. He bared his bloody teeth and cackled as he spoke. It seems the first squad has completed its mission. Song Yun suddenly asked her, did Taiyuan already know something was going on? Atan fell silent, her brow furrowed with an unreadable expression. Seeing this, he anxiously pleaded, please, tell me. Finally, she frowned, turned her head, and agreed with a look of reluctance. Fine, since you helped me just now. Atan began to speak slowly. According to Taiyuan's intelligence, the Dailun nation seems to have found the technology to artificially create rifts during a previous secret realm exploration. They plan to apply this technology for military purposes. I came to Nanzhou this time to investigate this matter. At this point, she lowered her head grimly. Atan's brow was furrowed in frustration, but I didn't expect to walk right into their ambush. Song Yun also lowered his head, his voice deep. So that's how it is. So it was all a scheme by the Dailun nation. That makes perfect sense. At that moment, the old captain's eyes suddenly bulged as he roared insanely, you two figured it out too late. You're all gonna die. You're both going to die here. In an instant, his face darkened as he shot his hand out and clamped it over the old man's mouth. Song Yun lifted the old man into the air, ignoring his violent struggles. What do you think you're doing? A second later, the old man was convulsing like a landed fish, letting out a horrified scream as lightning from Yunxiang's arm coursed through him. Atan panicked and rushed to intervene. I've already completely destroyed all of his soul meridians. Keeping him alive will be more valuable. With that said, Song Yun released his grip, throwing the man to the ground. The old man rolled several times before coming to a stop at her feet. He walked over and shoved a pill into the old man's gaping mouth, ensuring he wouldn't die. Then, Yunxiang held out a storage card. This is a thank you gift for the intel you shared earlier. It contains elixirs you'll need. I have to get back to Yuanding City immediately. Are you coming with me? Atan hurriedly received it with both hands, showing her respect. She bowed her head slightly in apology. I have to return to the Nanzhou branch. It's not that I'd watch the residents of Yuanding City die and do nothing. I just have a more important mission. I'm sure the City Guard and the Mech Martial Academy can handle this. Song Yun immediately smiled understandingly and waved his hand. You don't have to say it. I get it. Just take this long-haired guy with you first. He then turned away and summoned the system. Can I use Lubu's Spirit General Beast, the Crimson Flame Dragon Steed? A moment later, the system replied that he could force its use, but it would cost 3 times the normal soul power. Hearing this, Song Yun decisively threw 3 pills into his mouth and agreed. Atan watched, her jaw dropping in astonishment. 3-star soul-continuing pills. Those cost 50,000 Tiandu coins apiece, and he just took 3 at once. He stood still in the vast forest, 2 circles of soul energy, one large, one small, forming around his body. As he finished, a dazzling pillar of light shot straight up into the sky. She looked up and, realizing something, gasped. Wait a minute. Could it be? The body of a spirit beast gradually materialized, with a spirit general riding on its back. The crimson flame dragon slowly took form in the air, its eyes blazing red. A moment later, Atan stared at Song Yun riding on its back and shouted in amazement, a spirit form crimson flame dragon steed. Her eyes widened in disbelief. That's a spirit general beast that can only be unlocked at the heaven tier. Even I can't use it. How can he? As she thought this, Atan suddenly remembered something. That's right, the Mech Martial Academy's Zuo Si. According to Taiyuan's intelligence, the legendary spirit general Zuo Qi has the ability to transform into other spirit generals. Could this man be the owner of the Zuo Qi spirit general? At that thought, she suddenly shouted Song Yun's name, making him turn back in surprise. The Weiliang Kingdom's target this time is related to Zuo Si. You have to be careful. Atan cupped her hands around her mouth, shouting with all her strength. After hearing her, Song Yun left her with a thanks and soared into the sky. Where he had stood, only a sunken crater and a few lingering sparks of lightning remained. Atan looked down, breaking into a nervous sweat. Since when did the Tiandu Kingdom have such a mysterious powerhouse? She grimly pulled up her collar, covering her mouth as she thought of the Zuosi spirit general. This could shatter the balance of power between the 3 kingdoms and become the spark that ignites a war. I have to report this to the organization immediately. Meanwhile, Song Yun was rocketing forward on the back of the Crimson Flame Dragon. It tore through the air like a raging wind. He leaned forward, his eyes fixed ahead. So the Yilin Kingdom created the rift, all to steal the Zuo Si Soul Jade. No wonder in my past life's memories, the Zuo Si Soul Jade's whereabouts were unknown after the beast tied. Song Yun wondered if the rift had appeared earlier because of him, either because he interfered with the Zuo Si Soul Jade this morning, or because he intervened in the ambush on Atan. It doesn't matter. If my actions can change history, then I have to save them. Having made his decision, Yunxiang shouted a command, and the Crimson Flame Dragon accelerated, blasting forward like a rocket. By now, Yuanding City was engulfed in towering flames and smoke. In the West District, The desperate cries for help from the suffering people mixed with the crackling of the blaze. Guo Yuan was on one knee, leaning her entire weight on her sword just to keep from collapsing. At that moment, the Yuanding City Guard, the 5th Squad of the West District Garrison, had arrived to block the path of several savage beasts. "Instructor Guo, are you all right?" 2 guardsmen walked over, carefully helping her to her feet. The woman called Instructor Guo was Guo Yuan, an early Xuan-tier instructor from the Mech Martial Academy. She frowned, panting heavily. "Captain Chu, thank you for your help just now." Without turning around, he replied, "Don't mention it. I should be the one thanking you for bringing your students as reinforcements." The speaker was Zhu Tong, captain of the 5th Squad of the West District Garrison and a peak Huang-tier warrior. He frowned, hesitating, only to have them sacrifice themselves here. Zhu Tong looked in anguish at the bodies of the students strewn across the ground. At this, he turned furiously toward the giant beasts before them and cursed, "You goddamn monsters!" Suddenly, one of the guardsmen shouted to Zhu Tong, "2 more on the left!" Mu yelled out a panicked warning. "Another one appearing at our 11 o'clock. Suddenly, a guardsman started, having noticed something. Known as 4 Eyes, he frowned, trembling as he counted the number of beasts. A moment later, he announced in horror, "We're screwed. There are 40 of them on the right." The remaining men were instantly terrified. "There are only a few of us left. We can't hold out much longer. Should we retreat?" Zhu Tong immediately roared, "We can't retreat. Our orders are to defend this position to the death and stop the beasts from breaking the perimeter. We cannot let our brothers' sacrifices be in vain. We soldiers of Tiandu face mountains of blades and seas of fire, but we never retreat. Tiandu will be victorious." He raised his sword and declared this resoundingly. The others, their spirits ignited by his resolve, roared in unison, "Tiandu will be victorious." The 2 guardsmen supporting Guo Yuan also stared grimly ahead. No one noticed what was happening far behind them. Behind a crumbled wall, 2 civilians were fearfully peeking out. Zhu Tong began giving orders. "Instructor Guo, we'll hold these beasts back. Use this chance to lead the students and the civilians behind us to retreat first." As he finished speaking, he took off and launched himself into the air. Zhu Tong led the charge, with 2 guardsmen following close behind. They let out a unified battle cry, "Kill!" The beasts were just as fierce, opening their massive fang-filled maws and roaring back. Both sides charged straight at each other, filled with a do-or-die intensity. Zhu Tong swung his sword down, but the beast caught the blade. Suddenly, where did he pull another sword from? While it was occupied with the first sword, Zhu Tong used the second to land a painful strike on the beast. Elsewhere, Mu Fenyun asked, "Instructor Guo, are we supposed to retreat?" Guo Yuan lowered her head. "I just sent a request for reinforcements to headquarters. Hold on a little longer. They should be here soon." Hearing that, he immediately raised his sword and charged forward to help the others fighting. Mu had barely charged in when a beast sent him flying, knocking his sword from his hand. Instantly, another beast pinned his head down with its claws before Mu even had a chance to defend himself. Then, it opened its blood-red, bottomless maw, intending to swallow him whole, despite Mu's desperate struggles. Just like that, one of his arms was bitten clean off. Mu broke out in a cold sweat, screaming in agony. Nearby, 4 Eyes, who was struggling with his own beast, screamed Mu's name. He panicked when he saw the other beast opening its mouth again, about to devour what was left of his teammate. Just then, a roar came from nowhere. "Get off him!" Following the shout, Zhu Tong slammed his foot into the beast's body, making it release Mu in pain. He anxiously helped Mu up from the ground, telling him to get back on his feet. Meanwhile, 4 Eyes was grabbed by the leg, and a beast was trying to slam him into the ground hard enough to leave a crater. Another guardsman, holding back a beast's massive jaw, anxiously turned and called out to him. The beast suddenly lashed out with its sharp claws. The guardsman was instantly sent flying, crashing to the ground. A moment later, the few survivors gathered together, facing the beasts that had surrounded them. One guardsman was pinned to the ground by a beast's massive, clawed foot. At the same time, 4 Eyes was being pulled by his arms and legs, on the verge of being torn apart. Zhu Tong impatiently asked Guo Yuan, "Why aren't the reinforcements here yet?" He turned his head and hesitated. We're not really going to die here, are we?" The beast immediately extended its sharp claws. With a swipe of its arm, it knocked Guo Yuan's sword away, causing her to lose her balance and fall backward. A nearby Wei Yuan-type mecha pilot saw this and screamed in panic, "Instructor Guo!" The beast balled its hand into a fist, raised it high, and prepared to strike Guo Yuan. The pilot of that Wei Yuan type was terrified and helpless as she witnessed the scene. At that moment, all she could do was lie there and pray silently, "Oh gods, please, anyone, send anyone." Inside the robot's body, Guo Yuan struggled, hoping someone would come and save them. The people hiding behind the ruined wall also watched the situation with bated breath. Right now, all they could do was silently pray for help. Seeing the dangerous situation, Chu Dong shouted frantically, "Why isn't the Wei Yuan type mecha moving?" The beast quickly decided to strike, its fist immediately coming down. Guo Yuan couldn't dodge, she could only lower her head and accept the blow. Inside, the pilot also turned her head away, not daring to look directly at the beast. Just as she was awaiting death, a blue light suddenly flashed. The beam of light pierced through the beast right in front of Guo Yuan. Chu Dong was utterly stunned by what he had just seen. The other robots were all startled by this sudden turn of events. The group hiding behind the wall was also bewildered, wondering what that was. The thing landed with such force that it kicked up a thick cloud of dust. After the dust settled a bit, they could clearly see it was a spear. The pack of beasts was completely confused by this sight. From behind the dust cloud, a large figure slowly approached. Every one of his footsteps carried an intimidating power. He stretched out his hand to control his power, and a blue light emanated from his palm. The nearby spear sensed the power and began to dematerialize. Before everyone's eyes, the spear dissolved into floating specks of blue light. These specks flew toward Song Yun's hand and gradually coalesced. A complete spear quickly appeared in his grasp. He raised the spear and twirled it a few times in the air. Then, Song Yun spurred the red flame fire dragon to charge straight ahead. The beasts gathered together, growling as they observed the situation. Then they too ferociously charged at him. Song Yun was like a rushing blue flame. As he drew near, he gripped the spear with both hands and unleashed a powerful swing towards the beasts. A huge explosion immediately erupted in front of him, sending beast carcasses flying into the air. He seized the opportunity to strike again. Everywhere he struck, things exploded. The beasts were killed before they could even attack. Chu Dong's eyes went wide with shock and alarm as he watched. Everyone observing from the sidelines was terrified by the sight. Someone stammered and asked the instructor, Is this the backup you called for? But Guo Yuan was just as baffled, having no idea what was happening. Chu Dong couldn't help but wonder, what kind of spirit soul general is this? It's too strong. After clearing out the beasts, Song Yun rode majestically through the smoke and shouted, Spirit release! The Lubu spirit soul general and the red flame fire dragon instantly vanished. Everything disappeared, leaving only him floating in a sphere in midair. Song Yun slowly descended to the ground, and the sphere vanished as he did. Everyone nervously watched from behind the wall. As he walked over, he explained, Everyone, no need to be tense. I'm just a passerby. When he reached a flag bearer lying motionless on the ground, Song Yun bent down and said, The flag of the Tianshang kingdom should not be on the ground. He immediately took the flag from the man's hand and planted it firmly in the ground. Holding the flag high, Song Yun shouted proudly, Tianshang will be victorious. Everyone else roared along with him, Tianshang will be victorious. Then, all the Wei Yuan-type mechas stood up, shouting in unison. Seeing this, the people hiding behind the wall cheered excitedly. This is great! We're saved! Inside her robot, Guo Yuan stared intently at Song Yun's every move. She muttered suspiciously, That's the uniform of the Jiwu Academy. How can there be an expert of this caliber in the academy? Just then, he suddenly noticed something. It turned out he'd spotted Shen Ruowei lying unconscious nearby. Song Yun immediately walked over and said, This one's not dead yet. It's her lucky day she ran into me. He reached over, picked up the amulet next to her, and said, Consider this the price for saving you. I'm taking your marriage agreement. Then, Song Yun took out a medicinal pill and placed it in Shen Ruowei's mouth before gently picking her up and carrying her towards the others. Chu Dong bowed his head gratefully and said, Thank you, Senior, for your help. He introduced himself. I am Chu Dong, captain of the West City District Patrol Team. Hearing this, someone behind him whispered awkwardly, Captain, this guy looks like a student from the Jiwu Academy. Is it really appropriate to call him Senior? This completely enraged Chu Dong, who snapped, Shut up! In knowledge, there is no first or last. The strong are to be respected, but Song Yun paid it no mind. He handed Shen Ruowei to them and said, No need for formalities. This student can still be saved. I've already given her a spring rejuvenation pill. I'll leave her to you now. After handing her over, he immediately turned to leave under Guo Yuan's probing gaze. In the end, she couldn't help but ask, Are you a student at our Jiwu Academy? What class are you in? Song Yun didn't stop, but suddenly threw something behind him. Chu Dong easily caught it. It looked like a box of medicinal pills. Before leaving, he explained, My name is Song Yun. I was just passing by coincidentally. You all continue defending this area. I'm going to check on other places. See you again someday. Then, he immediately summoned his spirit soul general. Song Yun mounted the red flame fire dragon and quickly departed in front of everyone. Watching him leave, Guo Yuan wondered to herself, his aura only feels like it's at the peak yellow rank. Why is he so strong? Could he be hiding his true level? Then she turned back and asked, What did he throw to you just now? Chu Dong looked at the box in his hand with a puzzled expression. After a moment, he shouted in disbelief, This is a soul continuation pill. Someone who didn't know what that was immediately asked him what it was. Someone in the group knew and quickly explained, I heard it's a 3-star pill that can replenish soul power. They're extremely rare. At auction, a single pill can go for up to 50,000 Tianshang yuan. Hearing this, Everyone gasped in shock. This one bottle is my entire year's salary. This senior is so generous. Ignoring their huddled discussion, Guo Yuan stared in the direction he had left, wondering, Song Yun, who in the world are you? Just then, Shen Ruowei, who was in her arms, suddenly let out a soft groan. She slowly opened her eyes, and the name Song Yun escaped her lips. Song Yun moved swiftly towards the Cheng Yuan cauldron, relentlessly swinging his spear, flashing beams of blue light. Riding atop the red flame fire dragon, Song Yun held his spear proudly and charged forward. He swung his spear with wind-splitting speed, taking down the beast before it could even attack. And so, everywhere Song Yun went, the ground was littered with the corpses of beasts. Suddenly, someone appeared right where he had just passed. Shu Heming stood leisurely atop the head of a giant beast. He stared intently at Song Yun's retreating back. Then, Shu Heming let out an amused chuckle and said, "He's clearly just some brat at the peak yellow rank." Meanwhile, at the Jiwu Academy's main headquarters, the Qing Tower stood as majestic as ever. In the command room, the large screen was displaying scenes of the beasts being dealt with. Shi Jing seriously monitored all the activity on the screen. Xiao Yue sat before the screen, reporting on the situation and stating that reinforcements were needed. Shi Jing pushed up her glasses with one hand and asked, "What's the situation like inside the Jiwu Academy?" She turned back and said, "According to the defense squad's report, it seems someone has set up a formation within the academy grounds to slow down the beasts. Although two squads are in a tough fight, there haven't been any casualties yet." Xiao Yue looked at the screen, about to add something else. She monitored the situation and then said hesitantly, "Guo Yuan's team has sent a report. They received support from some mysterious spirit soul general. The beasts in their area have all been eliminated." Shi Jing asked suspiciously, "A mysterious spirit soul general?" Xiao Yue suddenly exclaimed. The squad at position number 4 also witnessed the mysterious horse-riding spirit soul general and has sent over images. The screen immediately zoomed in on the image of Song Yun controlling the Lubu spirit soul general. The moment she saw it, she recognized it and cried out, "Wait a minute, that's the Sky Piercer halberd," Shi Jing asked in alarm. "Could this be the Lubu spirit soul general?" Hearing that, Xiao Yue asked curiously, "Headmaster, you know of this spirit soul general?" She explained, "Among men, Lubu, among horses, red hair." According to the classified documents in the secret archives of the Tiandu nation, Lu Bu was a fierce general of unparalleled martial might. The Sky Piercer halberd was his signature weapon. To use that name, one would probably need to have terrifying combat power to match. After running the calculations, Xiao Yue urgently reported that she had figured out its movement trajectory. The destination of this Soul General is the Mech Arts Academy. Shi Jing pondered deeply. Why would the Soul General Lu Bu appear now? Is its target the Mech Arts Academy? Are you friend or foe? At that moment, countless sparks flickered and floated outside the Mech Arts Academy. Song Yun stopped in front of the Mech Arts Academy. He assessed the situation. The 12-position tiger wing formation. As expected of Instructor Wu. It looks like there are no casualties over at the training grounds. From inside his mech, he said with relief, "Looks like the deceleration formation we set up earlier is working. Instructor Ao's group should be able to hold out a little longer. Since that's the case, I'll use this chaos to go get CACA's Soul Jade." Then, Song Yun immediately commanded in a loud voice, "Crimson Flame, Dragon Steed, this way." It immediately stomped its feet hard on the ground to build momentum, and they both easily leaped over the high wall. Once that was done, he shouted, "Crimson Flame, Dragon Steed, dematerialize." It quickly vanished. Song Yun controlled the Soul General Lu Bu and jumped up. He found the exact location of the Soul General CAC statue and landed heavily behind it. From inside the mech, he sized up the statue for a moment. Then Song Yun ordered the cockpit to open. The Soul General Lu Bu immediately began to fade away. A diamond-shaped symbol appeared on the mech's chest. The symbol gradually expanded, revealing his figure inside. In just a moment, the symbol opened completely, and Song Yun stepped out. He gently landed one foot after the other on the dusty ground. Wasting no time, Song Yun commanded, "Star-Lord system, scan the Xie statue for me." After his command, the mechanical scanning sound of the system rang out. A few minutes later, it announced that it had locked onto the location of Xie's Soul Jade. Just as Song Yun predicted, the Soul Jade was indeed in the head. He took a running leap onto the Soul General Lu Bu, and from there, jumped again onto the statue of Soul General CAC. Song Yun focused his power and commanded, "Star-Lord system, forcibly extract Xie's Soul Jade for me." Instantly, the continuous sound of cracking rang out. The statue's head began to split open. He channeled power into his arm and said confidently, "Get over here." The Soul Jade of CSE quickly appeared from behind the broken statue fragments, and Song Yun immediately pulled it towards himself. Just then, someone suddenly approached the statue. Lu Yan stopped in his tracks, observing the situation with confusion. He panted and mumbled, "There's someone on the statue." "What's going on?" "The CAC statue. It's been damaged?" After taking a closer look at the green object floating in the air, Lu Yan guessed, could that thing in his hand be the soul jade of the Soul General Xie? Song Yun had already noticed the other person's arrival. He recognized him. It was Lu Yan. Memories of his past life immediately flooded back. Back then, the kid was a new transfer student. He had been hiding behind a bush when the kid suddenly jumped out. Lu Yan was even cautiously observing the surroundings. In his past life, it must have been on this very day that Song Yun accidentally went into the girl's locker room and ran into Lu Yan. At that time, the kid was stunned and pointed at him, asking loudly, "Who are you?" He immediately signaled for Lu Yan to be quiet, but unfortunately for them, He Yan, who was inside, heard the noise and yelled, "Song Yun, you rotten pervert! This time you even dared to bring someone else to peek!" Then, a group of female students immediately grabbed clubs and chased after them, cursing non-stop and demanding to tie him up and hand him over to the principal. The kid ran while pleading his innocence, while he playfully taunted them. In the end, they were both caught and brought to the principal, where they were assigned their fate. Lu Yan, you will join Song Yun's group in Class 10. Tied up and beaten to a pulp, he had obediently agreed. Back then, Song Yun had even explained the statue to Lu Yan. "This is the Xie statue. I tried a long time ago. It's a piece of junk, completely useless." Hearing that, Wu Pei said disdainfully, "I have no interest in hearing your useless words. Song Yun, you fight this guy. He Yan, lend your mech to Lu Yan." The two immediately got ready to fight. Lu Yan said politely, "Senior Song, considering we just went through that ordeal together, please go easy on me." He growled back, "You idiot. It's all your fault I got caught back there. I'll settle this score with you, slowly." Back in the present, the kid pointed at Song Yun and stammered, "Who are you?" Having already obtained the soul jade, he answered nonchalantly, "I'm Song Yun, and I'm back," he thought to himself, "meeting again in this life. And the first thing this guy says is exactly the same as in the last one." Hearing this, Lu Yan frowned, feeling like he'd heard that name somewhere before. After a moment of thought, he finally remembered. Lu Yan pointed an accusatory finger. "You're the 3-minute wonder who's been missing for 3 days." Before he could finish his sentence, he realized Song Yun had already vanished. He suddenly appeared behind Lu Yan. Before the kid could say a word, he knocked him unconscious. Lu Yan's body immediately slumped to the ground. After knocking him out, Song Yun felt a pang of guilt and apologized to him. He remembered that, according to his past life, Lu Yan went missing during the battle at the Mech Arts Academy. After that, he became Test Subject 0 in the Wielded Nation's Artificial Host Project, appearing on the battlefield during the invasion of Tiandu as the masked figure, Mask 0. Although Lu Yan was later saved by that group and became one of them, he ultimately died a hero's death. Looking at the kid's slightly awkward figure on the ground, Song Yun felt helpless. But then something occurred to him. Based on his previous theory, if the people from Weilun were the ones who took the soul jade from the Xie statue, then Lu Yan's disappearance was probably because he was captured by them. Come to think of it, Mask 0, who controlled the Soul General Wu Jiao, did bear some resemblance to the Xie statue. If that's the case, then in this timeline, Mask 0 will no longer appear. Although you'll lose the chance to become a hero, you'll also be spared the suffering of being captured by the Weilun Nation. He silently sent a message. Lu Yan, from now on, you can just live peacefully as a normal student. Then, Song Yun considered how he should handle Xieqi's soul jade. He asked aloud, "Star-Lord system, can you analyze this soul jade and replicate the stats of the Soul General Xieqi?" After a moment of analysis, the system reported, "Insufficient authority. Analysis failed. Ownerless soul jade cannot be replicated. It can be absorbed into the Star-Lord system for now, and replicated later when a suitable host is found." He had no choice but to agree to absorb it for now and figure it out later. Now that Xi's soul jade was obtained, Song Yun felt he should go save the instructor and his classmates who were struggling in battle. He looked at the Soul General Lubu before him and thought, "In my original plan, I never expected to obtain Lubu before the beast tide. Having it appear in front of them doesn't fit my elegant and low-key style." Song Yun raised his hand and shouted, "Retract Lubu." Without missing a beat, he took out the soul talisman he had picked up. According to the plan, using the Wei Yuan should be enough to deal with the beasts in the Mech Arts Academy. So, this soul talisman has its use. Yun Xiang was a bit skeptical and asked the Star-Lord system, "Can you replicate the Wei Yuan model?" It loaded for a few seconds, then an announcement rang out. Replication failed. Data source not found in the StarNet. Hearing this, he asked further, "So, you can only replicate authentic items created in ancient times? You don't support the production of fakes? Is that it?" The system immediately denied it and told Yun Xiang to figure it out himself. He didn't ask any more questions and accepted the answer. A second later, Yun Xiang commanded, "Soul General Wei Yuan model, appear." The Wei Yuan model Soul General obeyed and quickly assembled, forming piece by piece with great speed, until finally, its head was formed. A majestic Wei Yuan model Soul General appeared right before Yunxiang. He looked at it and his lips curled into a slight smile. The Wei Yuan model. How nostalgic. Song Yun deftly swiped his hand across the item information panel to browse. The 33 light crossbows, the beast head round shield, and the standard issue Tiandu longsword. But to him, none of this Academy-issued equipment was any good. Yunxiang could only frown as he looked through them. In the end, he decided to make do with two weapons, the 33 light crossbows and the longsword. Van Tuong forced a smile and announced, "Just lie there for a bit. I've got to go save someone else first." True to his word, he began to control the Wei Yuanxi spirit soul. He quickly leaped high into the air. The entire city was now engulfed in a sea of fire, with everything being burned to cinders. A ferocious beast lunged forward, wanting to devour its prey. Terrified, He Yan shielded herself with her hands, screaming uncontrollably. Suddenly, the beast's arm seemed to be forced to slow down. The girl, raising her hand to block, was also a bit surprised. Even though the beast was forcibly slowed, it still landed a blow that sent He Yan flying. She stared at the beast, her mind filled with questions. The beast's movement seemed to have been slowed by some kind of power. She didn't know why, but she was just glad to be alive. He Yan was sent flying, her back slamming into a stone wall so hard it left a large crater. The beast opened its maw wide and roared. So close to death, she screamed continuously in despair. 4 arrows of light shot out from nowhere. They embedded themselves directly into the beast, taking it completely by surprise. It slowly turned its head, its eyes blazing with fury, searching for the one who had wounded it. A powerful robotic leg landed lightly on the ground. The crossbow used to shoot the beast was still smoking. Van Tuong quickly retracted the crossbow. He frowned in disapproval. Just as I thought, the ranged weapons of this era are still too weak. The beast instantly dashed forward, targeting Van Tuong for its attack. It swung a powerful slash, but he dodged it with ease. Van Tuong then tightened his grip on his sword. He and the beast dashed past each other, both aiming to inflict damage. Both were startled, turning back to regard each other warily. The beast was quick to slash with its claws. He didn't just stand there and take it, carving countless slashes into its body with his sword. From a distance, Van Tuong built up speed and charged toward the beast. In a single motion, he leaped high above the beast's head. It couldn't react in time to his speed and was stabbed from above by Van Tuong's sword. The immense pressure forced the beast to its knees, unable to stand. After landing the strike, he immediately backed away, putting distance between himself and the beast. Its slime slowly began to ooze out. Watching all this, He Yan couldn't help but exclaim, "This guy is so strong. His moves seem even more powerful than Instructor Ao's." Van Tuong turned around and said, "The Wei Yuanxi's single sword isn't all that great. All those slashes were just like scratching an itch." At that, Van Tuong grinned. "Spirit host system, can you forge me Lubu's Sky Piercer halberd?" Instantly, the sword in the Wei Yuanxi's hand dissolved, replaced by an enormous and powerful-looking halberd. He was very satisfied to receive such a fine weapon. Seeing the massive halberd before her, He Yan's jaw dropped in utter astonishment. She couldn't contain her excitement, marveling endlessly at its sheer size. Meanwhile, the beast renewed its attack on Song Yun. It charged straight at him, its claws ready to strike. Gripping the Sky Piercer halberd tightly, Song Yun advanced without hesitation. His fierce demeanor would show it who was the stronger one. A halberd strike and a claw swipe clashed simultaneously. Neither side held back, each aiming for a fatal blow. After the attack, he stood majestically without a single scratch, while the beast was now covered in wounds, a fresh gash on its body. And then, before it could even make a sound, he sliced it in two. The beast was dead. Its corpse lay on the ground as smoke began to rise from it. He Yan witnessed this, unable to believe her eyes. All she could do was cry out, "A one-hit kill! How is he so strong?" Van Tuong walked over to He Yan and asked, "Are you okay?" The class president's eyes were now filled with admiration and fascination. She replied shyly, "I'm fine, thank you for saving me." Without waiting for He Yan to ask anything else, he turned his back on her, signaling that the matter was over. He said, "Don't mention it." With that, he flew straight up into the sky, leaving a stunned He Yan to realize she hadn't even had a chance to ask her savior's name. Sitting there, gazing at the sky, she thought to herself, "That guy's voice sounds so familiar." Then she suddenly remembered something she'd missed. He had called her class president, which made her wonder. The Mecha Martial Institute's dormitory area had suffered heavy losses from the attacks, with thick smoke billowing from multiple places. The martial guards were holding a turtle shell formation, waiting for a chance to counterattack as the horde of beasts advanced relentlessly. Realizing that waiting was not an option, Thuong Quan Gam charged forward to carve a bloody path, leaving Quach Vien to shout after her, "Don't rush ahead, get back to the turtle shell formation." Thuong Quan moved with incredible speed, her twin swords slicing the beasts in half in an instant. She dashed in front of one and excitedly unleashed a flurry of slashes on it. She was so thrilled, she let out a delighted laugh. Someone inside the formation sighed. It's useless. That senior instructor goes berserk whenever she fights. Do we need to provide backup for our senior? Thuong Quan continued to frantically hack the beasts to pieces, her excitement at its peak. She struck decisively. It seemed these monsters were no match for a peak Huang rank fighter like her. Suddenly, a beast lunged up from behind Thuong Quan. Seeing this, the person in the formation worriedly shouted a warning. Watch out! She had already shot up into the sky, calling back, "It won't hit me." Unexpectedly, the beast also leaped up behind her, its eyes cold and filled with killing intent. Sensing something was wrong, Thuong Quan turned her head, but it was too late. The monster threw a powerful punch at her. The blow sent her crashing to the ground with a powerful aftershock. She coughed up blood from the internal damage. Thuong Quan was furious. She was so enraged, she cursed at it. However, the beast was quick to dive down, pinning her to the ground with its 2 legs. The scene descended into chaos. Thuong Quan was immobilized, unable to move, as beasts closed in on her. Inside the formation, the remaining martial guards were in an uproar. One of them said worriedly, "Our senior is surrounded. What do we do, instructor?" The beast opened its mouth wide, its sharp teeth ready to tear her apart. Thuong Quan cried out in terror. In stark contrast to her earlier battle frenzy, she was now completely panicked. Reinforcements had arrived. Song Yun was descending from the sky with his sky piercer halberd. Quick as a flash, he swung the powerful halberd, slicing the beast, pinning Thuong Quan in 2 as he landed in an incredibly cool one-knee pose. She could only stare, dumbfounded and speechless at his power. It turned out that Van Tuong's single strike had killed all the beasts in the area. The tip of the halberd whistled through the wind, its blade looking like it could split the very air in 2. Song Yun spun the halberd in his hand with incredible skill, then rested it on his shoulder in a majestic pose. He couldn't look any cooler. Inside her battle armor, Thuong Quan blushed and murmured shyly, "This guy is way too cool." Her heart was racing. Inside the formation, the others looked on and wondered, "Our senior is saved, but who is that guy?" Witnessing this scene, they couldn't help but be amazed. That power. It must be 100 times greater than our instructors. Realizing his slip of the tongue, he immediately apologized but continued to praise him. But still, he's just too strong, slicing through beasts like they're fruit. Since when did our martial academy have someone this powerful? As he was posing, a system notification sounded, warning that his spirit power was insufficient. The system informed Van Tuong that his spirit power was at 5% and would be deactivated in 40 seconds. Hearing this, he could only manage a wry smile. The burden of the Sky Piercer halberd was still a bit too heavy for the Wei Yuan Shi. After the initial shock wore off, Thuong Quan suddenly felt a wave of pain. She cried out, but still tried to crawl to her feet, not wanting to look pathetic in front of her hero. Seeing this, he went over to help her up and asked if she was injured. Thuong Quan's face flushed red with embarrassment. He asked her, "Can you still fight?" But she was still flustered from being so close to her idol. After a moment, she managed to stammer out, I still can." The adoring look on her face never faded as she gazed at him. Seeing this strange sight, her juniors inside the formation were puzzled. Why did her voice suddenly become so gentle? It was like she'd turned into a different person. A drill instructor's voice cut through the romantic scene. He yelled at Yun Xiang to go provide support instead of just standing there dazed. The halberd on his shoulder flew towards them, landing right in the middle of the savage beasts, making it seem like he was completely surrounded. But he wasn't. A look of contempt crossed his face, and with a cold snort just as before, he swung his halberd with devastating power, slicing the nearest beasts in half and moving like the wind. Wherever he went, the beasts were torn to shreds. Finally, the beast attacking the instructor who was defending with a shield was also taken care of with ease by Yun Xiang. The man quickly bowed his head in gratitude. The instructor then raised his sword high and ordered a counterattack, turning the tide of the battle. Hu Qing battle formation, 10 assault mechs on the field. The entire squad's morale was soaring. They fell into line, following the command of their classmate wielding that ultimate weapon. A unified shout rang out as the formation was set. This formation excelled at taking down targets quickly. Shangguan was busy counting the units, wondering if there was an extra robot. After the whole squad charged forward shouting, "Kill!" she was still flustered, not understanding what was happening. A moment later it dawned on her and she blurted out, "What? Am I the extra robot?" She stood there flustered, wondering what she should do. Shangguan quickly said to the person in front of her, "You, come with me. We'll provide support from the rear." The guy was startled by the unfamiliar voice behind him and jumped when he realized it was Shangguan. She rushed forward, her voice soft as she said, "Let's go. Be careful." The guy was still bewildered. He was more scared than surprised. Why was Shangguan's voice so gentle? This wasn't the senior he knew. Leading the formation, Yun Xiang began the sweep. He flew up and swung his halberd, unleashing an incredibly powerful wave of energy. It shot forward like a razor-sharp blade, cutting through everything in its path. On the other side, the instructor gave a command. "Right wing, 5 mechs, prepare." They immediately formed an attack line. Swinging her sword to attack, she yelled to surround and kill the last remaining beast. The 5 mechs struck as one, landing multiple blows on the creature. Seeing this, Yunxiang was a bit surprised, but then he just scoffed, thinking that 5 Uivian grade mechs were barely stronger than a single evil-class beast. The system's warning sounded again. Soul power, insufficient, 2% remaining. Form will deactivate in 16 seconds. But he was still pleased, feeling that his soul meridian had begun to recover. Theoretically, he could maintain the Uivian-tuk's armament for over 10 minutes. Yunxiang still faced a few problems. Lubu was strong, but the power consumption was too high for his current level. He would need a soul-continuing pill to replenish his soul power, and using one on these demon fish would be a waste. He continued to ponder. The combination of the Uivian-tuk and the Sky Piercer halberd was a decent balance, guaranteeing power output while also reducing the drain on his soul power. The armaments of the Uivian-tuk in this era were too weak. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as an idea flashed through his mind. After this beast tide was over, he'd find a chance to modify the Uivian-tuk's weapons. Yunxiang's mind raced with a series of new upgrade ideas: Dong Yuanzhu's flying swords, Ao Bing's heavy firepower, the mobility of Cao Ren and Bai Qi. He couldn't hide his triumphant grin. Suddenly, the system alert sounded, pulling him from his thoughts. It warned that his soul power was insufficient and would deactivate in 8 seconds. He returned to reality and realized he had to end the current battle first. The battle had become incredibly fierce, with smoke billowing up from everywhere and shouts echoing to boost morale. They were still fighting desperately. Though they were struggling to eliminate the savage beasts, their spirits remained high. The instructor surveyed the situation and shouted a warning. "Everyone, only 3 left, but don't get careless. Maintain the formation." On the other side, Yunxiang continued to display his overwhelming power. The savage beasts were all dealt with easily by him. He was enthusiastically swinging his halberd when the system displayed a notification. Soul power below 1% will deactivate in 6 seconds. The notification updated, reducing the deactivation time from 6 seconds to 4 seconds. Yunxiang glanced at the situation and noticed there was only 1 beast left, a thoughtful expression on his face. Along with the notification that he would deactivate in 3 seconds, he gripped his Sky Piercer halberd in a throwing stance. The halberd shot forward, its power amplified by the energy enveloping it. The halberd pinned the beast straight through, the surprise attack, leaving it no time to react. From above, Yunxiang descended. He landed on the halberd, creating a small shockwave that instantly killed the beast. His posture couldn't have been more heroic. The system announced that it would deactivate in 1 second. The remaining martial artists, after fighting with all their might to defeat the monsters, looked towards him and gasped in awe. "This guy is way too strong." The system's voice sounded again, informing him that his soul power was depleted and was now deactivating. Accordingly, the battle armor began to slowly fade away. As if witnessing something extraordinary, the remaining fighters all looked on in utter shock. The person revealed from under the armor was none other than Song Yun. He slowly descended as the armor vanished, landing gently, but with an aura that was in no way diminished. One of them was so shocked he blurted out, "How can that be him?" Another turned and asked, "You know this guy?" The atmosphere suddenly became somewhat tense. That same guy pointed his sword at him and scoffed. "He's the famous piece of trash from the first year, Song Yun. They call him the 3-minute man." The instructor turned to look at the guy in surprise, repeating Yunxiang's name with a heart full of doubt. Meanwhile, Shangguan was repeating Yunxiang's name as if trying to memorize the name of her beloved. Her face had turned bright red at some point. He was still panting heavily. The excessive consumption of soul power was leaving him exhausted. In the observation room, Shi Jing, who had witnessed the entire battle, was speechless with surprise. She and Xiao Yue, who was below, exclaimed his name in unison. Their faces were a mask of shocked disbelief, as if they couldn't trust what they had just seen. She frowned, unable to shake her doubts. The person who saved them was actually Song Yun? Xiao Yue turned back to report to Shi Jing that all the monsters in the 8 o'clock direction had been completely wiped out. His Uivian-tuk had scored 23 kills and assisted in 9. Shi Jing's face was rigid. She couldn't believe that Yunxiang could become so powerful. She recalled that he was just a piece of trash with a crippled soul meridian and concluded that he had hidden his abilities very, very well. Suddenly, she questioned herself. If the Sky Piercer halberd appeared, does that mean Lubu was him? But she still couldn't believe that theory. Then, as if realizing something, she frowned, her eyes thoughtful as she murmured, "Xie, the Star Soul General." According to her, the Star Soul General Xie could change its appearance at will, using different illusions to deceive the world. Shi Jing pondered further. Could this kid have become the host of Xieqi? Could the Song family have used their connections to get him into the Mecha Academy, with the goal of targeting the Star Soul General Xie? She decided she had to question him after the beast tide ended. She ordered Xiao Yue to report on the situation in the other sectors. A map of the battle zones appeared before her. On the battlefield, the smoke had stopped rising, with only embers floating in the air. The instructor began a discussion with Instructor Wang, seeing that Yunxiang had deactivated his form and was beginning to regulate his soul power. She suggested that they should also deactivate to avoid consumption and stabilize their own soul power. After the order was given by the instructor, all the battle souls were deactivated. They landed on the ground, every one of them looking utterly exhausted and drained of all strength. Instructor Wang looked at Yunxiang, who had already started regulating his soul power, and ordered everyone to do the same, to avoid being caught with insufficient power if the beasts attacked again. In Yunxiang's hand were 4 cards, enveloped in his soul power. He gave a satisfied smile and declared, "Done." A voice cut through his thoughts. "Hey, student." Instructor Wang had walked over to Yunxiang to thank him, and also to ask for his information. He replied with a confident attitude. "Song Yun, first year, class 10. As he answered, he quickly stuffed the cards into his pants pocket to avoid being seen. The other martial artists exclaimed in shock, "It's really Song Yun? How can a first year be that strong? No way!" Shangguan, her face flushed red, walked towards him and said softly, "Junior Yunxiang, thank you for saving me." "I'm Yinchin. From the first year, huh?" Hearing this, Yunxiang froze, muttering to himself, "Yinchin, it can't be such a coincidence, can it?" In his memory, Yingqian was the host of the Soul General Longshu. In the war between Tiandu and Dilun 5 years from now, the great Shangguan family betrayed Tiandu. This woman had caused Yunxiang countless troubles in his past life. His face darkened as he strode seriously toward her, silently recalling that if it weren't for a stroke of luck, he would have died by her hand. He suddenly grabbed Shangguan's wrist, pulling her hand towards him. Shangguan, stunned, could only cry out in protest. The martial guards outside voiced their disapproval. Who is that punk to dare and grab Senior Shangguan's hand? What is he trying to do? Bringing her hand to his face, he thought smugly, the Soul General Long Shu, obtained without any effort at all. Meanwhile, Shangguan's face was flushed, her heart pounding uncontrollably as she stammered, "What do you want?" Yunxiang immediately commanded the system to replicate the Soul General Long Shu. He thought to himself that he had to take this early opportunity to kill her before she became a real threat. Only then could he eliminate a powerful enemy ahead of time. Shangguan thought Yunxiang grabbing her hand was a prelude to a confession. Coupled with her father's talk of only accepting a live-in son-in-law, she feared he wouldn't agree and had the even bolder idea of sealing the deal. Her father and brother wouldn't be able to object. Suddenly, the system's notification chimed. Replication failed. The target likely does not yet possess the Soul General. Yunxiang glanced at Shangguan, thinking in surprise. He questioned the system. Is there some kind of mistake here? He was certain she was the host of the Soul General Longshu. In his past life, he had replicated Longshu from her body. The system presented its analysis. Possibility 1 is that the current host of the Soul General Longshu has not yet died. Possibility 2 is that the Soul General Longshu has not yet manifested, and its soul jade is in an ownerless state. Yunxiang realized the crucial point. He recalled that the Shangguan family obtained Longshu's soul jade while exploring the Shinba mystic realm. According to his calculations, the Shinba mystic realm would open within the next 10 months. The romantic scene in everyone's eyes was cut short when the instructor signaled them to stop. Only then did he notice he had been holding Shangguan's hand for a bit too long. He quickly let go, feigning embarrassment. "My apologies. I was too impulsive. I didn't hurt you, did I, Senior?" She was already smitten with Yunxiang, blushing and stammering as she said, "It's okay. Junior Song, did you know me before this? Why were you so worked up just now?" Shangguan's junior brothers couldn't help but marvel. Senior's acting so strangely. Even her tone of voice has changed. This isn't the Senior we know. Yunxiang waved his hand dismissively to cover up. "I've just heard stories about Senior Shangguan. I got carried away for a moment." Hearing this, the people around them grew jealous and suspicious. "He's obviously just lusting after her. Stay away from our Senior." Yunxiang took a vial of medicinal pills from his clothes. He then took one out, put it in his mouth, and swallowed. Looking at Shangguan, he gestured for her to hold out her hand. Flustered, she could only hold her hand out towards him, not daring to meet his eyes. Her heart filled with joy, wondering what he wanted to do. Could it be that he wants to hold her hand again? Shangguan's face grew redder by the second as she murmured, "Junior Song, be gentle, don't hurt me." He could only respond helplessly, exasperatedly refuting her. "That's not what I meant. Turn your hand over, palm up." Shangguan looked bewildered, not understanding what was happening. This seemed different from what she had imagined. With that, he placed a pill in her hand. The pill glittered captivatingly. She looked at it in surprise and asked, "A soul recovery pill?" Yunxiang responded with a firm confirmation, directly shocking the instructor into exclaiming, "What? A soul recovery pill?" He rushed over to the two of them to look at the pill. He cried out, "It really is a soul recovery pill. One of these is worth 10 months of my salary." Shangguan's affection for him deepened. Her eyes filled with love. Meanwhile, the instructor could only stare at the pill with longing. As Yunxiang put the vial back in his pocket, he said, "For you. Use it quickly to restore your fighting strength." According to his memories, if he hadn't saved her just now, she would have survived on her own through some trick or sheer luck. But now, he had completely upended the course of history. He had to ensure that Shangguan wouldn't die before obtaining her soul general. Obeying his words, she put the pill in her mouth without hesitation. The instructor watched the pill disappear with even greater regret. Suddenly, it felt as though an abundant stream of power was flowing through her body. Soul power surged within her. She could feel that it was both potent and gentle, and she reaped huge benefits. It felt as if her body was being filled with 1,000,000,000 stars. Shangguan had never experienced a sensation like this. She exclaimed excitedly, "The quality of this soul recovery pill is far better than the one I've used before. They're not even comparable. Is this a supreme grade pill? Even masterpiece grade might not be enough to describe it." The instructor immediately seized the opportunity to approach him, fawning extravagantly. Student Song. You see, the instructor and the other students are also exhausted from fighting. I was wondering if you had any spare soul recovery pills to share with everyone. Yunxiang quickly refused, politely saying that he didn't have that many left. The instructor persisted, "Well, you could at least leave 2 for your instructor. If not, just 1 will do." To avoid being bothered further, he had to placate the instructor. "Although I don't have any spare soul recovery pills, I did prepare this." Everyone was confused, not knowing what he was about to do. He took out 6 cards from his clothes. They radiated a green energy, circling in his hand. Yunxiang threw his hand up high, and the 6 cards flew into the air. He shouted, "Set formation!" The 6 cards spread out evenly in 6 directions. They linked together, creating an enveloping barrier. Tiny particles of energy began to fall from the top of the barrier onto the people below. Immediately, they felt their recovery rate increase by 5 times. Someone exclaimed in surprise, "This is a level 4 formation, a spirit gathering formation." But normally, it only boosts recovery by 2 to 3 times. I've never seen a 5 times boost before. Seeing that everything was settled, Yunxiang told everyone to stay and recuperate. "I'm going over to the martial arts arena to check things out." He took out Wei Yuanxi's card, preparing to deploy it, and bid farewell to everyone there. He shouted, "Soul General, manifest!" Wei Yuanxi appeared once more, his posture as imposing as ever. He dashed off, leaving everyone with the words, "We'll meet again, if fate allows." Unwilling to part with him here, Shangguan called after him, "Wait, I'm going with you." Taking out her summoning card, her eyes showed a resolute expression. As she shouted, "Soul General, manifest!" she chased after him, leaving the bewildered instructor behind. He shouted after them in frustration, "Shangguan, you get back here. We have to continue defending this position." The only reply was the consoling voices of the remaining people. "Don't bother calling, instructor. They're long gone." Worried, she quickly spoke up to ask about her comrade's situation. In the distance, other vicious beasts approached. The beasts appeared with their mouths wide open, smoke rising from them, revealing that the recent cannon barrages were their doing. The difference here was that they weren't standing close to the group, but were positioned quite far from the battlefield. Oh boy noticed the anomaly, thinking to herself, "So they're not coming any closer." The vicious beasts had discovered that close combat would be slowed down by the strange formation, so they had resorted to firing from a distance. Before Oh Boy's team could even stabilize their formation, the beasts began gathering energy for their next wave of attacks. A man had just shouted a warning that the next volley was coming, and to prepare for defense. With that, he raised his shield, ready to defend. Oh Boy spun around and yelled, rejecting the idea. "Don't! Scatter now! The Ui Vu Thuk's shields can't block this type of attack." Suddenly, a beam of light shot down from the sky, carrying with it a terrifying surge of power. She exclaimed in utter confusion, surprised by that immense power. The beam of light flew forward, pierced through a vicious beast, and its power was so terrifying that it destroyed an entire building before finally stopping. The noise stopped, and what appeared was a heavenly halberd, pinned straight into a building after its rampage. The vicious beasts realized a new enemy had attacked and turned to snarl menacingly in that direction. They changed their target, preparing to launch a barrage at the new enemy. Down below, Oh Boy's group could only stare blankly at where the tremor had come from, repeatedly asking who did it. Over here, Van Tuong, with a cold and sharp expression, let out a small smile. Looked like he wasn't too late. He raised his hand to summon the halberd back to him, and it immediately began to slowly appear. The halberd gradually materialized in his hand, its aura not diminishing in the slightest, but instead seeming to grow stronger. The vicious beasts began their mass barrage towards Van Tuong, beams of energy shooting through the air. Worried for him, Oh Boy shouted a warning. "Someone, get out of the way." Van Tuong gathered soul power at his feet to aid his movement, accumulating just enough to avoid any waste. He used it to glide lightly across the ground. He slid across the ground with incredible grace, dodging the cannonades. Those attacks couldn't even touch him. Gliding towards them, he swung his halberd at a vicious beast, instantly slicing it in two. A flurry of strikes rained down, and the vicious beasts couldn't fight back against such terrifying power. Oh Boy witnessed this in stunned admiration. That person used that tiny bit of soul power at his feet to launch himself, using incredible footwork to slide out of position in a near-floating state. I can't believe such a high-level skill exists. And that massive halberd, too. I've never heard of the Uivu Thuk having a weapon like that. Van Tuong continued his performance. The more powerfully he swung his halberd, the more Aboy wondered, who exactly is this person attacking the vicious beasts? The martial guards below could only marvel. The mech this person is using. Isn't that one of our academy mechs? An academy mech can do that? Even Cheng Yi spoke up, unconvinced. Who is this guy? He's unbelievably strong. Oh Boy turned and said decisively, this expert's combat power is at least equivalent to 30 Cheng Yi's. He, on the other hand, had no idea why she was looking at him. The vicious beasts continued their assault on Van Tuong, relentlessly firing at him. These beams didn't trouble him in the slightest. Van Tuong easily dodged them. Realizing single shots couldn't hurt him, they switched to firing in clusters. Countless beams were fired, yet he still dodged them with ease. He weaved through the falling rain of energy flawlessly. Oh Boy couldn't help but exclaim in shock, that movement technique. That's the 7-star steps of the Mystic Armor Guard. Van Tuong leaped high into the air, swinging his halberd down in a powerful slash. The blade's energy shot forward with immense force. The beast that was hit could only roar in agony before being split in two. Oh Boy was still in a daze. She couldn't understand how the ultimate technique of the martial saint of the 8 generals, the falling moon slash, could be executed so smoothly by a piddling academy mech. As Van Tuong dodged, he counted the remaining vicious beasts. After a quick scan, there were only 4 left. As he swung his halberd toward them, he counted down from 4, and instantly, 1 was taken down. Next, the count of 3 was heard, and another unlucky beast met the same fate. He was mercilessly wiping them out. The second to last one was also eliminated. A bold thought flashed through Cheng Yi's mind. This guy took out a dozen vicious beasts in a moment. If I were that strong, forget Instructor Ao. I might even have to beg the dean's secretary to be my master. Oh Boy heard his whisper and threatened angrily. Do you dare repeat what you just said? He could only stammer that he was just joking to liven things up, inspired by the master's imposing aura. The last remaining vicious beast refused to give up. It fired a cluster of beams at Van Tuong, but he still dodged. He held his halberd tightly, ready for the counterattack. An extremely powerful strike was unleashed with a loud roar. The final scene was the last vicious beast being helplessly cleaved in 2. He stood there in a majestic pose and spoke with satisfaction. All taken care of. The system also announced, soul power insufficient. Forcible deactivation will commence immediately. Oh Boy could only marvel. He's too strong, killing over a dozen in just a few short seconds. At this rate, even 50 Cheng Yis wouldn't be his match. In the distance, Shangguan was running towards them, panting heavily. As she ran, she called out, Song Yun, wait for me. Her eyes were filled with an inseparable infatuation. Oh Boy was bewildered. She uttered, what? Song Yun? The name sent an ultimate shock through her. It was the same for Cheng Yi. He too was stunned to hear the name Song Yun. The students broke into a commotion, whispering amongst themselves. Who is Song Yun? Is that the master's name? Oh Boy gripped her twin swords and walked step by step towards him. Seeing this, Shangguan was extremely surprised by her actions. Pointing her sword straight at him, Oh Boy questioned, who on earth are you? At the same time, his battle armor deactivated, slowly dissolving into the air. The battle armor vanished, revealing the silhouette of a man slowly descending. Song Yun's form gradually appeared. One side of his martial arts uniform materialized, then the other, implicitly confirming to the others that this was someone from the academy. He landed gently, gracefully, but with an undeniable presence. The students erupted in discussion again. He's wearing the Martial Academy uniform. The master from before was a student? How is he so strong? Cheng Yi was shocked, his mouth hanging open as he blurted out, how can it be the kid who's been missing for the past 3 days? Oh Boy's expression grew more tense than ever, as if she feared something. Looking towards her, Van Tuong spoke softly and slowly. Hello, Instructor Ao. He stood there amidst the thick smoke of the battlefield, raising a hand in greeting as he spoke. I've returned. Amidst the grim battlefield scenery, Oh Boy's shrill scream echoed everywhere. Song Yun, it's really him? Still in disbelief, she continued to ask again, this time with Cheng Yi chiming in. Is it really him? Below, Van Tuong responded with a friendly smile. Hello, Instructor Ao. Instructor Cheng, long time no see. Cheng Yi sighed. It really is this brat, and I almost begged to be his student just now. Suddenly, realizing something, he pointed at him and asked, You've been missing for days. Where did you go? Unwilling to accept that Van Tuong was so strong, he immediately interrogated him. How were you so powerful just now? Don't you have damaged soul veins that can barely last for 3 minutes? Van Tuong could only put on an innocent face and reply. Didn't it just automatically deactivate because my time was up? As he spoke, Van Tuong reflected internally, realizing his maintenance time had increased by 20%. His body was gradually adapting to the recovery from the regeneration pill. Cheng Yi still didn't accept that excuse. He continued to press him. Who are you kidding? You were out there for at least 5 minutes. He turned to ask Oh Boy, seeking an ally. Right, Instructor Oh? Her gaze was still lost in thought, and she didn't answer right away. After a moment, Oh Boy spoke, her eyes stern and determined to get to the bottom of it. Song Yoon, don't you think you owe us a clear explanation? Waiting for just that cue, Cheng Yi immediately chimed in to support her. He yelled angrily, That's right, start explaining! Oh Boy continued to question him, asking why Van Tuong had pretended his soul veins were damaged to hide his true strength since enrolling. Cheng Yi was about to chime in again, but he suddenly realized something wasn't quite right with what Oh Boy had just said. He spun around and whispered, asking her again if she was the one who said Yun Xiang was hiding his true strength. Cheng Yi looked flustered, as if he didn't understand what Ube was getting at. Ignoring him, Ube spoke seriously once more, asking, Who are you, really? We're grateful that you stepped in to help, but we still need an explanation. Yun Xiang could only manage a forced smile. He honestly didn't know where to even begin explaining to them. Suddenly a sound caught his attention. He whipped his head around, his eyes widening in surprise. Ube and Cheng Yi were just as shocked as Yun Xiang by the sudden appearance. High above, a suit of battle armor was descending. This battle armor was completely different from the previous ones, possessing an unusually imposing aura. It made a rushed landing, creating a huge tremor on the ground. It seemed the person inside was in a great hurry. The powerful shockwave forced Yun Xiang to shield his face with his arm. He stared intently at the battle armor. It landed with an air of solemn dignity and majestic power, and the person inside shouted, Disengage. The combat armor immediately began to retract, and the person inside was slowly revealed. It was Shi Jing. As she descended from the mech, her expression was grave, mixed with a hint of tension. It seemed the reason for her arrival was extremely important. Seeing Shi Jing, Wu Bei, and Cheng Yi immediately exclaimed in surprise, It's Director Gu. The two of them quickly disengaged their own combat armors. Then, they bowed respectfully and said, Greetings, Director. Shi Jing raised a hand, signaling for them to stop. As she walked toward Yun Xiang, she ground out his name, but he remained perfectly calm, showing no signs of fear. Amidst the tense atmosphere, he calmly clasped his hands in a formal greeting to Shi Jing. Hello, Director Gu. Her questioning gaze met his as she spoke first. On behalf of the instructors and students, I thank you for your timely assistance. However, I would also like to hear your explanation for hiding your true strength. He thought about how he hadn't hidden the existence of the Star-Lord system in his past life, but it was still unclear whether Shi Jing was a friend or foe. He could only stammer, About that, I don't know where to start. Shi Jing's brow furrowed, clearly annoyed by his vague and indecisive answer. She opened a system panel and began operating it. Beeping sounds filled the air, and then a giant cage fell from above, completely enclosing both Shi Jing and Song Yun Xiang. He observed the cage around him and wondered to himself, I can't hear anything from the outside. Is this a soundproofing formation? After a moment, Yun Xiang realized that Shi Jing had used the Ji Wu Academy's Grand Mountain Protecting Array, creating 2 paper-thin layers of soul force to block sound from escaping. He seemed intrigued by this novel formation. Feeling that it was now safe, he replied, The matter of my personal strength is private information. Does the Ji Wu Academy have the right to ask about it? The control panel vanished as she spoke to him directly. I don't have time to beat around the bush with you, so just say what you need to say. She walked toward him as she spoke. The Ji Wu Academy doesn't necessarily need to know your private information. But what if it's related to the Astral Soul General, XA2? Shi Jing moved closer, forcing Yun Xiang to hastily step back. He was both confused by what she was saying and afraid of the weapon she held in front of her. Shi Jing laid out her analysis. You concealed your strength, pretended your soul force was damaged, and used your family connections to get into the military academy through the back door. Your main objective was to target the Astral Soul General, XA2. Yun Xiang blushed slightly at nearly being attacked and asked, Why are you saying this? Swallowing nervously, he thought to himself, those soul jades are massive. No. I mean, Xatu's soul jade really is in my hands. Shi Jing pointed a finger straight at his face and declared, Stop pretending. The truth is, you've become Xatu's host. The Lubu that appeared in the West City district was just a disguise you created using Xatu's illusionary abilities. His response was a look of pure bewilderment. Yun Xiang was surprised to learn that Xatu even had such an ability. He had never replicated it in his past life, so he had no idea. The surroundings grew silent as the formation blocked all sound from escaping. 2 martial guards discussed among themselves, What are they saying? I can't hear a thing. One of them sighed with envy. I'm so jealous. I wish I could get a close-up look at the director's assets, too. Shang Guan, standing outside, took a moment to hack into the system to eavesdrop. Her face was filled with contemplative surprise when she heard that Yun Xiang was Xatu's host. Shi Jing was presenting her argument. This patrol drone recorded Lu Bu's trajectory. Someone saw you appear on the battlefield with their own eyes. According to the Tiandu Kingdom's official records, Zatu can not only create illusions of other generals, but can also copy some of their abilities and techniques, and even conceal the Astral Soul Master's true strength. It's impossible for someone to advance 3 minor realms in just 3 days. Therefore, the signs of a fake cultivation level prove that you are, in fact, the host of the Astral Soul General, XA2. Cheng Yi was stunned when he heard this. That kid is Zatu's host? How is that possible? I always thought he was a good-for-nothing. As for Yun Xiang, he found her seemingly convincing arguments truly baffling. He even mused that their deductions were so wild, he almost wanted to believe them himself. He had never intended to hide the existence of the Star-Lord system from others. It was something he had obtained in that strange, secret realm in his past life. There were still so many unanswered questions. He decided that after the Beast Tide ended, he would go explore that secret realm. But Shi Jing had mistaken the system's replication ability for Zatu's illusion powers. He could use that misunderstanding to his advantage and let Zatu take the blame for the system. All he had to do was pretend to be Zatu's host. He immediately put his plan into action, acting as if his secret had been exposed. He stammered, "I hid it so well, yet the director still saw through me." He then smiled confidently and said, "Director Gu's reasoning is truly brilliant. I won't pretend anymore." "That's right, I did indeed obtain Zatu's soul jade." A voice rang out. "I didn't expect you to admit it so readily. Your family's old master must have long since discovered that you and Zatu's soul jade have a certain degree of compatibility." Shi Jing smiled smugly. "So he began planning to arrange for you to enter the Ji Wu Academy, then use the opportunity to take Zatu's soul jade, am I right? Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. Because of this sudden beast tide, Song Yunxiang was forced to reveal his strength to save people. Otherwise, even after 3 years and a smooth graduation, no one would have discovered that you had obtained XA2. At that point, the Astral Soul General XA2 would have become the foundation for the Song family's resurgence." Hearing this, Cheng Yi was a little moved. He felt that Song Yunxiang was truly a loyal and righteous person. Song Yunxiang wiped the sweat from his forehead and forced a smile. Asterisk. "Even I want to believe this convoluted theory." Asterisk. Shi Jing continued. "Original Astral Soul Generals are different from other mechs. Every inheritance of a soul jade containing an original Astral Soul General is recorded. Your Song family, by acting on your own, has seriously violated the regulations. This can be a big deal or a small one. If we make it a big deal, a verdict of treason isn't out of the question." Song Yunxiang awkwardly scratched his head. "It's not that serious, is it? Director Gu, for better or worse, the old man of my family is still a—" Before he could finish, Shi Jing cut him off. "Enough with the nonsense. Song Yunxiang, how about we make a deal?" He furrowed his brow, not quite understanding what she meant, and questioned her. Shi Jing believed that this beast tide was likely instigated by someone. She had already discovered 3 key locations suspected of having induction devices installed. Shi Jing pointed to a key location on the map of the East City District and said she had invited a Heaven-tier master to suppress it. As for the location in the South City District near the Ji Wu Academy, she would personally lead an elite team to control the area. Hearing this, Song Yunxiang understood what she was getting at and smirked. "So, what do you want me to do, Director?" As expected, Shi Jing needed Song Yunxiang to go to the key location in the North City District. She didn't need him to suppress this core fissure, but simply to rescue one person. At this, Song Yunxiang grew serious. "Rescue someone? I imagine the person you want me to save has quite an important identity, right?" Shi Jing confirmed. "That's right. The person I need you to save is a member of the Imperial family, the second prince of the Tiandu Kingdom, Tian Zihai." He knew of this person and was immediately suspicious. The second prince, Tian Zihai, represented the pro-war faction within the imperial family. Song Yunxiang had heard he was a war maniac who had launched military actions against the Yilun several times before even reporting it. Rumor has it that in his past life, he died during the beast tide at Yuanding City. The cause of death was assassination. Song Yun reasoned that Asan was also wanted by the Tiandu nation because of this. In his past life, Asan wasn't saved by him, so he must have used his trump card to escape. But no matter what, Asan wasn't the one who assassinated the second prince. Reaching this conclusion, he felt a sudden, shocking realization: the Dilun nation. Could it be that the people of Dilun were behind this? Seeing Song Yun hadn't replied, Shi Jing continued, "Help me save His Highness the Second Prince, and I, on behalf of the Ji Wu Academy, will request that the Stargazer Directorate allow you to use the Astral General Zuo Si. Do you accept this deal?" Yunxiang felt she was overestimating him and added, "His Highness surely has experts by his side, yet he's still in danger. I'm afraid rescuing him will come at a great cost to me." Seeing this, Shi Jing crossed her arms with a difficult expression and agreed to one more condition. Hearing this, he thought to himself, she compromised so easily. On the surface, the Gu family supports the Crown Prince's faction, so they're sending me to avoid exposing their secret ties to the Second Prince's faction. Despite these thoughts, Song Yoon ultimately accepted the deal. Even so, a shred of doubt remained in his heart. Is the Gu family actually on the Second Prince's side? Or are they playing both sides? The Heartstone Fissure in the North District. Will I find Ah San there? After a moment of scattered thoughts, Song Yoon decided to just go and join the fun, whatever. He then took out a bottle of medicinal pills and poured a few into his hand. As he put them in his mouth and swallowed, he thought, Astral Master System, investigate the Crimson Flame Fire Dragon Dog for me. A powerful beam of blue light shone down, and Yunxiang's entire body levitated and was pulled upwards. It was the Astral Soul Formation. At that moment, fragments of the Astral Soul seemed to be merging together to form Lubu. The core nucleus emitted a magical blue light like a flickering flame, and the details of the Astral General became clearer. Finally, the Astral Souls combined to form a majestic-looking Lubu. Everyone who witnessed this scene was stunned into silence. This is... On the other side, everyone was wide-eyed with astonishment, murmuring amongst themselves. What kind of Astral General is that? That's way too cool. Cheng Yi exclaimed in shock. So cool. With that powerful, commanding presence. Wait a minute. Why doesn't he look like the sculpture of Zuo Si? Shijing felt the same way. Although its appearance was that of the Astral General Lu Bu, the color was different from the Lu Bu she knew. Suddenly, she shouted, Song Yun, coordinates 351696 of the North District. Receiving the location, Song Yun signaled that he understood. He tightened his grip on the iron chain, assuming a ready stance. Yinqin came running from out of nowhere, hurriedly chasing after him and demanding to go with him. She thought to herself, the host of the Astral General Zuo Si must become the son-in-law of the Shangguan family. While running, Yingqin transformed into a robot, her mechanical feet stomping hard on the ground to launch herself forward. Before Song Yun could even react, she had already leaped onto him and was hugging him tightly. He exploded in anger, yelling, This crazy woman! It's overloaded! She paid him no mind, laughing with delight as she hugged his waist tightly. Song Yun was furious, but then he had another thought. She supports the Second Prince's faction, so it's fine to bring her along. Having thought it through, Song Yun told Yingqin to hold on to him tightly. Hearing these words from him, she was so thrilled she blushed, biting her lip and smiling shyly with the face of a lovesick girl. At this moment, Song Yun didn't forget to remind Yingqin to hold on to him tightly. After giving the instruction, Song Yun quickly spurred his horse, leaping 1,000 meters into the air. Gu Shijing, who was watching all of his actions from below, pursed her lips with an unreadable expression. Cheng Yi, seeing Yingqin go with him, yelled, Director Gu, that student went with him too. Is it okay to not manage her? Shijing said there was no time to deal with her anymore. She told Yu Pei and Cheng Yi to gather their people and head to the Heartstone Fissure in the South District. As soon as she finished speaking, Cheng Yi and Yu Pei immediately obeyed the command and set off. Shijing looked up in the direction Song Yun had left, wondering to herself, Are you truly the host of Zuo Si? I hope what I said earlier can help you deceive the others. As for your secret, I'll be the one to drag it out. In the middle of a ruined city surrounded by blazing fires, a blue flame suddenly shot forward at high speed. That blue flame was from Song Yun's horse. On its back, Yingqin was doing her best to shoot down the monsters. She used a gun that fired blue energy blasts at the monsters, enraging them and causing them to charge. Seizing the opportunity, Song Yun quickly drew his sword. He only needed a single slash to annihilate them. The slain monsters let out wretched screams. Right behind him, Yingqin was still enthusiastically shooting down the charging monsters. Meanwhile, Song Yun continued to kill them with just a few swings of his sword. After a while, Song Yun grumbled with some annoyance. Could you please stop pulling monsters for me? We're in a hurry right now. Hearing this, Yingqin quickly apologized. I just got a little carried away as soon as I entered the battlefield, he thought to himself. Logically speaking, even if the Jiwu Academy didn't look after this crazy woman, she probably would have survived. But if my reincarnation is starting to change things, then it's better to bring her with me. Wait until I've restored the dragon armor Astral General and made sure there are no loose ends. At that time, I'll kill her. For now, though, he could use her as a human-shaped tool. He then asked her to help him with something. Yingqin quickly agreed after hearing him out, even telling Song Yun he could do whatever he wanted with her. Speechless, he told her to be serious, and then said he would teach her a few things later. Meanwhile, at the Heartstone Fissure in the North District, smoke and dust billowed up. This place was just as desolate and ruined, surrounded by small, blazing red fires. Rows of armored robots were lined up, protecting the people inside. These golden armored robots were Wei Yuan type, the model used by the Royal Guard. On their hands stood 3 people, who had clearly been through a fierce battle. The young man was Tian Zeihai, the second prince of the Tiandu nation, and he was screaming, Commander Liu, hang in there! The person lying in his arms was Liu Zhenwu, commander of the Royal Guard's cavalry. He was dying. My apologies, Your Highness. It was this subordinate's carelessness. Tian Zehai continuously slapped his own leg, cursing the Dilun nation and blaming himself. Zehai hadn't expected Dilun to actually cause a beast tide. If he had known sooner, he could have wiped them out. He continued to blame himself for endangering millions of citizens, and now falling into the Dilun nation's trap. Seeing this, Liu Zhenwu tried to reassure him. Your Highness need not blame yourself. It is this subordinate's duty to protect his master. As he spoke, he coughed up blood. A worried expression was clear on Tian Zehai's face. Commander Liu, don't talk anymore. Just hang in there. He looked up and hurriedly said, Xiao Mai, have the reinforcements still not arrived? This was Xiao Mai, his combat maid. She reported to Zehai that reinforcements were on their way. Just as she finished speaking, Tian Zehai held out his hand and told her to give him a rejuvenation pill. But Xiao Mai hesitated. But Your Highness, this one is meant for you in case of an emergency. Liu Zhenwu grabbed Zehai's hand. Your Highness, you mustn't. My injuries are already too severe. Don't waste another precious rejuvenation pill. Ignoring their words, Zehai shook off his hand and snatched the rejuvenation pill from Xiao Mai. Tian Zehai took out the last precious rejuvenation pill and put it in Liu Zhenwu's mouth. Right at that moment, a member of the royal guard rushed in to report that the beasts were coming again. Tian Zehai quickly ordered Xiao Mai to go command them to hold off the enemy. Receiving the order, Xiao Mai promptly initiated her astral soul formation, materializing her astral soul to join the battle. Xiao Mai quickly issued a command. 8 robots formed the Dark Moon formation. They followed her order, forming up to protect the second prince. In the middle of the night, a loud, piercing sound tore through the quiet space. Along the road, the hordes of beasts automatically parted to make way for something. A monstrous beast emerged from the smoke, its powerful footsteps cracking the ground. This was a Kyungchi species, a terrifying monster with heaven-tier combat power, a rock-solid body, and the destructive force of a tank. A royal guard member shouted a warning. We have an enemy on this side too. Another guard was shocked. What? Enemies on both sides? From a distance, a figure holding a weapon and riding a majestic horse emerged from the hazy smoke, causing everyone to panic. Meanwhile, in the center of the southern district, a tear in the gloomy sky formed a vortex. At that moment, Shi Jing stood proudly atop a skyscraper, piloting her robot. She suddenly shouted, All units, form up! Shi Jing raised her hand to signal the command. City guard robots at the front for defense, instructor robots on the flanks for guerrilla tactics, and student robots at the rear for covering fire. From a distance, legions of robots swarmed the entire city like ants, their presence majestic and imposing. The tier in the sky grew larger and larger, threatening to rip the heavens in two. From within the tier, massive white teeth gradually became visible. Finally, a colossal, vicious beast slowly emerged. Realizing the moment had come, Shi Jing gave a decisive command. It's here. Get ready. Receiving the order, the legions of robots below took aim. Immediately after, a barrage of glowing arrows was fired by the robots, filling the sky like a rainstorm. At the same time, in the Eastern District, right at the core of the rift, an equally massive robot army was assembled. It seemed they too were waiting for an enormous, vicious beast. Amidst the ruins, a huge and terrifying, vicious beast appeared. The robot army was positioned all around, ready to destroy it. Among the robot legions perched on the surrounding rooftops, a lone figure stood in the center, lost in thought. Shu Heming stood calmly, showing no fear before the dreadful beast. Suddenly, the beast let out a deafening roar, creating a powerful gust of wind as a show of force. The wind blew with the force of a hurricane, forcing the robots to shield their faces. In contrast, Shu Heming remained standing majestically, completely unmoved as if he felt nothing at all. He then reached into his pocket and pulled out an old card. Old friend, let's fight side by side one more time. A robot spoke up, questioning, Are we just going to watch like this? Shouldn't we go down and help Elder Shu? The robot next to it replied hesitantly. The great Elder Shu is a heaven-tier master who can tear vicious beasts apart with his bare hands. That robot continued, When a grandmaster fights, it's best for us to just watch from a distance. Meanwhile, on the battlefield of the Northern District, the landscape was desolate and ruined under a dark, gloomy sky. Suddenly, a beast's foot, pulsing with dark power, stomped down hard on the ground. A horde of dog-like vicious beasts wearing iron armor charged forward. These were small-sized calamity hounds, wild rank in power. They attack in packs, preferring to devour the corpses of other beasts over engaging in direct combat. The royal guard started to panic. We're screwed. There are huge beasts on both sides. We're no match for this kind of enemy. A member of the royal guard turned and said, Young Miss, Xiao Mai, will hold the enemy here. Please protect His Highness and get him out of this place. Hearing this, Xiao Mai hesitated, turning to look at Tian Zehai for his opinion. Just then, Liu Zhenyu coughed violently, spitting up blood. His voice was weak. My injuries are beyond saving, but if I burn all my soul power, I can probably buy His Highness 20 seconds. Before Liu Zhenyu could finish, Tian Zihai raised a hand, signaling for him to say no more. His eyes were thoughtful. That isn't the aura of a vicious beast. The one approaching is probably not an enemy. Xiao Mai made her own assessment. If it's not an enemy, could it be reinforcements? The beast emerging from the fog was trying to form something from the tentacles on its arm. Finally, the giant beast transformed its arm into something sharp, like a blade. Then, it suddenly let out a massive roar. The shriek created a terrifying force that overwhelmed everything, making even the royal guard stagger. Debris flew everywhere. Tian Zihai used his own body to shield Liu Zhenyu. The royal guard suddenly realized the beast was roaring at the dark figure. It was ignoring them because it considered the enemy over there the real threat. From the direction of the dark figure, a blinding stream of blue light shot straight towards the beast. Witnessing this, the beast seemed confused, not understanding what was happening. The blue light struck powerfully, crashing into the ground and knocking the beast off its feet. The horde of beasts was startled by the power coming from that dark figure. The sound of clopping hooves approached. Cool, blue flames enveloped the horse's ankles. The dark figure was Song Yun, slowly approaching on his iron horse. The royal guard was shocked. A Star Soul General? Are those reinforcements from the Mecha Arts Academy? Tian Zihai thought to himself, I've never seen a Star Soul General like this before, and he's even riding a Star General beast mount. Song Yun turned back and said to Ying Qin, while I'm keeping this big guy suppressed, Senior, you go and search the corpses of the beasts I just killed. She looked a bit confused, her face blank as she asked back, Huh? The beast corpses? Song Yun grimaced. Didn't I teach you on the way here? Inside the stomach pouch, 50 centimeters from the left rib bone, you can dig out the void crystal, right? The beast stood still, growling for a moment. In front of it was a spear emitting blue bolts of electricity. When the beast tried to move forward, it was blocked by a glowing barrier. Not far away, the royal guard silently watched the strange scene. Observing from a distance, Tian Zihai guessed, that's a formation. Hearing this, Xiao Mai gasped in amazement. What? A formation? He gritted his teeth and continued. The weapon that the mounted Star Soul General just threw seems to be enchanted with some kind of barrier formation. The royal guard then realized something was off. So this Kyongchi is trapped by a formation? Should we retreat now or just wait and see? Wait, how can something as profound as a formation be used so casually? Tian Zihai frowned, deducing, no, that's not it. Looking at the rate the soul power is dissipating, this formation probably won't last long. He concluded that the Star Soul General was just trying to buy some time. Seeing this, Xiao Mai also wondered, why do they need to buy time? Inside her mech, she was watching the situation outside on a small screen and saw a student robot digging a stone out of a beast's corpse. Just then, Tian Zihai seemed to realize something and shouted, Is that a void crystal? Xiao Mai replied, A void crystal? You mean that purple crystal? Tian Zihai explained, void crystals are also called space stones. They're said to grow in the stomach pouches of Taote beasts and have space-compressing abilities. A Taote can use this to devour things 10 times its own body size. Hearing this, Xiao Mai remembered that this was the precious material used to create storage talismans. She thought to herself, so this thing grows inside a vicious beast's stomach? Tian Zihai continued, that's right, void crystals are priceless. All Star Soul Generals need this material for their storage soul talismans. At that moment, Xiao Mai finally understood that Song Yun was buying time to collect treasure. Meanwhile, the weapon Song Yun had thrown to the ground was constantly fading, and he was struggling to channel more power into it to prolong the effect. Inside his mech, Song Yun was panting from exhaustion. The soul prison formation is about to break. It can't hold this guy much longer. He took out 3 medicinal pills and asked Yinchin if she was done yet. Outside, Yinchin ran back towards Song Yun, holding 3 void crystals. I only got 3. Is it enough? Seeing them, Song Yun quickly reached out his hand. 3 will have to be enough. As soon as he finished speaking, he used his power to pull the 3 void crystals towards him. Yinchin was inwardly amazed. He can control things from a distance with his soul power like that. Suddenly, Song Yun charged his horse towards the beast, bringing the 3 void crystals with him. The startled royal guard scrambled to get out of his way as he charged past. The horse's hooves dented the ground. The guards just stood there, staring blankly after his retreating figure. Witnessing the scene, Tian Zihai was just as astonished. Inside, Song Yun glanced at him through a small screen. Outside, Song Yun's Star Soul General continued its silent, high-speed charge on horseback. Tian Zihai's jaw dropped in shock. Is that the Star Soul General, Lubu? But something about it looked... Suddenly, Song Yun gathered his strength, leaped high into the air, and let out a great shout. Blazing Fire Dragon Hook Soul Dispersion. At the same time, he summoned back the weapon he had just used as a medium. In an instant, the spear appeared in Song Yun's hand. This was also when the monstrous beast broke free from the soul prison formation. It let out a massive roar. Suddenly, the beast opened its mouth wide, and a spherical object emitting a powerful light shot out. Then, a large purple beam of light shot straight towards Song Yun. He immediately leaned to the side, nimbly dodging the enormous beam. Seeing this, the beast stomped its foot hard in apparent frustration, letting out a low growl. Its stomp caused the entire ground surface to crack. At that moment, Song Yun leaned back, his hand still gripping the spear tightly as his whole body prepared to exert force. He used all his strength, aimed straight at the beast, shouted, and charged forward. The two sides clashed in midair, creating flashes of lightning. Just then, Song Yun directed a void-rend crystal to stab into the beast's arm. But not only did it fail to injure the beast, Song Yun was instead sent flying 1,000 meters by it. Its blow was so powerful that it sent him crashing through several buildings. Xiao Mai was terrified. "This is bad, Your Highness. That cool-looking red soul general is no match for the Qiangqi at all." Very quickly, Song Yun regained his composure and appeared before the beast. Before he could even catch his breath, the beast charged straight at him. Inside, Song Yun thought to himself that he was currently only at the peak Emperor rank. Even controlling Lubu, it would be difficult to solo a heavenly rank Qiangqi. Then, the eyes of the Lubu Soul General, controlled by Song Yun, suddenly flashed with a small glint of light. He abruptly shouted, "Explode for me!" As he finished speaking, the void-rend crystal on the beast's arm moved as if it had received an order. Then it detonated, causing the beast to howl in agony. Observing the situation, Tianzihai's eyes widened in shock. What? What was that explosion? The beast, having lost an arm in the blast, staggered as if it had lost its balance. At this moment, Song Yun spoke up. "My apologies. As I am now, I'm no match for a heavenly rank opponent. I can only resort to some unreasonable little tricks." Suddenly, from somewhere, cheers praising Song Yun erupted. The royal guards in the distance shouted, "Incredible!" He infused soul power into a void-rend crystal, creating a small-scale spatial collapse through an overload explosion. Tianzihai also stood up, clapping in admiration. "I never thought I'd get to witness such a VIP-level maneuver. The Jiwu Academy in Nanzhou is truly full of hidden talents." Hearing this, Xiao Mai turned around in surprise. "Your Highness, are you saying that person detonated a priceless void-rend crystal?" Zehai's face was beaded with sweat. To heavily injure a heavenly rank beast with an emperor rank cultivation. So what if a few measly void-rend crystals are wasted? He thought to himself. The process of extracting and refining void-rend crystals has a 1,000-year history. Tiandu Kingdom's records have never documented an explosion. This person must possess some special detonation technique with potential military applications. Xiao Mai's voice became panicked. "Your Highness, are you saying the host controlling that Soul General only has an Emperor rank cultivation?" Tianzihai replied, "That's right. During the fight, I could sense the soul power radiating from him. I'm sure it's only at the peak of the Emperor rank." Xiao Mai couldn't believe her ears, thinking that a mere peak Emperor rank could cross 3 major realms to heavily injure a heavenly rank beast. Just then, the Qiangqi beast along with a swarm of Calamity Spawn charged forward, one of them with razor-sharp teeth lunging forward like a flash. Understanding the situation, Song Yun assumed a defensive stance, dropping to one knee. He gripped his weapon tightly, spun around, and decisively eliminated the frenzied swarm of Calamity Spawn. The monsters were sliced apart, their body parts severed by Song Yun's weapon. Another Calamity Spawn continued its charge straight towards Song Yun. He quickly slashed with his weapon, cutting the creature in half. At this point, Song Yun seemed to be losing strength, so he took another 3 pills. After that explosion, is it sending these puppies out to try and wear me down? As for the Qiangqi beast, it was again opening its mouth wide, forming a purple ball of light, and another powerful purple beam shot straight towards Song Yun. Once again, he reacted in time, swiftly dodging the attack. Witnessing the scene, Tianzihai was inwardly horrified. That movement, that's the footwork of the Black Armor Guard. Seeing Song Yun dodge, the beast looked at him and roared in anger. He showed no fear, gripped his weapon tightly, and then let out a soft snort. Song Yun charged straight at the beast and delivered a decisive slash. His sharp weapon shattered into pieces after the attack. Inside, Song Yun thought, as expected, at my current realm, the durability this form can maintain is nowhere near tough enough to handle a heavenly rank opponent. But, as long as I can create a small hole in its tough hide for a void-rend crystal, that'll be enough. After a moment's thought, Song Yun followed his plan. Creation green finger, chi divides against will. Explode. As he finished speaking, a huge explosion occurred on the beast's body. Behind Song Yun, the beast was engulfed in billowing black smoke. At that moment, several other beasts seemed to go berserk, flying straight at him to avenge their companion. Sensing the tremor behind him, Song Yun took a step back. A beast's mouth gaped open, and he leaped high into the air to avoid its bite. Song Yun then landed safely, but he had lost an arm. Inside the control space, he was completely exhausted, but still forced himself to launch another attack. This one's for you! Creation Green Finger! Chi divides against will. At that moment, the entire beast was enveloped in purple lightning. Song Yun shouted, "Explode for me!" After the earth-shaking explosion, the beast vanished completely, leaving only wisps of smoke lingering in the air. The Lubu Soul General also began to disperse, its blue crystals slowly scattering into the air. At this time, Song Yun landed gently on the ground, the swirling smoke creating an ethereal sight. He dusted off his clothes and sighed. What a pity. That precious core crystal was destroyed along with it. Xiao Mai seemed to recognize that the uniform Song Yun was wearing belonged to the Ji Wu Academy. Just then, Song Yun looked around, seeming to realize something. Surrounding him now were members of the Imperial Royal Guard. They stood solemnly at attention. Tian Zihai, who had been standing, lowered his hands, clasped them together, and smiled cheerfully. "Thank you for your assistance, sir." Seeing this, Song Yun also gave a polite greeting. "Second Prince, there's no need to be so courteous. Is everyone all right?" Hearing this, both Tian Zihai and Xiao Mai became a little wary. "You know my identity." Song Yun looked awkward. "There's no need to be on your guard. I was personally asked by Director Shi Jing of the Ji Wu Academy to come provide support." Seeing this, Tian Zihai felt reassured. "So, that's how it is. My apologies for the abruptness. I am Tian Zihai, the second prince of the Tiandu Kingdom. Thank you again for your assistance. May I ask how to address you, sir?" He clasped his hands and introduced himself. Tian Zihai was surprised to see his surname was Song, and that he knew the footwork of the Black Armor Guard. He suspected that Song Yun was related to the Song family of Marquise Juan. He felt like Yun Xiang was joking when he claimed to be just a student. Tian Zihai recalled a spy report from last year that mentioned the old Marquis of the Song family had pulled strings to arrange for a descendant to enter the Ji Wu Academy. He figured Shi Jing must know about this, so he would ask her once it was safe. He was also curious about the Red Soul General. Moreover, an expert of this caliber would be a great asset. Tian Zihai continued, "With your strength, I'm afraid no instructor at the Ji Wu Academy is your match." Song Yun replied bashfully, "Your Highness flatters me. My strength is merely at the peak of the Emperor rank. It was all just luck." As they were talking, they were interrupted by Liu Zhenwu's coughing. Tian Zihai turned back, concerned. "Commander Liu, Xiao Mai, how much longer until the doctors arrive?" Xiao Mai checked immediately. "The Yuanding City Lord's office has dispatched an emergency team. They are on their way now. It's estimated they will take another 3/4 of an hour to arrive." Tian Zihai feared that Liu Zhenwu wouldn't be able to hold on for that long. Hearing that someone was injured, Song Yun offered to take a look. As he stepped forward to help, he was immediately blocked by Xiao Mai. Seeing her attitude, Thien Trech Hai reminded Tio Mai not to be rude. Song Yun gracefully leaped onto the hand of the robot where Lu Chanvu was lying. He gently placed 2 fingers on Lu Chanvu's chest for a moment, and a blue light enveloped the gruesome wound. He then diagnosed it as a piercing wound caused by the external projection of soul power from a heaven rank master. Although the internal organ damage wasn't severe, his soul veins had ruptured, preventing the injured man from circulating soul power to heal himself. Seeing how skilled he was, Thien Trach Hai couldn't help but ask, "Sir, you also know the medical arts?" Van Tuong said he only knew a little, but without any tools, he could only use a spring pill to keep him alive. Thien Trach Hai mentioned that he had already used one and feared another wouldn't help. Song Yun took a bottle of spring pills from his pocket and poured the entire thing into Lu Chanvu's mouth, causing Thien Trach Hai to gasp, his mouth hanging wide open in shock. He figured if one pill didn't work, he'd just use a few more. He then tossed another bottle to Tu Mai to keep Lu Chanvu alive. In the East District, at the Litho Core Fissure battlefield, a monstrous beast was on a rampage. Tu Hack Min stood opposite the monster and scoffed with contempt. He pressed his lips together slightly, still trying to force the fissure open for one last desperate struggle. If that's the case, then let's end this with this move. Following Tu Hak Min's command, the robot he controlled quickly raised its massive sword and roared, 10,000-mile sword style, third form. As soon as the words were spoken, a long streak of light appeared in midair, carrying immense power. A single sword strike, shattering mountains and rivers, descended, leaving half the city in ruins. The beast, caught right in the center of the attack, was instantly obliterated. A long, deep gash split the earth, crumbling the ground and rock around it. The beast, lying directly in the path of the slash, had no way to escape. The sword's aura was gradually enveloped by scorching red flames emanating from the monster. Immediately after, the beast exploded, painting the entire area red. The crowd of onlookers screamed in shock. So strong, he was instantly killed. The other robots witnessing this couldn't help but marvel at such terrifying power. One of the robots turned and disagreed. "No, Elder 2 isn't your average heaven rank. I fear he's the closest person to saint rank among all the star soul masters in the southern continent." Another robot nearby heard this and was utterly stunned. As they looked down together, they were startled to find that Tu Hak Min was gone. They looked left and right. they couldn't hide the panic on their faces. After searching for a while and finding nothing, they shouted, "Where is Elder 2?" Elsewhere in the city, on a tall building, a group of people surrounded a device that was emitting flashes of black lightning. One of them frowned and gave an order. The mission failed. Retreat immediately. As the young man left, he kept looking back, regretful about the equipment they were leaving behind. The leader pulled his cloak up to cover his face and replied, "Forget about this stuff. Get out of here and rendezvous with the other squads." Two hackmen suddenly appeared opposite them, his voice ringing out, "Trying to leave? Did you ask this old man Slippers for permission?" Seeing him, they panicked and demanded to know who he was. One of them, sweating profusely, pointed and stammered, "Captain, that's the guy who killed the beast of the same rank with a single sword strike." Hearing this, the other members were all startled. The captain quickly screamed an order for everyone to transform and kill Tuhak Min, but before he could even finish shouting, a divine flip-flop came flying at him. It landed squarely on the man, causing him to scream in pain and fall backward. The surrounding members were stunned. The captain was sent flying several meters before finally getting plastered against a distant wall. He foamed at the mouth, his nose bleeding profusely, and fell into a coma. Seeing their captain taken down, the other members were furious on his behalf. They started cursing, claiming he used a despicable sneak attack on their man. Before he could finish his sentence, a foot slammed viciously into his jaw. In an instant, all of them were taken down, lying scattered on the ground like dried fish. Tuhak Min pressed his foot on the man's head and grumbled, "Are you an idiot? If you're going to attack, then attack. Who's going to wait for you to finish your damn speech?" With that, he slowly walked over to where the unconscious captain was lying. Tuhak Min gently grabbed the man by the ear, lifted him up, and leaped to a higher position. From there, he could see the entire city slowly being engulfed in a sea of fire. Tuhak Min exclaimed in surprise, "So the last one is finally about to be dealt with?" Tuhak Min lowered his gaze to the captain, his eyes narrowing as he said, "You're coming with me for a trip." The man, dragged by his ear, cried out in excruciating pain, begging him to let go. Holding onto his ear, Tuhak Min leaped gracefully from one building to another, each jump accompanied by the man's piercing screams. Tuhak Min used his extraordinary speed to leap continuously, and carrying the young man in his hand didn't seem to slow him down at all. Elsewhere, at the core fissure battlefield in the South District, Ko Thi Tin was on a fortress wall, observing the battle below. Down below, a mutated beast was surrounded by tens of thousands of other robots. Their commander gave a clear order for everyone to hold the formation and maintain high alert. The beast roared continuously, slime dripping from it without end. The surrounding robots remained vigilant, afraid it would go berserk and cause some unmanageable trouble. Not long after, it collapsed. The surrounding robots won, much to their own astonishment. They cheered joyfully for their victory over a heaven-rank beast. It was truly unexpected. Victorious, they couldn't help but feel proud, thinking that heaven-rank beasts were nothing special and not so tough after all. They then shouted together, "Thien Do will be victorious!" Ko Thi Tin stood there like a statue, watching the other robots celebrate their victory. Outside, the robot she controlled stood solemnly amidst the smoke and fire, its sword planted in the ground, looking incredibly cool. On her end, she let out a sigh of relief and wiped away her sweat. A heaven-rank beast is truly powerful. Thi Tin observed the front line, thinking to herself, even gathering the power of 1,000 mystic ranks was barely enough to put up a fight. Luckily, we won, but it came at a considerable cost. Suddenly, Tuhak Min flew in from out of nowhere, startling her. He landed gently, still holding the unlucky man in the black cloak by the ear, and greeted Thi Tin. By the time Tuhak Min arrived, Ko Thi Tin had just finished resting. She bowed respectfully, and he replied cheerfully, "Yes, good work, little Ko." Tuhak Min threw down an unconscious Dilun member. He said he had caught him near the fissure in the East District. At a glance, Ko Thi Tin guessed he was a spy from the Dilun Nation. She wasn't sure whether to hand him over to the city guard or the Secret Service Department, but Tuhak Min was suspicious. "The city guard and the Secret Service have most likely been infiltrated by them. I don't trust them, so I'm leaving this man with you." Suddenly, in the distance, a strange light flashed on the roof of a building. The image of the two of them discussing was captured in a sniper's scope. Tuhak Min had already noticed the red dot aimed right at his head, but he didn't seem bothered in the slightest. On the contrary, the attackers began to panic when they realized they'd been exposed. He was using a Wu Fu La, a mass-produced Star Soul general from the early days of the Dilun Nation. Tuhak Min calmly made an offer. "Need me to help you take care of those little brats?" To Ko Thi Tin, this was no big deal because she had already made arrangements. The attackers grew increasingly frantic. They immediately ordered, "Quick, open fire and kill them!" The moment the words were spoken, the Wu Fu La was pierced through the heart by a sword, unable to move another inch. The attacker was shocked that Ko Thi Tin's side had acted so quickly. At that moment, a large net fell from the sky, giving him no time to react. the attacker was completely trapped by the net. He could only struggle and yell, "A soul construct? What is this?" Looking behind him, he realized it was the work of an UEVN scout model. This special model was responsible for carrying out secret missions like sabotaging the enemy's rear or carrying out assassinations. The UEVN scout model advised him quite cordially, "It's useless. This is a soul-binding net that can disrupt the flow of soul power. Just surrender quietly." In a flash, the Star Soul unit had captured all the attackers from the Dilun Nation. Having completed its mission, the UVN scout model sheathed its sword and awaited further orders. Just then, Tiu Nguyen spoke up. Reporting to the director, there were a total of 5 targets. All have been neutralized. Shi Jing received her signal from the virtual screen and immediately gave the order, "Bring all survivors back to the Martial Academy. I'll interrogate them myself." Shu Heming was very pleased with her problem-solving skills, praising her cheerfully. "It seems you spotted them a long time ago, didn't you?" Her cultivation level is average, but her grasp of strategy and troop deployment is truly brilliant. Shi Jing replied humbly, "Your cultivation, Elder Shu, is truly world-class, slaying a heaven-tier opponent with a single strike. You are truly worthy of being the head of the 4 swords of the southern continent. My meager skills are nothing worth mentioning in your presence." Seeing that the situation here was no longer a concern, Heming had no time for empty pleasantries and announced his departure. "It looks like you've got everything under control here. I'm going to check out the North District. There's a kid over there who I find quite interesting." As soon as he finished speaking, he leaped away lightly. Shu Heming's Qinggong was truly extraordinary, allowing him to move between buildings with great ease. Heming's words made Shi Jing a little curious. She wondered if the kid Elder Shu found interesting was His Highness the Second Prince, or that mysterious Song Yun. But now was not the time to find an answer to that question. She had to deal with the matters in this district immediately. At the Rockheart Fissure battlefield in the North District, the Spirit Soul generals were gathering in one place. In Tianzihai's hand was a full vial of elixir that was emitting a soft glow. He looked at the vial with a disbelieving and suspicious gaze. "How is this possible? Is this really a rejuvenation pill?" Seeing this, Song Yun asked curiously, "Your Highness, you've studied alchemy as well?" Tianzihai replied, "Although I am no alchemist, as a prince, I have studied some alchemy under the royal family's 5th-grade alchemist. Although its quality has reached an extremely high grade, that's not all there is to it," he analyzed with a puzzled expression. "The pill veins on this rejuvenation pill weren't forged using any technique or process, I know. In other words, in terms of crafting technology, I fear it's many years ahead of the Tiandu nation. If the effects are still..." Tianzihai immediately turned to ask for an opinion. "Commander Liu, how do you feel?" But he was astonished by the scene before him. Although still unconscious, color had gradually returned to Commander Liu's face, and the wounds on his body were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing Liu Zhenwu had regained consciousness, Tianzihai immediately rushed to his side to ask, "How are you feeling?" He replied with a look of relief, "Your Highness, I just had a dream. I dreamt I was in a warm stream made of the essence of all things, like a beam of light shining into my chest, causing the energy in my body to surge so rapidly it blew my clothes away. I felt I was one with nature, as innocent as a seed. No, I was a seed, immersed in that ocean of light. I feel as if my entire life has been renewed by this." After a moment of reveling in the fresh sensation, Liu Zhenwu finally realized, "My wounds, they're healed?" Hearing this, Tianzihai couldn't help but be amazed. "Really? This is too unbelievable." He noticed something else strange. "Is it an illusion? Why does it feel like the hidden injury in my lower back, accumulated from years of training, is gone too?" This discovery surprised everyone even more. Suddenly, Xiao Mai pointed at him, trembling. "Wait a minute, Commander Liu, have you gotten younger?" Comparing his appearance before and after taking the pill, Tianzihai realized it was true. The wrinkles on his face were gone. The commander, who once had a weathered face, now looked to be only in his 30s, and even his graying hair was gone. He stared at Song Yun's questioning face and thought, "I originally thought he was just a martial artist with superb strategy, and even considered recruiting him. But if there's a grandmaster of alchemy like this behind him, then I can only try to befriend him." Tianzihai decided that befriending him was a must. Suddenly, a cheerful voice rang out, breaking the awkward atmosphere. Yingqin chirped from a distance. "I've searched through the corpses of the carnivorous beasts around here. Look how many crystals I dug out." A robot carrying a pile of spirit stones ran over at her call. Looking at the number of crystals, Tianzihai stammered in disbelief. "So many. Void crystals?" His hand trembled so much that he accidentally dropped the vial of medicine. This action left everyone speechless and exasperated. Fortunately, a hand shot out and caught the vial. Xiao Mai gritted her teeth and yelled angrily, "Hey, Your Highness, be careful!" The close call made Liu Zhenwu break out in a cold sweat. "Phew, it's all right. Luckily, I was quick-handed." Tianzihai heard something and told everyone to be quiet. The robot controlled by Yingqin was carefully counting the spirit stones she brought back. Yingqin happily announced a total of 9 pieces. A figure leaped down from above and approached. She was very proud of the spoils she had obtained and eagerly awaited everyone's praise. This time, Song Yun had to admit that her technique for extracting crystals was quite impressive, achieving a high success rate. So he had to praise her. Top quality, perfectly extracted. I didn't expect you to be so skilled with your hands, Miss Shangguan. As she had hoped, Yingqin was ecstatic with the praise. I've been great at dissecting corpses and stuff since I was a kid. The moment I hold a knife, I just naturally get excited. Tian Zeihai jumped down from the Spirit Soul General to join the group. He made a sincere proposal. Thank you for the elixir that saved Commander Liu. I have another, rather bold request. I hope you can part with these void crystals for me. This put Song Yun in a difficult position. That's not really appropriate, Your Highness. Yinqin let out a small gasp, seemingly surprised by the prince's actions. Seeing this, Tian Zihai tried to persuade him. Rest assured, I certainly won't take your spoils for free. Song Yun started to get interested. Oh, is Your Highness proposing a trade with me? He confidently held up 3 fingers. This much, for all the void crystals. Deal? You should know that void crystals are strategic resources controlled by the Imperial Court. It's not easy for you to take them out of here. I assume. Your Highness isn't purchasing these crystals through official government channels, are you? Song Yun negotiated without backing down. Since Your Highness is using personal funds to buy them, I've already given you the lowest discount. No one will know, and we can have a long-term partnership in the future. While the two were still negotiating, Yingqin had already begun to dispel her spirit. She watched the two of them intently. The light from the spirit soul was slowly dissipating. Yingqin landed lightly and then gracefully knelt down. She showed great reverence, bowing her head with her eyes closed in a serious expression. Then, Yingqin solemnly clasped her hands. The Shangguan family greets Your Highness, the second prince. Her name sounded familiar, so Tian Zeihai asked, Yingqin, are you Shangguan Hongshen's daughter? She replied demurely, yes, that's right. My father is Shangguan Hongshen, and my second older brother is Shangguan Lengshu, who currently serves under you, Your Highness. Seeing that she was one of his own people, he welcomed her warmly, his smile much more genuine than before. Then Tian Zihai boldly held up 5 fingers and said generously, out of respect for the Shangguan family, this much. But Song Yunxiang wouldn't yield. Your Highness, that price is very difficult for me to work with. It has to be at least this much. Suddenly, Tian Zihai turned to Yingqin and announced, when I return, I will immediately promote your brother by 3 ranks. Hearing this, she was overjoyed and hurriedly thanked him. Thank you, Your Highness. Then he turned sharply to Song Yun and whispered secretly, please, that's all I have in my budget for now. Do me a favor, and I'll owe you one. After hearing that her brother would be promoted, Yinqin began to lean towards Tian Zeihai's side, looking expectantly at Song Yun. Seeing her expression, he had no choice but to agree. All right, fine, I'll take a small loss. It's a deal at that price. The deal was successfully closed, so Tian Zihai felt relieved and announced he would be leaving for a moment. Song Yun thought to himself, based on my memories from my past life and the current situation, the Shangguan family really does support the second prince. Could it be that their betrayal in my past life was related to the second prince's death around this time? Only now did he notice that Yingqin's gaze seemed a little overly intense. She lunged forward and grabbed his shirt. Song, don't I get a rift crystal too? Don't worry, the Shangguan family is paying, Song Yun asked, confused. Why don't you just go dig one out yourself? Yingqin said with a look of regret. But you just killed all 12 of the Taoti that were here. Besides, I already checked the other Taoti corpses, but it's really hard to find a complete crystal. This was the real reason she didn't just go find another one herself. Meanwhile, Tian Zihai's group of 3 were secretly discussing something on the side. Xiao Mai clutched the card, sniffling. Your Highness, do we really have to spend so much money? This is everything we've painstakingly saved for over a year, she said, heartbroken. I'm sorry, I promised I would always protect you guys. Xiao Mai suggested another plan. That young lady from the Shangguan family knows how to extract them. She's on our side, so can't we just order her to dig out a few more for us? Liu Zhenyu immediately explained. No, Xiao Mai, you're thinking too simply. Taote aren't rare among beasts, but rift crystals are. I'm afraid the difficulty isn't in how to extract them, but how to kill them. Tian Zeihai added, that's right. In the past, rift crystals were only ever obtained by pure luck and at a low rate. Every single one of those dozen or so crystals is of perfect quality or higher. I'm afraid Song Yun must have some special way of killing them. Hearing this, Xiao Mai had no choice but to hand over her treasure, even if it made her cry. Goodbye, money. This made him chuckle. Hey, you're being a little dramatic, Tian Zeihai thought deeply. The Song family of the Marquis of Juan's estate, once one of the 4 great families. The previous family head was even one of the 8 heavenly capital generals, and 20 years ago, they produced a young genius who dominated an entire generation. Unfortunately, rumor has it that because of some woman, Not only was the entire family implicated, but their saint-rank ancestor was also gravely injured and died. They were eventually exiled to a small city on the southeastern border, responsible for guarding the southern wasteland's Great Wall. He thought to himself, if my guess is right and this Song Yun is really from the Song family, I'm afraid the Songs are about to make a powerful comeback. They might even rise completely because of him. At the base, robots stood facing each other one by one, while a group of people conducted some kind of transaction in the middle. Tian Zeihai presented a storage card, neat and decisive. He held it out in front of Yunxiang and said with a smile, "It's all in this storage talisman, 500 million in cash, though it's in Yishui currency." He held the storage card in his hand, absolutely shocked by what he'd just heard. Zeihai crossed his arms and smirked. Surprised? Actually, you're making a profit. Right now, the exchange rate for Yishui to Tiandu currency will get you 5% more. Yunxiang took it and thought to himself, because the Tiandu and Dilun nations are constantly at war, the Yishui nation has always remained neutral, so its economy is indeed more stable. With that thought, he smirked, took the storage card, and replied, "Your Highness the Second Prince is far more cautious than I expected." He chuckled and replied, "Can't be helped. Too many eyes are watching me. Aren't you going to check such a large amount?" Yunxiang quickly answered, "It's fine. I trust the title Second Prince." Tian Zeihai turned slightly and replied, "Thanks. So, should I have my soldiers come transport the rift crystals?" Suddenly, Yunxiang pulled a few strange cards from his pocket, as if preparing to do something. He chuckled and spoke, "No need. Since your Highness has been so generous, I'll throw in a packaging service for you." Hearing the word packaging, Zeihai was completely baffled. To his surprise, Yunxiang quickly shouted, "Open formation!" Seeing the formation array, Liu Zhenyu couldn't hide the look of horror on his face. "Is this a spatial formation array?" Hearing this, Xiao Mai was puzzled. He frowned and explained, "Rift crystals have spatial properties, which means they can't be put into storage talismans, but he's actually using a spatial formation to compress them. I've not only never heard of such a technique, I couldn't even imagine it." Yunxiang handed it to Tian Zeihai. Transporting rift crystals is inconvenient, and using a spirit soul general would attract too much attention. This spatial talisman is single use. The release code is 6 sixes. Remember to find a wide open space. After being instructed, he awkwardly accepted it and said thank you. I never expected Brother Song to have such strange tricks up his sleeve. He turned to leave, waving goodbye to Tian Zeihai. "No need to be so formal. Since your Highness is safe, we'll head back to report first." He clasped his hands towards Song Yun, sincerely thanking him for this favor and promising to aid him in the future. Yunxiang also smiled as he accepted Tian Zeihai's gratitude, secretly looking forward to their next meeting. The second prince's entire group stood there for a moment, watching the direction he went. He watched Yunxiang's retreating figure and thought to himself, I absolutely have to get in more contact with this Song Yun. Even if I can't pull him into my camp, I hope I don't have to become his enemy. Yunxiang walked for a while, lost in thought. Looks like this beast-tide incident is over. I can't sense Ah San's aura here either. If things are wrapped up, I guess it's time to go home. Last time, both the Jiwu Institute and Yuanding City were destroyed in the beast-tide. It took me over 20 days to escape back to the Song family with a group of refugees, crossing the desert of death. Then, less than a month later, the southern wasteland's border defense line was swallowed by the beast tide. The Song family's soldiers and the guards of Yong'an City were almost completely wiped out. And back then, I was powerless to stop any of it. I escaped on my own once again, and then I met the black armored guards who rushed to the rescue, and was saved by that female master. As he thought this, he clenched his fist. Yunxiang felt that it hadn't even been 2 months yet. There was still time. Suddenly, he sensed something, and quickly spun around. Yunxiang intended to take down his opponent with a single kick, so he struck out quickly. A cloud of dust billowed everywhere. Yingqin also turned her head to look. A pair of scrawny legs and familiar slippers appeared through the dust. A low voice rang out. You're an interesting brat. Indeed, the newcomer had caught Song Yun's leg with just one hand. Tian Zeihai and the others heard the loud noise and quickly approached, their faces tense. At that moment, he sensed an aura even more powerful than a heaven ranks. Liu Zhenyu raised his guard and said, This aura is nearly at the saint rank. Could this be a half-saint? Shu Heming slowly let go of Yunxiang's leg and chuckled. To think a mere peak Huang rank could detect this old man. You've hidden yourself quite well at the Jiwu Institute for the past year. Upon hearing the voice and seeing his face, he was completely stunned. This man was the old gatekeeper from the Jiwu Institute. He stood still, composed himself, and then burst out laughing. Right back at you. You've hidden yourself pretty well too. Who would have thought a heaven-rank grandmaster would be hiding out at the Jiwu Institute as a gatekeeper? Hearing this, Yinchen was also shocked to realize he was that gatekeeper. Yunxiang faced Shu Heming and continued. Among the 7 rumors of the Jiwu Institute, one of them is Flowing Water Headmaster, Iron Gatekeeper. I suppose that's talking about you. After hearing him, he rubbed his chin and chuckled dismissively. Not at all. This old man is Shu Heming, chief gatekeeper of the Jiwoo Institute's security department. Yunxiang smirked and clasped his hands together. Song Yun pays his respects to Elder Z. In his heart, he now vaguely guessed that this old man was the person the headmaster had mentioned. When Liu Zhenyu heard the name Shu Heming, he couldn't help but be startled. Seeing his reaction, Xiao Mai, who was beside him, asked curiously, "You know him?" Liu Zhenyu frowned and revealed to her, "This is a legendary half-saint. The 10,000 Li sword, Shu Heming. He entered the heaven rank at 30, dominated the eastern continent with his signature technique, one sword to shatter mountains and rivers, and launched a solo raid just because of a promise. He rushed to a battlefield for reinforcements, felling 3 sky-suppressing ships with a single strike. 20 years ago, he had already reached the peak great perfection of the heaven rank, and countless other glorious rumors." Yunxiang stared at Shu Heming, feeling that something wasn't right. If Elder Z is the backup plan that woman could command, then if I hadn't shown up, she would have definitely arranged for Elder Shu to rescue the prince first. As a half-saint expert, he should logically be invincible. So why did the second prince die last time? Host, you are the chosen one among the primordial spirit soul generals created by the 188 gods. I've heard that once a host awakens, as long as their cultivation is sufficient, they can reach the saint rank. But normal soul masters who control artificial soul generals are bound by the laws of heaven and earth. Not only is their cultivation growth slower, but they are also suppressed by the realm barrier. For thousands of years, not a single mortal soul master has ever been able to break the chains of the saint rank. Liu Zhenyu explained with his head lowered, "The heaven rank is the limit for mortals. The peak great perfection of the heaven rank is the closest a being can get to the saint rank. That is the limit a mortal can achieve through sheer effort and hard work. Half-step saint rank is also known as half-saint." Everyone listened to his explanation in silence. He lowered his head and clasped his hands. Commander of the Piaoqi Battalion of the Tiandu City Imperial Guard, Liu Zhenyu, pays his respects to half-saint Shu. Following his words, Jai Hai and Xiao Mai also bowed respectfully. Seeing this, Shu Heming chuckled. "There's no need for such formalities." Song Yun lowered his head, thinking for a moment. It seems the eastern continent in this era hasn't yet established a system for training mortals to break through their shackles. So, if I could train a saint rank army, wouldn't I be able to crush this era? Isn't this old man Shu before me the perfect test subject delivered right to my doorstep? He would be the first experiment in my plan for a mortal heaven rank army. His eyes now filled with stubborn determination. Looking at Yunxiang, Heming spoke with a hint of unease. "Song kid, why do you have the same excited look in your eyes as a chef who's just found a rare ingredient? You're not scheming something, are you, kid?" Called out, he scratched his head and avoided the probing gaze. "You're overthinking it. My eyes hold nothing but admiration for you." That's what he said. But in his heart, he wanted to absorb the old man's mastery. Shu Heming gave a forced smile. "Kid, stop acting in front of this old man." Shu Heming changed the subject. "I heard from Miss Gu that you are the host of Xiexi." Hearing his words, Jai Hai's group couldn't help but show their surprise. Xiao Mai couldn't hide her feelings and asked, "He's the host of Xiexi? Your Highness, didn't you just say that the Crimson Soul General was Lubu?" Tian Jai Hai rubbed his chin, thinking for a moment before it all clicked. He looked up and said, "I've also heard that the Shishi Soul General can create illusions of other Soul Generals' appearances. Besides, this legend is widely known from the storybooks circulated everywhere. So you're saying the Lubu from before was just a cover used by Brother Song?" Hearing this, Song Yun could only laugh to himself. "Why do you all think that? Fine, if that's the case, I'll just let CSC take the blame for the Soul System's whole mess." After a moment of thought, he burst out laughing. "This concerns a personal matter of mine, so I hope you will all keep it a secret." Jai Hai looked at Yunxiang with an expression of admiration for his sworn brother. "You didn't hesitate to reveal your identity to save me. I will accept this kindness. We will keep your secret safe." Seeing his sincerity, Yunxiang felt a little guilty and offered his thanks. Shu Heming had been squinting at him the entire time. Finally, he lowered his head and asked, "Song kid, if I'm not mistaken, you were the one who dealt with the heaven rank beast that appeared in this core fissure, weren't you?" Yunxiang was silent for a moment, then replied, "You could say that." He continued with the previous line of questioning. "Even for the Xiexi Soul General, it shouldn't have been easy to win based on your peak Emperor rank cultivation, right? I'm very curious how you managed to kill an enemy of a higher rank. Or, have you been hiding your true strength all along? Is your real cultivation level even higher? Could it be that your Song family has some unspeakable secret?" Just as Xiao Mai was about to speak up and explain, she was stopped by Tianzai Hai. She quickly obeyed, covering her own mouth with her hand, a look of confusion on her face. Yunxiang waved his hand. "It's fine. Since old Shu has already asked, I have no reason to hide it anymore." He briefly explained the process of detonating the space-rending crystal to defeat the heaven rank beast of the same tier. After hearing everything, Shu Heming couldn't help but shout in surprise. What? Detonating a space-rending crystal? As far as I know, space-rending crystals are crucial materials for crafting storage pouches and Astral General fusion pouches. Even when they're melted down and processed, I've never heard of a situation like the one you described. He frowned at this new information. Yunxiang smiled and clarified, detonating a space-rending crystal? Of course, it's not that simple. I used a few special tricks. As soon as he started speaking, the surrounding people quickly perked up their ears to listen in. He couldn't stop them, so he just had to give a wry smile and continue. I carved a formation array onto the space-rending crystal and used an alchemy technique to activate it, reversing the crystal's inherent elemental structure and causing a spatial collapse. Jai Hai spoke up, slightly puzzled. So that's how it was. It involves both formation arrays and alchemy. Doesn't that mean your method is impossible to replicate? Hearing that, he just smiled proudly. I'm afraid it would indeed be difficult for others to learn. Suddenly, Yunxiang sensed something and went on high alert, his eyes darting around. He quickly warned everyone around him. Enemies! Be careful! Sensing they were surrounded, Shu Heming stood still in silence. He looked at Yunxiang, secretly surprised and impressed. This kid actually detected them a step faster than me. The Royal Guard robots also quickly assembled, shouting to protect Tian Jai Hai. On the rooftops of the tall buildings, the silhouettes of other robots appeared, causing the Imperial Guards below to panic. The robot captain, Yu Fuluo, crossed its arms and snorted coldly. So, we've been discovered? The stealth capabilities of the Holy Sect's new prototype still have a lot of room for improvement, it seems. It quickly issued a command. All units, disengage stealth. Primary objective, kill the second prince, Tian Jai Hai. You have 15 minutes. Begin the operation. Song Yun scanned his surroundings, counting from 1 to 15, 23, then 24. Finally, he voiced his doubt. 3 robot teams. Have a total of 8 teams, and a heaven rank captain. Yunxiang's quickness from start to finish gave Shu Heming another shock, and he marveled internally. This kid's detection speed is actually faster than mine and more accurate. He glanced over and gave a wry smile. Your Highness, if the Dailun Kingdom merely wanted to kill you, would they really need to go to such great lengths? Tian Jai Hai crossed his arms and theorized, to be able to infiltrate so many Dailun masters into the heart of Tiandu. I'm afraid my eldest brother, the crown prince of the Stability faction, is behind this. Suddenly, Yunxiang detected another hidden heaven rank aura and warned everyone. Once again, he stunned Shu Heming with his sensory abilities. The robot captain, Yu Fuluo, began to issue orders. All units, target is Tian Jai Hai. Take aim. Upon receiving the order, dozens of other robots aimed their gun barrels at the designated target, preparing to act. Tian Jai Hai's robots seemed to be surrounded by the gun barrels, with no way to escape. An Imperial Guardsman raised his sword and yelled, "Switch to shields! Protect His Highness!" In unison, the other robots obeyed, switching to shields and forming a circle around Tian Jai Hai. Song Yun suddenly tossed 2 formation array cards into the air, his attitude as calm as if he had anticipated this all along. The 2 protective formation arrays enveloped Tian Jai Hai and Shangguan Yinjin. After using 1 protective formation card for their personal protection, Yunxiang activated the remaining card. Instantly, an even larger shield formed, protecting everyone inside. Shu Heming watched this series of actions, completely astonished. Level 5 protective formation arrays, and both activated in an instant. This kid's methods are truly deep and unfathomable. Yunxiang tossed him a small bottle and made a request. Old Shu, this is for you. I need you to protect those 2. Be careful of the expert. His sudden words left Shu Heming a bit confused. He quickly reached out and caught the bottle, though he still didn't know what it was. The moment he opened his hand to look, Shu Heming couldn't hide his shock. After a long preparation, the robot captain Yu Fuluo lowered its hand and gave the order to fire. Instantly, gun barrels flashed continuously, and bullets whizzed through the air. From every direction where there were Dailun Kingdom robots, they all opened fire. All the projectiles were aimed in one direction, right where Tian Jai Hai was standing. A thick cloud of dust and smoke blanketed the area, preventing the Imperial Guards from seeing their surroundings. Xiao Mai quickly turned back and anxiously asked about Tian Jai Hai's condition. He looked at the sturdy protective barrier and spoke. This formation can actually absorb the soul power beams the enemy fires. Damn, that's impressive. Just then, Van Tuang had quietly broken away and leaped high into the air, preparing to do something. He jumped up, using Tumai's Uivien as a springboard to launch himself, which took her by surprise. Immediately after, Tumai, furious, turned towards Van Tuang, ready to unleash a hail of fire. As he leaped away, he didn't forget to turn back and shout, Elder Shu, you protect those 2. I'm going to take care of the small fry. Commander Liu, the TNGI rank captain is all yours. Following his directive, Liu Zhenyu quickly turned to Thien Troc Hai to request permission to engage. He approved immediately, without hesitation. After all, they had the half-saint Shu here, on top of the protective barrier. Go on, Commander Liu. Don't worry about us. With approval granted, Liu Zhenyu swiftly left the protective barrier to join the fray. He leaped up and kicked Tumai's Ui Vian right on the head. She was absolutely livid and demanded, Commander Liu, why did you kick me too? But he paid her no mind and immediately gave the order to summon his spirit soul form. A few seconds later, Liu Zhenyu's Ui Vian, a captain of the robot Imperial Guard type, materialized. The robot captain, Wu Fula, let out a cold snort. Just a heavily injured Tianji rank, that's all. I'll take your life in a single blow. True to its word, it quickly drew a gear-like round shield, aiming to end the fight quickly. Wu Fula forcefully threw the round shield at an extremely high speed. Liu Zhenyu quickly judged its trajectory and leaned to the side to dodge, but the round shield curved its path and flew back towards him. Tumai saw this and shouted a loud warning to him. Liu Zhenyu sensed it and immediately brought out his spear, swinging it hard. A powerful force knocked the shield off its return trajectory, sending it flying back, chipped. The Wu Fula robot then summoned a flashy golden spear, covered in trivial, overwrought decorations and redundant structures with no practical value. Tiandu Nation. Your culture's love for such gaudy things is precisely why you've all become so corrupt. The moment it finished speaking, it leaped down from the skyscraper's roof. The Dui Luan robot swung its spear hard at Liu Zhenyu, with the malicious intent of killing him in one strike. The two weapons collided, creating a shower of sparks. He struggled to parry the blow, and a surge of anger made Liu Zhenyu want to curse. Screw you! You abandoned the ancient Central Plains. What the hell would a bunch of savages like you know about culture? You're the gaudy one, looking like a damn red and green crab shell. At that moment, in a dark corner, another robot was hiding and observing the chaotic battle. After watching for a moment, it wondered. There was another machine that jumped out just now. Where did it go? Suddenly, Song Yun appeared right behind it, ready to launch a surprise attack. A sword pierced through the robot's body. It hadn't sensed a thing and panicked, dropping the gun in its hand. Song Yun gave a smug, taunting smile. I'm right behind you. The other robots were stunned to see the Spirit General Lubu, controlled by Song Yun, suddenly ambush them from the rear. The robots reacted quickly, raising their guns to counterattack. But Song Yun was too fast and too dangerous, soaring high into the air and causing the robots to shoot their own comrades. One of the Du Luan robots spotted him and immediately alerted its comrades. He's here. Switch to melee weapons, now. But by the time they got close to him, Van Tuong was already a step ahead, leaving the robots utterly bewildered. He's too fast. The spirit Lubu, controlled by Song Yun, swiftly slashed a robot's shoulder. The machine couldn't believe its eyes, stammering, How? How is this possible? In its other hand, it raised a spear that gave off a cold light. In no time, several robots were sliced in two, completely unable to fight back. Then, Song Yun stomped hard on the ground, using the momentum to suddenly launch himself high into the air. He raised his spear high, aiming straight for the robot in front of him, causing it to scream in panic. How can he be this fast? It scrambled to put up a feeble defense. Damn it, what kind of monster spirit general is this? He seized the opportunity, lunging in a straight line at the robot, making it cry out in pain. Inside the cockpit, Song Yun was slightly out of breath from expending so much energy. The Wu Fula's armor is thicker than the Ui Viens, and these guys are all at the DGI rank. Fighting them with my current cultivation level is still too taxing. Back to Liu Zhenyu, who was soloing the Dui Luan Nation's Wu Fula captain. The robot couldn't help but wonder, is that the Spirit General Lubu? How is that possible? Why would Lubu show up here? Although it didn't show it or leave any openings, it was panicking internally. Could it be that the second team failed to lure and capture Lubu? Those Taihei mercenaries are completely useless, just as I thought. As if reading its mind, Liu Zhenyu charged forward. You have time to get distracted in the middle of a fight? Eat this. He unleashed an attack. A headshot aimed at the robot Qilin wags its tail. Fortunately, it reacted quickly and dodged the critical blow. The Wu Fula roared, Damn you! In another part of the battlefield, the Spirit General Lubu, controlled by Song Yun, was just as formidable, having taken down yet another opponent. His spear impaled a Du Luan unit, forcing it to dematerialize after losing its combat capabilities. On the rooftops, the other Du Luan robots kept their guns aimed at him. Fire! Don't let him get any closer! That Du Luan unit was sent flying several meters away like a rag doll. Song Yun quickly dealt with the Wu Fula grunts and leaped high into the air. The Dui Luan unit that was thrown from above landed with a thud outside the barrier, completely motionless. Inside the glass enclosure, Thien Troc Hai pursed his lips and remarked, Not only can he pierce the enemy robot's armor with the smallest amount of force, but he can also capture a live one that quickly. He's like a fish in water amidst the slaughter of these spirit generals. From the distance, a voice called out from the glass enclosure. All generals, hear my command. Switch from defense to offense. Provide full covering fire for Song Yun. Tu Mai immediately acknowledged the order, switching to her high-speed stance and holding two crossbows. She declared, All units, switch to archer formation and cover Song Yun. The other Royal Imperial Guard units immediately began their counterattack, providing covering fire for him. The Dui Luan nation's Vu Fula robots were soon on the back foot, forced to find cover and wait for a chance to counterattack. But it seemed fate wasn't smiling on them, and the whole group immediately fell into chaos. "This is bad. He's circled around behind us." It turned out Song Yun had swiftly dodged the dense barrage of projectiles and was now charging at them with his spear, ready to settle the score. Tien Troc Hai was stunned, as if he'd discovered a whole new world. That movement technique. It's the 7-star stepping of the Xuanjia Guard. He used a similar levitation technique from the Xuanjia Guard when he fought Qiong Qi, but I heard that technique originates from the star-stepping sect. Within the Xuanjia Guard, only a handful of elites are qualified to master it. He raised a hand to his chin, deep in thought. Although the Xuanjia Guard was established 100 years ago, the ones who truly reached its peak were the 6 prodigies of Xuanjia from 20 years ago. Among them, Song Lang was the leader of the 6 prodigies, an 18-year-old Tianjia rank prodigy, the third son of Marquis Song Jingzong of Juan. Song Yun is also from the Song family. He might be connected to him. Unfortunately, it's said that 5 of the 6 prodigies tragically died in the Battle of the Imperial Mausoleum 16 years ago. The position of Grand Marshal of the Xuanjia Guard remained vacant for 7 years before the current female Grand Marshal assumed the role. The current Grand Marshal of the Xuanjia Guard, Di Lan, is a Shengji rank powerhouse who doesn't participate in any political factions and keeps an extremely low profile. The Xuanjia Guard has become a military weapon loyal only to the nation, and for over a decade, there has been no word of her having any contact with the Song family. Song Yun leaped up and immediately swung his glowing spear down upon the Dui Luan squad's hiding place. The Dui Luan Vu Fulas were sliced in 2. At the same time, one remaining unit jumped away, luckily escaping the blow. It crashed onto the roof of a nearby empty building, its body hitting the floor with a screeching sound. The Vu Fula struggled to its feet, wanting to escape. This is too terrifying. Are all of the Tiandu nation's spirit generals monsters? Song Yun quickly charged forward and plunged his spear into the robot that was trying to flee, destroying it. Tien Troc Hai observed this, silently suspecting the move he just used was the Fallen Moon Slash. He wondered how Song Yun knew Marshal D's signature technique and guessed that his forces were far greater than he had initially thought. Van Tuong charged from one rooftop to another, rapidly closing in on the Du Luan robot. Even though it tried to defend itself, it couldn't withstand his powerful attack. Sweat dripped down his face, accompanied by labored, heavy breaths. Song Yun wondered, was that hidden master still not going to show himself? Meanwhile, the royal guards continuously fired laser beams into the sky to protect everyone inside the shield. Suddenly, a beam of light shot down from the sky, striking the shield and creating a massive vibration. The shield instantly vaporized into streams of eerie green gas. Shu Heming turned to look and praised Song Yun's defensive formation. Suddenly, other Vu Fula mechs rushed forward, exclaiming, "There's an opening! Ranged weapons are useless against that defensive barrier." Seeing this, Xiao Mai's robot anxiously turned back and shouted a warning. At that moment, Song Yun's spear plunged down with a sharp glint of light. It stabbed straight through the Vu Fula robot that was charging from behind. He furiously rushed forward, opening his mouth to roar Shu Heming's name. The Dailu Nation robot stood opposite Shu Heming, then swung its massive axe and yelled, "Gotta kill this old geezer first!" He remained completely unafraid of the Vu Fula, looking at it with a gentle smile. A powerful force descended from the sky, kicking up a blinding cloud of dust. Liu Zhenyu, who was grappling with the Dilun Nation captain, gritted his teeth in disbelief at the sight. Xiao Mai, witnessing that power firsthand, was also utterly bewildered. The Vu Fula robot remained still amidst the thick dust, frozen in its downward slashing pose. It sensed the air stagnating around it and couldn't help but mutter in confusion. "What the?" The sight of Shu Heming blocking the blade with his bare hands filled its vision. He caught the blade's edge and, with a calm blink, spoke. "Morals have really gone down the drain these days. A mighty Earth-rank master, controlling a spirit soul general to attack an unarmed old man." The voice, filled with disbelief, echoed in the quiet space. "He blocked a blade with his bare hands?" The Vu Fula robot cried out in alarm. "How is that possible? How can anyone block a spirit soul general's attack with their bare hands?" A green aura slowly began to emanate from Shu Heming's entire body, his expression hidden. His eyes immediately glowed red, while strange wisps of green smoke poured from his body. The Dailun Nation robot instantly recognized the danger and exclaimed, "This is bad. That's the aura of a peak heaven rank." "No, it's a half-step to saint rank." Shu Heming then lightly leaped high into the air, leveling himself with the giant robot that was still frozen stiff. He quickly descended, landing a powerful kick on the Vu Fula's arm joint. Its arm slammed violently onto the ground. As Shu Heming leaped up again, he extended his arm and channeled his power into it. Shu Heming swung his hand straight down. The Wufula's arm was instantly split in two. Not stopping there, he continued to channel his power into his palm, preparing a final move. Instantly, Shu Heming fired that power into the severed part of the Delun robot. Overwhelmed by Shu Heming, the Wufula immediately collapsed to the ground. Smoke rising from its body into the night sky created a suffocating feeling. He landed gently on the body of the Wufula, which was now just a pile of scrap metal. The Royal Guard robots watching from a distance were astonished, endlessly praising how fearsome and insanely tough Shu Heming was. The robot controlled by Xiao Mai spoke up. So a half-saint master is this terrifying? Song Yun thought to himself in amazement. Why is this old geezer putting on such a cool act? He smiled to himself, thinking. He avoided the Wufula's heavy armor, only attacking the weak connection points, creating the effect of slashing a robot with his bare hands. Is he being so dramatic, just to lure that hidden master out of the shadows? Meanwhile, the fiery battle between the Wufula captain and Liu Zhenyu was still raging. The captain robot under Liu Zhenyu's control charged forward, axe held tight, letting out a great roar. The Delun captain also gripped his massive sword and rushed forward to attack. The Wufula was sent flying by a powerful swing from the captain robot. It was flung from one spot to another before slamming hard into a stone wall. The Wufula captain cried out, "Why? He should have been critically injured, and his power seems to be several degrees stronger than the intel suggested. This is terrifying. How is he still this strong?" It knelt down, thinking, "Damn it, there are barely any of our people left. I can't believe that not only did a Lubu-level fighter appear next to the target, but there's also a half-saint master." The Wufula immediately clasped its hands together as if preparing to welcome something. It raised its hands high and exclaimed, "The enemy master is too strong. I request the aid of the Holy Envoy." The robot captain wondered about this. Holy Envoy, the Wufula mentioned, and quickly scanned the area. On the rooftop of a nearby building, a mysterious red light began to glow. Manhwa stood there arrogantly, arms crossed, looking down on the battle below as if watching a show. She crossed her arms, pouted, and complained, "What a bunch of useless trash." Tianzehai recognized the person and exclaimed, "That person wearing the ox head mask is from the demonic sect." Xiao Mai tensed up and quickly looked up. "What? They're from the demonic sect?" Shu Heming spoke, just as expected of a fiend from the demonic sect. A bad omen really is a sign of great disaster. Song Yun frowned, his face unable to hide his utter shock. The Pingtian Holy Sect. The Pingtian Holy Sect was a super-level sect that controlled most of the political and military domains of the Delun Nation. The peak fighting force of the Eastern continent consists of two 400-year-old god-rank ancestors. The Dailun Nation and the Shui Nation each have one guarding their territory. 400 years ago, the Eastern Sky Emperor disappeared. The Delun King forced the late emperor's illegitimate son to become a puppet, ruling from behind the scenes. The eldest royal daughter, Princess Yi Shui, established the Shui Yi Nation and declared herself empress. When the illegitimate son came of age, he allied with the Shui Yi Nation, defeated the Delun King, and established the Tiandu Nation. Before his death, the Delun King was saved by a god-rank expert, and with her help, he established the Delun Nation. The once unified Eastern Sky Empire, located on the Central Plains continent, was thus divided into three. The Tiandu Nation has no god-rank master to guard it, but it relies on its number of saint-rank masters to barely maintain a delicate balance because the god-rank expert who saved the Delun King was the Pingtian ancestor. A terrifying image of him appeared in his mind. He was said to be an old monster who had lived for 400 years and was still not dead. Yunxiang frowned. The Pingtian Holy Sect is like the stabilizing faction of the Tiandu Nation. They don't support the Delun Nation's external military expansion. During the decisive battle for Tiandu City, that god-rank ancestor was nowhere to be seen. Although surrounded by dust and smoke, Manhwa stood calmly with her arms crossed. This made him suspicious. Could there be some change on the Delun Nation side that I don't know about? Song Yun taunted. "Hey, you on the roof, who's too ugly to show your face? Standing up that high, you're gonna flash everyone. Want to come down here and talk?" She reached for something inside her chest while grumbling. "You're courting death." Manhwa flashed a sinister smile. "I'll test my new robot on you useless fools." She kicked her foot, sending tiny rock fragments flying everywhere. Manhwa decisively jumped down, raising a glowing red orb high as she muttered, "Spirit Soul, form!" As she finished speaking, the Spirit Soul General, Yi Jixi, slowly materialized behind her. Its long, sturdy legs gradually formed from the connecting spirit souls. Yi Jixi's characteristic white ponytail slowly appeared. He suddenly leaped up and vanished into thin air, startling the robot captain. It couldn't help but be terrified by the scene, looking up at the sky and yelling, "This is bad!" She landed, creating a huge explosion that sent the robot captain's weapon flying far away. Manhwa casually and brutally stomped on it. Even though this is just a prototype, it's still enough to make one hesitate. Sitting inside the cockpit, she smirked contemptuously, then said in a taunting voice, "That's one down." Tianzehai's face darkened. Even Commander Liu couldn't withstand a single blow from her. This person is no ordinary heaven rank master, Song Yun wondered. Yi Jixi, the Delun Nation's next generation robot. How did it appear so quickly? The thick dust made the surrounding atmosphere even more tense. Manla turned her head, her face filled with killing intent, clearly unsatisfied with how things were going. She drew a weapon from the robot's hip. Just one look at it was enough to know how dangerous it was. Suddenly, Manla charged forward aggressively, her eyes flashing with a bloodthirsty red light. Seeing how ferocious she was, Van Tuong panicked and immediately called out a warning. Elder Shu, but Shu Heming remained calm, taking out a blue card and concentrating on some kind of chant. Manla, with her two swords already drawn, prepared to bring them crashing down. From inside the cockpit, she controlled Yi Jishi's every move and screamed, "Die!" But this time, her attack was blocked by the mech Shu Heming was piloting. The lightning erupting around the two of them was so powerful it sent the other mechs flying. Luckily, Tianze Hai and his group were inside a defensive shield and managed to avoid the blast. He shielded his face with his arm, thinking, empowered by that mech, the witch can fight a half-saint on even ground. She even seems a level stronger than Elder Shu. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the shield and quickly spread. He quickly realized something was wrong, his face turning upwards in shock. In this critical moment, Tianze Hai gave the order, save Commander Liu first. Although the Wei Yuanxi mech was covered in scratches, it obeyed and did its best to hold its ground. The thick black smoke and the lightning combined their might and shattered the shield. The sight threw Tianze Hai into a greater panic, leaving him at a loss. At that critical moment, Song Van Tuong appeared in front of the two of them inside the shield. He spoke up, "I'll leave this place to you, sir. A fight on your level. I'm of no use here. I'll take them somewhere safe so we can keep watching." Shu Heming, busy fending off the enemy's attacks, just replied coldly, "Then go. Stop wasting my time." Without another word, Van Tuong immediately led the other two away. Manla sneered in contempt. This antique from a few hundred years ago dares to stand in the way of a divine messenger like me? He ignored her provocations, simply letting out a cold snort. Then, Shu Heming silently stomped the ground, planting himself for a counterattack. He swung, but unfortunately, Manla managed to dodge. She backed away to create some distance, then immediately hurled two daggers at him. They flew right past Shu Heming's head, making him flinch. Furious at Manla's last move, Shu Heming warned, "You're asking for it." She flew into the air and quickly launched an attack on the nearby high-rise buildings. Then, Manla suddenly appeared behind him, too fast for Shu Heming to react. She landed a critical blow that sent him flying dozens of meters. After that exchange, his mech was severely damaged. Seizing the opportunity, she hurled her daggers at Shu Heming again. He reacted quickly, blocking the attack with his sword. The deflected dagger flew towards a nearby building, embedding itself deep into the wall. It was only then that Shu Heming realized something was wrong. "Where'd you go?" Before he could even process it, a black shadow shot towards him from behind. She had already teleported behind him, a blade held to his throat. He spun around suddenly to attack, but Manla reacted instantly. Done playing games, she immediately swung her blade back, aiming straight for his head. Shu Heming dropped to one knee on the ground to gather his strength, then launched himself into the air, bringing his sword down in a cold, sharp arc toward his foe. But Manla used the same trick again, slipping behind Shu Heming. With a sidelong glance, she raised her leg, preparing to give him a kick. Manla spun and launched her foot, sending his mech flying. Shu Heming's body skidded a long way before slamming into a massive boulder. Watching from a distance, Tianze Hai couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Elder Shu, he's being completely overwhelmed by that witch," Song Van Tuong explained. "Elder Shu's cultivation level is higher than hers, but he's at a disadvantage when it comes to the performance of her spirit mech. However, Elder Shu still has an ace up his sleeve." The two daggers embedded in the building suddenly began to glow, as if being controlled by someone. A strange, pink light emanated from them, hinting that something spectacular was about to happen. Manla's face was filled with killing intent as she charged forward, daggers brandished. A black smoke covered the ground all around. She charged at Shu Heming, roaring ferociously, "Die." He didn't say a word, simply channeling magic into his sword, which crackled with dense bolts of lightning. Sensing the danger, Manla immediately tensed up, looking for an escape route. Song Van Tuong realized what was happening and shouted excitedly, "Look, Elder Shu is about to go all out." From inside his cockpit, Shu Heming thought, "There's no way you can dodge this, right?" He released his magical power into the sky and roared, "Witch, prepare to taste my blade." But somehow, Manla still managed to dodge Shu Heming's attack. She smirked disdainfully. "The power of that move is terrifying, I'll give you that. But it's completely useless if it can't even hit its target." Seeing him miss, the onlookers started to panic. Yingqin's face went pale. Elder Shu, a half-saint, actually missed? Tianze Hai couldn't hide his anxiety either. A half-saint like Elder Shu wouldn't make such a low-level error, would he? Only Song Van Tuong was smiling. "Don't worry," he said. "Elder Shu's attack isn't that simple. Shu Heming was still casting the spell. I originally prepared this move for a saint-level spirit mech. The magic was so immense that his sword shattered, unable to contain the pressure. Shu Heming's spell shot straight into the sky, piercing the layer of black smoke. After it broke through, it dissolved into countless tiny motes of light, as if it had never been there at all. They gathered into a beam of light, then rained down toward the ground like fragments of a falling star. Manhwa panicked, leaping into the air to dodge them, but she quickly realized something was off. I can't shake them. They're actually chasing me. She looked up to the sky, where Shu Heming's magic was now converging and hurtling towards her. There was nothing she could do but take the full force of his attack. His spell completely enveloped Manhwa's mech. She tried to fight back, reaching out a hand, but it was futile as she was consumed by the blinding light. Shu Heming chanted the incantation, Divine Fire Command. His magical power was so immense that even the surrounding buildings were caught in the blast. The spell gradually dissipated, leaving only desolate ruins in its wake. The Imperial Guard mechs nearby were left stunned by the scene. Thick smoke and dust filled the air, and the collapsed buildings only added to the chaos. The body of the Yi Shi spirit mech was now a complete wreck after taking that last attack. The mech captain was in utter disbelief. What? That vicious woman. She survived that? Tianze Hai stammered. She actually withstood Elder Shu's world-shattering attack. Song Vantuang gritted his teeth. The Yi Xie is a next-generation mech from the Weilin Nation. Not only is its mobility far superior to the Wei Yuan Shi and the Yufu Luo, but its armor is also tougher than the Yufu Luo's. Manhwa laughed mockingly. Not bad for a near-saint-level fighter. To think you could pull off such a powerful move in that piece of junk. She reached out and pressed a hidden latch, and a control panel immediately lit up. Complex mechanical figures appeared in front of Manhwa. I really didn't want to use this. She smirked and ordered the system to activate. There was clearly something sinister going on. A magical talisman appeared, and one of Manhwa's eyes glowed as she yelled, Heavenly Demon Form! Release! The moment she spoke, the Yi Xishi's body instantly regenerated, radiating an extremely powerful magical aura. Tianze Hai grew tense. This presence. It completely eclipses Elder Shu's aura from before. This is even more terrifying than a half-saint. The hair on the Yi Xie began to glow brilliantly, thrashing about as if it had a life of its own. One of Manhwa's eyes shone as she said smugly, In this heavenly demon form, I've almost reached the saint level. You can call me a quasi-saint. Song Vantuang was shocked. Through soul essence reversal, it can forcibly boost its power to a terrifying new combat level for a short time. The Ping Tian sect actually installed a system like that on a prototype model. After pouring out all that energy, Shu Heming had reached his limit and was panting heavily. Seizing the moment before anyone could react, she vanished in a flash. In the blink of an eye, Manhwa was right on top of Shu Heming, leaving him completely defenseless. Caught off guard like that, there was no way for him to react in time. She immediately launched a vicious attack, aiming to finish her opponent. Manhwa slammed a fist into his abdomen, sending him flying off balance. Before Shu Heming even hit the ground, she teleported right to him to continue the torment. I kicked Shu Heming hard, sending him flying like he was my toy ball. Just like that, Manhwa continued to unleash a relentless barrage of kicks and punches, leaving Shu Heming unable to fight back. He gritted his teeth in fury, thinking, how did her speed increase to this level? No, I have to find a way to counterattack. She raised her leg to kick Shu Heming away again, but this time, he found an opportunity to counter and swung his hands in retaliation. Shu Heming grabbed Manhwa's leg. No matter how much faster you are, it's over once I get a hold of you. She took out a sword she had hidden on her person, intending to stab down hard while cursing. Fool! Manhwa plunged the blade straight through Shu Heming's robot. He sat inside, trying to control it. After that fatal blow, Shu Heming's robot still desperately clung to her leg. Manhwa grabbed the robot's head, pulling out her sword to threaten him. Still not letting go, are you? Manhwa held Shu Heming's head tightly, swinging her sword to strike. She cursed him viciously. Go to hell! Without a hint of hesitation, Manhwa decisively and brutally chopped off his head. In this impossible situation, Shu Heming could only let go in helplessness. After his robot was decapitated, its body gradually vanished into thin air. She mockingly tossed Shu Heming's head into the sky, then Manhwa unleashed her magic to attack it, clearly intending to hunt him to the very end. Shu Heming's body glowed as it slowly fell to the ground. His body slammed hard into the earth, the impact shattering the ground around him. Manhwa held the robot head of Shu Heming and walked slowly across the chaotic battlefield. Manhwa arrogantly held up the robot's head and cursed it viciously. Garbage. She brazenly crushed Shu Heming's robot head with a completely twisted smile. Manhwa grew even more smug with her actions, this feeling of power. It's truly intoxicating. She laughed wildly and arrogantly. The me right now. Forget killing a half-saint like slaughtering a chicken or a dog. Even if I faced a true saint level, it wouldn't be impossible to put up a fight. After the battle, the road was filled with dust and smoke, and the dry, hot air made it difficult to breathe. Shu Heming lay on the shattered ground and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. His hand trembled as he desperately reached for his pocket. He tremblingly took out a pill box that was already in his pocket. The pill shone with a strange light, a 6-star super realm pill. When used by someone below the Earth level, it can temporarily increase combat power by 1 major realm. It's one of the last trump cards I prepared for myself. Song Yun smiled. With Elder Shu's half-step saint-level realm, the pill's effect will surely be greatly reduced, but it should still be more than enough to increase his power by a minor realm for a short time. I gave Elder Shu a super realm pill beforehand just in case, and also to see if it would be effective for a half-step saint like him who's stuck at a bottleneck. Shu Heming opened his palm and pondered, I'm afraid there's no mistake. This is a super realm pill. 20 years ago, I saw the legendary 6-star pill described in the ancient texts. He observed the glowing pill and marveled. I can't believe that kid was willing to give me such a treasure. Shu Heming sighed and swallowed the pill. I owe that kid a huge favor this time. He closed his eyes to feel the effects of the precious medicinal pill. After entering Shu Heming's body, the pill immediately took effect. He began to drift into another dimension. Is this my inner world? My spiritual world? Shu Heming looked down at his own reflection. Is this inverted shadow myself? He reminded himself that this wasn't right, that something was very strange. Shu Heming was stunned. This is deep within my heart, that deepest obsession with the path to sainthood. That was 30 years ago, beneath the 100-jang-high wall of Quancheng in the Yishui Nation. I was utterly defeated. His robot's body slammed hard into the ground, shattering the earth around it. The fading of Shu Heming's robot symbolized his inability to fight. He slammed his fist into the ground, a clear sign of his unwillingness to submit. Shu Heming's appearance had now changed. He gritted his teeth, his expression bitter. Damn it. Just as he finished speaking, 2 figures descended from above, calling down, Heming! Gu Ying and Zhu Kun were both worried about him and quickly asked how he was. Shu Heming was completely surprised by their appearance and quickly asked why they were here. They explained, when we, the 3 swords of the southern continent, became sworn brothers, we vowed not to be born on the same day, in the same month, of the same year, but to die in the same year, in the same month, on the same day. He sighed helplessly, but was deeply moved by their words, not forgetting to thank them. The 3 of them all turned their gazes toward General Wenzhong high above. In his hand, he held a large cage, imprisoning Suni inside. Gu Ying, holding a talisman, glanced at him. Second brother, let's go. Wasting no time, the 2 of them immediately unleashed their magic. Soul Star formation. Seeing this, Shu Heming warned them, Stop. The Soul General Wenzhong is not an enemy you 2 can handle. He flicked his hand, and a stream of purple magic immediately shot towards them. The spell altered gravity, slamming Gu Ying and Zhu Kun into the ground. All 3 of them were pinned flat to the ground by the magic, completely powerless to resist. Gu Ying's eyes widened, bloodshot with strain. The Soul General Wenzhong is one of the 4 great saint-level guardians of the Yishui Nation. Is the power of a saint level this terrifying? The gap between the heaven level and the saint level it's this huge. Shu Heming gritted his teeth, trying to resist. How hateful, that damn woman. On the glowing body of the robot, the image of Huang gradually appeared. She stood arrogantly above, her voice echoing down. Shu Heming, now do you understand? Diaoyan's expression was full of arrogance. Even if you are a prodigy of your generation who entered the heaven level at 30, below the saint level, you are all just ants. In my eyes, I could kill 1,000,000 mortals like you with a flick of my finger. Suni begged painfully. Please don't kill them. I'm willing to go back to Quancheng with you. I won't run away again. Just please spare them. Shu Heming could do nothing but helplessly call out her name. Suni knelt and cried out Shu Heming's name, and he called back up to her. Huang explained, Huang Suni, you are a member of our royal family, and you possess the rare 100-year innate host body. Your future is destined for the saint level. You are a vital national treasure of the Yishui Nation. Besides, the lifespan of an innate host is incredibly long. By the time these mortal ants on the ground have turned to dust, you'll likely still maintain your ageless appearance. Suni refused to listen, continuing to sob and plead, I'm begging you, please don't kill him. One of her eyes filled with murderous intent. Shu Heming, you dared to lure a daughter of our royal family away. That is a crime punishable by death, but Suni is begging for you. If I were to kill you here, I'm afraid it would leave her with a mental demon, an obsession. But these other 2 ants are a different story. How about we make a deal? If you piss off back to your Tiandu nation and swear to never step foot in our Yishui nation again, I will spare your lives. Shu Heming pulled out a knife he had hidden at the back of his waist. Seeing this, she tried her best to stop him. Gu Ying, however, was just confused about what was happening. He grabbed the end of his hair, held the knife to it, and seemed to have made his decision. Then, before anyone could react, Shu Heming resolutely sliced off his hair. He held up the severed lock of hair and declared, I, Shu Heming, swear here today that I will find the path for a mortal to ascend to saint level. Until I reach the saint level, I will not take a single step into Yishui. The day I become a saint will be the day I step into Yishui to ask for her hand. And on that day, I will teach you a lesson. Suni, there will come a day when I shatter this 100-zhang-high wall. His clear voice from that day echoed everywhere. Shu Heming's hair blew in the wind as he promised, I will get you out of this royal family's cage. She was deeply moved by Shu Heming's solemn vow, smiling happily as she replied to him, I'll wait for you. Returning to the present, his eyes blazed, snapping open to emit a strange golden light. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupted, sending dirt and sand flying everywhere, forcing Yijuxi to cover his eyes. Shu Heming's body radiated a powerful magical energy, as if he had become a completely different person. Manhwa couldn't seem to believe what was before her eyes. What's going on? This oppressive feeling? She gritted her teeth. This is the aura of a saint level. What the hell did that old geezer just eat? The robot captain struggled to stay grounded. This pressure. Don't tell me he broke through to saint level? Shang Guanyin raised a hand to shield herself from the wind. This intense, overwhelming pressure that transcends the limits of life itself is the aura of a saint. She wondered, could it be that pill young Song gave him just now? Song Yun observed from a distance. Although it surely won't last long, if the transcendent pill can allow old Shu to temporarily break through to saint level, it proves it's not impossible for a host to become a saint. The long-held belief of the Eastern continent can be broken by external force, and the gap to saint level will no longer define the limits of a spirit soul master. Relying on the few short minutes provided by one transcendent pill, old Shu still couldn't grasp the true threshold of breaking through to saint level. I'll find a chance to teach him a true transcendent technique later and see what happens. Shu Heming laughed heartily. So this is the power of a saint? Only now do I understand why that woman said everyone below saint level is just an ant. He spotted a piece of plastic on the ground, and a field of energy enveloped it. Shu Heming held out his hand, using his magic to summon the piece of plastic. It was immediately charged with electricity and flew towards him at an incredible speed. With a blank expression, Shu Heming caught the plastic, leaving everyone confused. He looked at it and mumbled, Sorry, my friend, but this power is truly beyond the limits of what you can withstand. Manhwa's limbs suddenly began to tremble before Shu Heming's strength. She screamed, Move, damn it! This cursed, oppressive feeling. I just need to interrupt him right now, but why can't I move? He began to concentrate all the magic he possessed, his entire body enveloped in a powerful golden light. Shu Heming's body glowed brilliantly as he radiated a magical aura stronger than ever before. Shu Heming transformed into a powerful robot with gleaming golden armor. His magic was so intense it sent dirt and dust flying everywhere. He couldn't help but be surprised. The power of a saint. It's actually this strong. No wonder she could be so high and mighty, looking down on all living things. So that's how she saw us back then. The memories of that year came flooding back. Manhwa started to panic, begging Shu Heming in terror, Don't come over here. Shu Heming recalled the way Huang had once struck him down, the image of the spirit-soul General Wenzhong radiating immense magic before swinging his arm decisively appeared in his mind. Then, Shu Heming swung his arm, perfectly mimicking the motion. Seeing this, Manhwa was bewildered, having no idea what was happening anymore. Shu Heming remembered the past, how brutally he'd been beaten, how many times he had fallen. Now, he would return the favor to her. Manhwa's spirit general Yi Zixie body was dragged across the ground, sending rocks flying. She was sent flying far away, crashing hard into a nearby building before she could barely come to a stop. Manhwa sat inside the cockpit, her body trembling as she cursed. She cast her magic. Heavenly Demon Disintegration Mode. Increase the power output to maximum for me. Suddenly, Manhwa froze for a moment, clearly horrified by something she saw. It turned out Shu Heming had flown up and was approaching, which startled her. He looked at his hand and whispered softly, To cut you down. I don't even need a sword. Seeing the situation was critical, Song Yun shouted to stop him. Wait, old Shu, we need her alive! But it was probably too late. He had already unleashed his magic. An enormous amount of magic erupted, shooting straight towards Manhwa. She tried to raise her hand to surrender, but she couldn't. Struck by a devastating blow, Manhwa could only scream helplessly in agony. The robot body she was controlling slowly began to dissolve into the air. It broke apart into countless small pieces that floated into the sky, like colorful butterflies. As the robot body vanished, Manhwa gradually returned to her original form, lying motionless in midair. Her body glowed, making Manhwa stand out amidst the thick smoke. Her body was suddenly lifted into the air, as if being pulled by some force. It was Shu Heming, using his magic to lift Manhwa. He suddenly felt his magic completely depleted, and his body slumped as he sighed sadly. Is this the limit? A flash of light emanated from Shu Heming as he reverted to his human form and also began to fall. Likely from overexerting himself, he knelt on the ground, gasping for breath. Manhwa also fell to the ground from that last blow. Shu Heming wondered, did that one attack consume all the power unleashed by the transcendent pill? Wufu Luo. who was hiding and witnessing the entire event from afar, cursed loudly. Damn it, how could even a saint level lose? He quickly gave an order. The operation failed. Notify the Feta robots, split up and retreat immediately. After leaving the battlefield, hide and await orders. Not hesitating for another second, he planned to get the hell out of there. But before he could act, he was surrounded and cut off by a squad of guard robots. Wu Fu Luo's accomplices were also swiftly captured, with no one allowed to slip through the net and escape. They were quickly subdued by the robots, with blades held to their necks, as docile as puppies. Under the command of the Jiwu Institute, the Tiandu army, led by the city guard, completely broke the siege here. This battle was a great victory for the Tiandu army. Song Yun stood on the roof of a building, observing the robots below. He sat inside and chuckled lightly. This vixen has pretty good timing for her entrance. After the glorious battle, the scene everywhere was one of devastation and ruin. A voice rang out from the crowd. Where's the medical team sent by the city lord's mansion? Get over here and help the wounded. The city guard dispatched people to clean up, control the prisoners, and gather evidence. Shijing bowed politely and introduced herself. Your subordinate, Shijing, pays her respects to His Highness, the second prince. Tian Zehai smiled and gestured with his hand. Director Gu, there's no need for such formalities. Please, rise. But she remained courteous. Your Highness was in a perilous situation, and this subordinate was unable to arrive in time to provide aid. I beg Your Highness's forgiveness. He didn't blame Shijing in the slightest. It's all right. Fortunately, this great battle was more startling than it was dangerous. Moreover, the expert you sent not only possesses outstanding personal combat strength and adaptive tactics, but also brought me an unexpected surprise. Tian Zehai said excitedly. She hesitantly guessed. This person is the grandson of Marquis San, Song Jingzhong, the master of Xieqi. Tian Zehai voiced his thoughts. But the power behind him is surely not as simple as just the Song family. A glint flashed across Shijing's glasses. Your Highness means? She wondered to herself. Could it be that His Highness also suspects a connection to the super-ancient civilization?